Chapter 62. Tu Qianjun greets seniors. I've long heard of Miss Qingqing's unparalleled beauty. Today I too specially came to pay my respects. Also, I heard that the elites of the younger generation of the Battle Gods Manor are all here. I too also hope to make friends with them. Pay my respects? They're probably here to snatch her? Make friends with Wu? Make friends? They probably want to give her some pointers? The few elders on the seat sneered secretly. When this brat descended, the golden light emitted from his body was the unique aura of the Duke realm, also known as the pseudo-saint realm. Furthermore, his golden aura actually reached a radius of around 1 meter. It seemed that he had the cultivation of the first level of the Duke realm. He actually released his aura and scrupulously in front of them, who were all in the saint realm. Furthermore, he relied on it to glide for such a long distance, making people feel as if he was flying over. Wasn't this clearly showing off his strength? It was also clearly slapping the faces of the young masters present. It was also to build momentum for him to snatch her. It seemed that the chances of those young masters in their clan were slim. However, Yuji beamed with joy. This brat was rather tactful and respectful to these old fellows. Moreover, he had made it clear that he was here to pursue his daughter, not to cause trouble. She also knew that this generation's saintess was more outstanding than the previous generations of saintesses in all aspects. However, she didn't expect that even the divine city, which rarely appeared, would send people to snatch her. What was this? This was glory. This was also strength. Hence she smiled brilliantly. Young master too must be the young master of the dragon-slaying divine guard of the divine city's 4 guards. You're indeed as graceful and elegant as your father. Servants, give him a seat. Elder Yuji, my father asked me to send his regards to you. There's no need to give me a seat. I have an old friend here, so I'll sit with him. Tu Qianjun smiled faintly. He turned his head and swept his gaze across the young masters. Finally, his gaze landed on xuanhuan. Young master, please take a seat. Xuanhuan had been smiling all along. When he saw Tu Qianjun looking over, his smile became even more amiable. He hurriedly stood up and lowered his head slightly, indicating for Tu Qianjun to take his seat. Tu Qianjun nodded indifferently. It seemed as if he didn't care about everyone's gazes. He walked straight to xuanhuan's seat and sat down peacefully. He lowered his head and smoothed his sleeves. He saw that the people in the vicinity were looking at him cautiously. He raised his head in astonishment and said, "What's wrong? Do as you wish. Don't worry about me, just pretend that I don't exist." Yes, yes. The people around him hurriedly lowered their heads and continued to drink, sip tea, and eat fruits. Their hands and feet were slightly trembling, and they accidentally spilled some of the wine in their hands. Those who were eating the fruits panicked and even ate the vines. Their expressions betrayed their panic and nervousness. Feng Zi and Huahua looked at each other. They could see the worry and shock in each other's eyes. This Tu Qianjun was only 27 or 28 years old, yet he already possessed the strength of a duke. This was a little too terrifying. It should be known that the two of them could be considered first-rate geniuses. At the age of 24, they were already at the 3rd level of the general realm. Coupled with their family's secret arts, their combined strength was only at the 1st or 2nd level of the martial realm. It was fine if they couldn't match up to him in terms of power. After all, the divine city's glory was built through generations of battles. If they couldn't match up to him in terms of strength, then it would be a little embarrassing. Long Shuelu was also silently drinking his strong wine at the side. He occasionally glanced at xuanhuan, who was whispering beside Tu Qianjun, and a trace of mockery and loneliness flashed across his eyes. It was obvious that he was a little envious that xuanhuan had actually made friends with a young master of the divine city. However, he also looked down on xuanhuan's flattering behavior. Of course, it was mostly because he couldn't eat the grapes, so he said that the grapes were sour. Tu Qianjuan's appearance suppressed the entire crowd. Relying on the tall mountain behind him and his astonishing strength, he descended like a deity, instantly enveloping the entire lake's light on his body. In a battle between two armies, the most important thing was momentum. Without momentum, this battle would only end in defeat. Xuanhuan didn't show any expression, even though he was a little displeased with Tu Qianjuan's attitude, which was even more arrogant than Yi Qinghuang. However, he didn't intend to carry Yu Qingqing to bed today, so he didn't feel like he was facing a love rival. However, he hated xuanhuan's flattering attitude even more than Long Shuelu. This brat usually looked like a dog, but deep down he was really a dog. Clap clap. When Yuji saw that everyone's mood had somewhat calmed down, she clapped her hands twice, and began to serve the pastries in front of the main course. Along with the clap of her hands, the door of the west courtyard opened, and 12 red-clothed women walked out. It just so happened that this red dress was very similar to the dress that they wore when they entertained xuanhuan and the others in the jadeite pavilion in the morning. The upper body was a thin tube top, and only the lower half of the white and tender beautiful breasts were covered, revealing a plump snow-white semicircle. The lower body was a gauze skirt, and under the uneven hem was a pair of perfectly straight and slender white legs. On their feet were pairs of long leather boots that covered more than half of their calves. The only difference was that today on their smooth abdomen, which didn't have any extra fat, hung a small purple bell. Snow-white skin, captivating red dress, and the purple ring around their waists. These three colors actually fused and intersected, evolving into a strange charm. The dance was somewhat similar to the belly dance of Yi Qinghan's previous life, but it was clear that no one would appreciate such a beautiful and artistic dance. They only stared with bulging eyes at the group of women, who were constantly swaying because of their twisting bodies, as well as the limitless scenery under the gauze skirt that was blown up by the wind from time to time. Yi Qinghan and the others as well as the few old fellows above were still fine. Their identity and status didn't allow them to be too out of line, but the other young masters didn't have so many misgivings. All of their eyes were bulging so much that they were actually bigger than Yi Qinghan's. Under the reluctant gazes of the crowd, the 12 women silently retreated, while the young masters were silently thinking of ways to snatch one from the Yu clan. Although the Yu clan Summer Fire Festival was mainly for the saintess to choose a man, almost every time after the matter of the saintess was settled, the Yu clan would choose a portion of the young masters with relatively higher aptitudes, strength and influence, and gift them the 12 tranquil lake women of the Yu clan. Although it was called gifting, it was actually no different from selling them. Every Yu clan woman would be exchanged for a large amount of resources and treasures. However, these young masters who managed to snatch the Yu clan women wouldn't hesitate at all. Moreover, their clans would also be willing to use a large amount of treasures to exchange for the Yu clan woman. Of course, this wasn't just because the tranquil lake women of the Yu clan were unparalleled in the world. Any man who married a tranquil lake woman would obtain the most pleasure and satisfaction in the body. It was also because if the young masters of these clans could marry a tranquil lake woman, then their clans would automatically obtain the friendship of the Yu clan. They would receive a large share of the Yu clan's intelligence, martial power and resources, until the woman died. It could be said that the reason the Yu clan women could stand tall in the House of Aries for 1,000 years was also because of this marriage alliance policy. Oh, so that's how it is. This marriage alliance policy was thought up by the genius of the Yu clan. How brilliant. Yi Qinghan exclaimed in admiration as he understood many things he didn't know before from Feng Zi's soft explanation. Feng Zi nodded as well. Her eyes were filled with admiration. The founder of the Yu clan, the Moon Queen. A miraculous woman who made the ancestors of the 4 great clans, the Wind Lord, the Flower Empress, the Snow Marshal and the Night Emperor fall head over heels for her. Back then, her martial power and cultivation reached the peak of the Sage Realm, half a step into the Divine Realm. According to the clan's records, this woman naturally rejected the 4 great ancestors. She walked into Silver Moon City alone and created the Yu clan. Stop talking. The dishes are about to be served. You have to perform well later. I'll cheer for you. Yi Qinghan saw Yu Ji raise her hands and clap her hands again. He knew that Yu Qingqing was about to go on stage. He quickly nudged Feng Zi and looked behind Yu Ji. Hearing this, Feng Zi immediately straightened her body and sat up straight. She looked forward very seriously. As Yu Ji clapped her hands lightly, the sound of a guzheng rang out from West Court. She was playing an unknown song. Not many people present understood this. They only felt that the sound of the guzheng was like the whispering of young girls at first. It was pleasant to listen to. Then the tune changed rapidly like the torrential rain in summer. Water droplets fell onto a jade plate. It was very crisp. Then, it changed to the sound of an ancient spring in the mountains flowing between the cracks of a rock. It was very pleasing to the ear. Finally, it changed to the sound of an armored horse's blade. It made people's blood boil. Even though everyone present was uncouth, they were gradually moved by the pleasant sound. For a moment, their hearts felt very ethereal and very peaceful. In the end, when the sound of the guzheng turned into the sound of a blade, everyone felt like they were in a battlefield of 10,000 people. Their blood boiled. Buzz. Just as everyone's blood was boiling, the sound of the guzheng suddenly stopped. Everyone looked in the direction of West Court in surprise. They saw a peach-colored figure floating out from West Court. The peach-colored figure was a woman. She wore a peach-colored palace dress, and her face was covered with a peach-colored silk scarf. There was even a bright peach blossom on her head. The woman had a sword in her hand. Her left hand was held diagonally below, and her right hand was in front of her. She held a small and exquisite guzheng in her hand. She leaped down from the sky. Her palace dress flapped in the wind, making her look like a fairy from beyond the heavens. It was unknown whether it was because of the strong wind or the woman's own will, but when the woman landed on the ground, the peach-colored silk scarf on her face actually fluttered with the wind, revealing a devastatingly beautiful face. Her black pearl-like eyes contained a smile that was both charming and seductive. Her delicate nose was tall and straight, and the corners of her small mouth were slightly raised. Her red lips were slightly parted, inviting people to kiss them. Below her slender white neck, there was a piece of white jade that was half covered and half covered. When it contrasted with the peach-colored palace dress, it was so soul-locking. Her white waist was actually so small that it couldn't be grasped. Her entire person was like a fairy that had fallen into the mortal world. She made people feel that she couldn't be profaned, that she couldn't be violated. However, she was also invisibly attracting people, making them want to profane her, to go on top of her. This kind of feeling was extremely contradictory. Normally, no one would wear a peach-colored dress that was unique, and no one dared to wear it because peach-colored clothes gave people a very tacky feeling. But today Xianxia dared to wear it and she wore it. Moreover, she even wore an even more tacky peach blossom. It was just that, after today presumably no one present would dare to say that peach-colored clothes were tacky. At least Xianxia was not ordinary. Not only was she not ordinary, but that faint peach-colored color on her graceful figure, coupled with her devastatingly beautiful face, gave people a feeling that she was so attractive, so ecstatic, so fatal. Peach blossoms were poisonous. They could topple cities, could topple countries, and could even poison people to death. Chapter 63. The lady with peach blossoms stood there quietly. Her eyes glowed and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly, revealing a faint smile. Then she placed the zither on the ground. Her 5 slender and elegant fingers danced wildly, emitting a few clanging notes. The long sword in her left hand formed a flower and she actually began to play and dance. She played a hurried and rhythmic marching song. Although there would be occasional breaks as she played and danced, the special reverberation of the zither didn't make people feel that there was a break. Instead, they felt that the rhythm was different and it was very dynamic. The dance was a sword dance and it was very good. Sometimes it was hard, sometimes it was soft. Furthermore, everyone present was an expert and could see that the swordsman wasn't a pretty one. Aside from being pretty, one could see the formless murderous aura that accompanied the sword dance. The sword was a killing weapon, a yang weapon of extreme yang. The woman was a beauty, a woman who was as gentle as water. But today the combination of the beauty and the sword was actually so perfect. Accompanied by the clanging sound of the zither, everyone felt as though they were on a battlefield filled with corpses. A peerless woman who had lost her lover was killing people with a sword. Moreover, the way she killed people was so beautiful and moving. The sword dance ended and the song also ended. However, the young masters were still immersed in that moving scene just now. It was like a dream or an illusion and they were intoxicated. Only when Xianxia bowed slightly and returned to Yuji's side to sit down did everyone suddenly come to their senses. They applauded in unison. Lady Xianxia can topple a nation. This trip of Qianjuan's was not in vain. This dance can raise a great white. Two Qianjuan's eyes sparkled. He picked up a large cup of wine on the table and shook it at Xianxia. He raised his head and laughed as he drank it. His actions and tone were extremely elegant and flawless. Xianxia smiled faintly and nodded without saying anything. Lady Xianxia's sword dance is unparalleled in the world. No one in the world can compare to you in playing and dancing at the same time. This dance should raise a large jar. Fengzi hurriedly stood up and said, not to be outdone. She raised a large jar of wine and drank it all in one go. She didn't stop at all and drank it all without leaving a drop. Seeing that Fengzi didn't even gasp for breath after finishing a jar of wine, Huahua and Long Shuelu, who were about to raise their cups, were dumbfounded. This lunatic is indeed a lunatic. How can we endure this? We can't possibly offer 2 jars, right? In the end, they didn't raise their cups anymore. Instead, they picked up their teacups and shook it in a toast. They said a few polite words to express their admiration for Xianxia. After that, the young masters took turns to express their praises. They praised Xianxia's performance to the point that there was nothing in the heavens that was unparalleled on the earth. Although their words were different, their purpose was the same. They were all expressing, we admire you very much, we cherish you very much, we want you very much, we are willing to marry you and treat you like a treasure, we hope that you will pay attention to us, consider us, we are not bad, and so on. Xianxia nodded faintly and smiled in response. Finally, her gaze stopped on xuanhuan, who was happily eating the pork roasted on the bonfire. Her eyes flashed with a hint of as expected. After a moment of silence, he raised his head and said coldly, "Young Master Han, why didn't you express your opinion? Is Xianxia's performance so unworthy of a single word from you?" Xianxia was very beautiful and her dance was also not bad. Xuanhuan also wanted to praise her. But since Xuanhuan had promised Feng Zi and the others, he had to at least do some superficial work. Otherwise he would break his promise. And if he broke his promise now, Xuanhuan was afraid that Feng Zi and the others would also break their promise and cause trouble during the residence battle. In his heart, his sister's life was naturally the most important. Therefore, when he was dancing with Xianxia, he focused his attention on the golden pork roasted on the bonfire. At this moment, he naturally wouldn't follow the others to flatter her, even though the buttocks of this horse were really not bad. Not bad. Feeling Xianxia's cold gaze as well as Feng Zi and the others' covetous gazes, Xuanhuan raised his head slightly and said. He then continued to focus his attention on the roasted pork. It seemed that this pig looked more delicious than Xianxia. Not bad? What did that mean? All the young masters looked at Xuanhuan, who was engrossed in his battle with the pig, with a variety of expressions on their faces. This was the first time Xianxia had spoken today, but this young master didn't feel excited or flattered. But he actually said, "Not bad," in such a perfunctory manner? After he finished speaking, he continued to eat, not even looking at Xianxia. Not to mention that Xianxia was devastatingly beautiful, her dance today was really not bad. Just the fact that Xianxia was the Yu clan's saintess, with such a noble status, he still had to say a few perfunctory words to her. Today Dongfang Dao and young master Nangong Chang wanted to recognize him as their master. They originally thought that this young master was very fierce, but they didn't expect that he was even more fierce, to the point that he didn't even care about the Yu clan's saintess. Dongfang Dao and the others looked at each other and laughed, giving Xuanhuan a thumbs up. Meanwhile, Feng Zi, Hua, and the others were all beaming with joy as they repeatedly raised their cups. They naturally knew why Xuanhuan was like this, and now it seemed that this brat was really interesting. He kept his promise and was a good brother. Tu Qianjun also looked over with a smile, a trace of interest in his eyes. He whispered a few words to xuanhuan beside him, then glanced at Xuanhuan a few times, then silently looked at Xianxia and didn't say anything. Xuanhuan didn't care about the gazes of the crowd, nor did he care about the warning look Xianxia gave him. Instead, he slightly tilted his head and said to Feng Zi beside him in a low voice, "What are you giggling for? Hurry up and perform well. Do you know what it means to gain the upper hand by a show of strength?" "Thank you, good brother." Feng Zi slapped his forehead and stood up. He let out a light cough to attract everyone's attention. He wriggled the two bulging muscles on his chest and said in a carefree voice, "Today is Miss Xianxia's coming-of-age ceremony. I, Feng Zi, am not talented, so I will also perform a few sword dances to celebrate." Although he said it was a sword dance, Feng Zi didn't reach out to hold the sword. Instead, he made a strange gesture. He stretched out his index and middle fingers of his clenched fists and leisurely swung them forward. With a sword hum, the huge sword on his back suddenly unsheathed and turned into a beam of white light that flew straight into the sky. Then his fingers quickly changed. The huge sword twisted a few times in the air, turned around and fell straight towards the bonfire. When it was about to touch, Feng Zi quickly changed his gesture again. The huge sword actually made a circle around the bonfire, pierced through a suckling sheep, and flew towards Xianxia. It flew to the table in front of Xianxia and stopped. After shaking a few times, the suckling sheep was actually split into 7 or 8 pieces and fell onto the jade plate on the table. After this was done, Feng Zi withdrew his hand gesture and the huge sword returned to its sheath. Only then did he say with a satisfied smile, "I've made a fool of myself, Miss Xianxia. This roasted suckling sheep is a small token of my appreciation." "Young noble Feng, thank you." Xianxia smiled and nodded in thanks. At the same time, the young noble next to her gave Feng Zi the middle finger in his mind. "You're playing so big right from the start. You only used your Feng clan's ultimate sword control technique. How can others play later? Plus, even if you want to please Xianxia, you don't need to use the big guy that you kill people to make a living to cut meat." "Old man Feng, not bad. Your brat's sword control technique has probably reached the 6th level." Xianxia whispered to the Feng clan's supreme elder on a square table above. Yuji also nodded with satisfaction and said, "Small area control is already very good." With the power of a third-level general, I'm afraid even a first-level marshal can't beat him. Feng Zi's talents are considered the best in your Feng clan in the last 100 years. His future is limitless. Where? Compared to the descendants of your clans, I still have to work harder. The Feng clan's supreme elder said humbly, but his face was full of joy. Ah, my brat is ready to go. Let's see what special performance he has. The Hua clan's elders smiled and drew everyone's attention to the field. Seeing that Feng Zi got the first prize, Hua was a bit unhappy. He stood up and nodded at Yu Qingqing. He said, I'm also here to join in the fun. I'll give Miss Qingqing a mysterious gift. Saying this, Hua slowly walked toward the field. His steps were very elegant and light. However, as he walked, his body slowly became blurry in front of everyone and finally disappeared. Stealth? Everyone was shocked and changed their expressions. They had heard of the Hua clan's stealth technique, but they didn't expect Hua to disappear in front of everyone. If he sneaked up to them and stabbed them, wouldn't they die? The only young people who didn't change their expressions were the descendants of the 4 great clans, Long Xuelu and Tu Qianjun. Long Xuelu had seen this before, so he didn't panic. Tu Qianjun didn't have any expression, but his eyes revealed a trace of contempt. It seemed that he didn't care about this kind of small trick. Of course, the few supreme elders in the field wouldn't be shocked, nor would their expressions change. Although Hua's stealth technique was quite good, under the powerful cultivation of the Saint Realm, it was equivalent to not being invisible at all. Hua left very quickly and came very quickly. After everyone opened their eyes wide and looked around for a moment, Hua finally appeared. However, he directly walked toward Yu Qingqing. He held a purple rose in his hand and walked with strange steps. His speed seemed very slow, but a series of afterimages appeared behind him. In the field, 3 Hua appeared. Hua held roses in his hand and walked over with a smile on his face. The scene was extremely strange. Finally, the afterimages disappeared and Hua stood in front of Yu Qingqing. He bowed sincerely and said, Miss Qingqing, may your beauty be like this bouquet of roses that will never wither. Thank you, young Master Hua. Yu Qingqing still had an indifferent expression. She extended her lily-white hand and took the purple rose. He had even used the afterimage clone technique to pick up girls. That transvestite actually used such an awesome escape technique to put on a show. Everyone shook their heads and secretly decided that they wouldn't embarrass themselves later. Anyway, the descendants of the 4 great clans, Long Xuelu, and a young master from the Divine City were there. Even if they thought about it, they wouldn't have any hope. It was better to think about how to snatch one of the 12 elite girls from the Yu clan. Chapter 64. After the strange performance of the beautiful ladyboy Hua, the atmosphere suddenly turned cold. Although all the young masters had fantasized about showing off their skills today, using their unique temperament and unique style to win the heart of the beauty, and finally returning home with glory and beauty, all the young masters had fantasized about showing off their skills today, using their unique temperament and unique style to win the heart of the beauty. However, under the abnormal special skills of the Feng family and the Hua family, as well as the performance of Feng Zi and Hua, everyone felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. They were completely sober and they were also shocked. Obviously, Long Xuelu didn't want this to happen, so he casually made his move. His battle aura turned into a palm, holding a cup of top-notch perfume named Poison, that he had spent a lot of money to buy, and he flew towards Yu Qingqing. Long Xuelio's move had indeed shocked everyone present. It should be known that battle aura was just an external release of energy. It was easy to use energy to kill and destroy enemies, but to materialize battle aura into a real palm, even if it could only hold a bottle of perfume, one would need to be at least in the Emperor realm. However, it was a pity that he hadn't managed to completely learn Palace Master Long's famous consummate skill, the Dragon Capturing Hand. Palace Master Long's Dragon Capturing Hand was extremely powerful. With Palace Master's strength at the peak of the Saint Realm, if he used the Dragon Capturing Hand, not to mention the Saint-level Azure Dragon, he would definitely be able to capture the 8th-level Tyrant Dragon. He would be able to easily throw it around like it was a broken jar. Long Xuelio's battle aura was naturally not a problem for him to kill enemies with his battle aura. However, if he wanted to materialize battle aura into a real palm, hold a bottle of perfume and fly it for more than 20 meters, it would obviously be a little difficult. Therefore, when this palm flew, it would occasionally shake a little, and there was even one time when it almost fell. In the end, Long Xuelu was covered in cold sweat and his face was pale. Only then did he deliver the bottle of perfume to Yu Qingqing. Looking at the faint smile in everyone's eyes, Long Shuelu knew that he had really made a fool of himself this time. After that, some young masters seemed to feel that there was still hope, and used their last bit of strength to fight. They all went up one after another, each displaying their own unique skills. For a moment it was very lively and brilliant. On the other hand, there were only 3 people who should have made a move but didn't. One of them was the dazzling young master of the Divine City, Tu Qianjun, who rode on a winged dragon. The other one was Xuanhuan, who was sitting respectfully beside Tu Qianjun. The last one was Yi Qinghan, who had silently finished off the suckling pig and started to wipe out the fruits on the table. It seemed like Tu Qianjun wanted to make the last move and suppress everyone with his skill. However, Xuanhuan looked like a slave. He sat respectfully beside Tu Qianjun. It seemed like he didn't want to make the first move. On the other hand, Yi Qinghan didn't seem to be interested at all. It was as if he felt that the beautiful lady on the table was not as delicious as the plates of fruits on the table. The last young master's childish performance didn't garner any enthusiastic applause. The rest of the young masters finally recognized a fact. The ultimate skills that they were so proud of were so lowly and childish in front of the 5 clans and the Divine City's young masters. Therefore, they decisively expressed their silence and gave up. They didn't want to embarrass themselves and make a fool of themselves. Wu Hen, don't you want to go up and play? Tu Qianjun swept a glance at Yi Qinghan. He had been eating fruits with his head lowered. It seemed as if he would never be full. Tu Qianjun raised his eyebrows after he confirmed that no one else was going up. Young master is here. What is Wu Hen going to do? Make a fool of myself? Xuanhuan shook his head and said. His tone was a little respectful, a little flattering and a little humble. Tu Qianjun let out a long laugh. He proudly stood up and coldly swept his gaze across everyone. His eyes didn't have the same look of interest as before. Instead, he looked down on everyone. It was as if he was a high and mighty king looking down on a group of ants. He looked down on everyone for a while. Then he coldly said when everyone was a little impatient, "Ha! Indeed, you'll only make a fool of yourself if you go up. Since they've already made a fool of themselves, I'll just casually put on a show to liven things up for Lady Qingqing." Tu Qianjun finished speaking. Everyone except for Xuanhuan and Yi Qinghan's complexion changed at the same time. This was a slap to their faces. This was a naked slap to their faces. What did he mean by, "I've already made a fool of myself"? What did he mean by casually put on a show? The complexions of the older generation didn't look good either. Slapping the faces of their descendants was equivalent to slapping their old faces. You've come from the Divine City, and your strength is very heaven-defying. But you should at least leave some face for us old fellows. Yu Qingqing's complexion didn't change after hearing Tu Qianjun's incomparably arrogant words. She looked at Yi Qinghan, who was still eating grapes without the slightest change in expression. Then her complexion became a little richer. Her black pearl-like eyes flashed and she instantly smiled. Then she used an unprecedentedly sweet and soft voice to say, "Young Master Tu, please. Qingqing will wait and see." Feng Zihua and Long Shuelio's complexion changed completely. They became a little deathly gray and looked very unsightly. Today was the Summer Fire Festival. It was the day that Yu Qingqing would choose her man. Strength, influence, and performance were all fake in this bonfire party. The most important thing was Yu Qingqing's attitude, because the final decision was still in her hands. Originally, when they were performing, Yu Qingqing's attitude was always lukewarm. But now, Tu Qianjuan's performance had not even started, and Yu Qingqing had already expressed her attitude. One could imagine what this meant. Since Miss Qingqing wants to see, I'll also learn from them and perform a few acrobatics for you to watch. Tu Qianjun looked at the blackened faces of Feng Zihua and the others. He seemed to find it very interesting and continued to mock them. As soon as he finished speaking, the expressions of the old fellows sitting in the seats of honor, except for Xue Fei, all changed. Acrobatics? When did the unique skills of the great clans become acrobatics? The expressions of the Feng and Hua clans' Grand Supreme Elders were the worst. Yi Qingyo and Yu Ji's expressions were not very good either. The 5 great clans were of the same breadth and branch. Humiliating one clan was equivalent to humiliating all 5. And now, it was very obvious that Tu Qianjun had actually humiliated all of them. Us old fellows are looking forward to young Master Tu's performance. The Feng clan's Grand Supreme Elder spoke. His tone was full of anger. Elder Feng, there's no need to be angry. I don't mean to question your clan's imperial sword technique. I just feel that the disciples of your clan don't seem to be using the imperial sword technique very well. It just so happens that I have also learned 2 moves of the imperial sword technique. Elder, please appraise them. Tu Qianjun smiled faintly. It was as if he did not see Feng Zi's true purple face and his explosive muscles, as if they were really going to explode. He just casually waved his hand and did the same action as Feng Zi just now. Following his hand gesture, the meat cleaver in front of him actually trembled strangely. Then, under the astonished gazes of everyone present, it soared into the sky. Then it elegantly danced in the sky. Finally, it imitated Feng Zi and fell straight down. It pierced through a suckling pig and flew to the sky above Yu Qingqing. Once it was in the sky, the meat cleaver suddenly sped up and turned into an afterimage. It continuously shuttled through the body of the falling suckling pig. Finally, it landed at the same time as the suckling pig and stabbed diagonally into the body of the suckling pig. Huh! All the young masters looked at the suckling pig on the table that was as good as before. They also looked at the meat cleaver that was stabbed into the suckling pig and was constantly shaking. Although they were a little shocked that Tu Qianjun actually knew the Feng clan's unique skill and that he seemed to be dancing very elegantly, they still had some doubts in their hearts. Didn't you say that Feng Zi's imperial sword technique wasn't very good? What did Feng Zi say? He was able to use a huge sword to cut the suckling pig into 7 or 8 pieces. Yet after dancing for so long the suckling pig was still intact? Young Master Tu's imperial sword technique is indeed brilliant. Feng Zi admits defeat. While everyone was still puzzled, Feng Zi stood up and swayed. His face was ashen as he spoke in a deep voice. Pa. As soon as Feng Zi finished speaking, the meat cleaver stopped swaying. The suckling pig was like a blossoming flower. It split open from the middle and was divided into countless evenly sized pieces. Then it was steadily placed on the plate. Young Master's skill is divine. Wu Hen admires you. Xuanhuan stood up and cupped his hands respectfully as he spoke. The passion in his black and gray eyes was very obvious. Looking at the dozens of evenly sized pieces of suckling pork on the plate, listening to Feng Zi's sincere words, and looking at Xuanhuan's respectful posture, all the young masters were shocked once again. However, there were too many shocks today. All the young masters felt a little numb. The things that they were proud of and glorious in the past, in front of Feng Zi and Tu Qianjun's performance, became extremely childish and laughable. As a result, they developed a deep sense of defeat and a faint sense of inferiority. It was to the extent that they didn't even know that Tu Qianjun had suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. They didn't notice, but Yi Qinghan, Hua Mu and Feng Zi were very sensitive and discovered it. They looked at each other and revealed an expression of disbelief and extreme shock. What situation was this? Tu Qianjun actually knew the Hua clan's stealth? What was stealth? It was the Hua clan's unique skill. The Hua clan was the descendants of the Thorn God. Only those who possessed the Thorn God's bloodline could learn the stealth skill. Furthermore, Tu Qianjun had just revealed the Feng clan's unique imperial sword technique. Since when did the unique skill of the 5 big clans become so worthless? Everyone could learn it? Could it be that the people in the divine city were also descendants of the ancient gods? And they had all the bloodlines of the 5 ancient gods? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He couldn't understand it no matter how he thought about it. Finally, he looked at Yi Qingyo, who was at the top of the seats. Feng Zi and Hua Mu also looked at the grand elders of their clans. There's no need to be surprised. The people in the divine city are all descendants of the ancient gods. I'll explain the specifics later. The unique skills of the 5 big clans that they know are all imitations. They might seem good at the beginning, but in the later stages, their power and destructive power will be very different. Yi Qingyo and the few grand elders passed on the information to answer their questions. However, seeing that Tu Qianjun was using their clan's unique skill to sweep across their faces, they felt very uncomfortable and their faces darkened. Young Master Tu disappeared? At this time, the people present finally realized that Tu Qianjun had disappeared. They all looked around, their faces full of confusion and disbelief. Although their abilities were the weakest among them, Tu Qianjun had actually disappeared right under their noses. This was too terrifying. After a while, Tu Qianjun finally solved their doubts. He suddenly appeared on the stage, holding a bunch of red roses that were a few times bigger than Hua Mu's. It was the same stealth and the same afterimage clone technique, but his stealth seemed to be more thorough than Hua Mu's. His afterimage clone technique was actually more than 10 meters long, and the number of clones was more than double that of Hua Mu's. Miss Qingqing, I think that red roses represent love more. Isn't that right? Tu Qianjun stood elegantly in front of Yu Qingqing, holding a big bunch of red roses. His body leaned forward slightly, and his face was full of confidence and a proud smile. Young Master Tu is very considerate. Yu Qingqing reached out and took the red roses. She looked at xuanhuan, who had his head lowered and seemed to be thinking about something. She opened her mouth and smiled. Her neat white teeth, tender red lips and intoxicating smile made everyone's heart skip a beat. Tu Qianjun swept his gaze over all the young masters below. He was very satisfied with their shocked and frustrated expressions. He waved his hand in a confident and unrestrained manner and said with a smile, "Hee, these are just some small tricks. Since young Lady Qingqing likes them, I'll show you one more trick and give you a small gift. I hope you like them." Small tricks. Faced with Tu Qianjuan's naked humiliation, Feng Zi and Hua Mu remained silent and lowered their heads slightly. Although their elders had already explained it to them, they still couldn't accept that they had lost to an outsider in the consummate skill that they were so proud of. Long Shuilio's expression was a little bad, but he was still slightly better. He even felt a little proud. At least he hadn't been slapped in the face, so he felt like the pot calling the kettle black. However, in the next moment, his face turned completely ashen. He saw a hand, a huge palm. At this moment, a huge palm flew towards the outside of the field. Closely after that, it caught that huge pterosaur and threw it into the open plain. Dragon catcher hand. Tu Qianjun actually knew the dragon catcher hand, and it looked like he was using it very well. Although the winged dragon definitely wouldn't resist its master. However, such a huge winged dragon was actually caught by him from such a long distance. A small palm was holding a bottle of perfume, and it was flying unsteadily at such a close distance. Furthermore, a single person was able to grab a winged dragon so quickly and steadily. Even a blind person could see that the dragon catcher hand was like heaven and earth. They weren't on the same level at all. Evidently, compared to Feng Zi and Hua Mu, Tu Qianjuan's slap in the face seemed to be more severe and thorough. This little worm doesn't have any special use. It can only bring people flying. I'll give it to Miss Qingqing as well. You can play with it when you're free, Tu Qianjun said indifferently as he retracted his hand and placed it behind his back. Chapter 65. The open space of the Tranquil Lake Island was very lively, noisy, and interesting. The Tranquil Lake Summer Fire Festival that happened once every 15 years had become even more interesting because of the appearance of a young master. Not only was this young master's strength outstanding, he definitely had the strength of the top 3 on the Earth list. Furthermore, he seemed to be omnipotent. He was very familiar with the ultimate skills of the Feng family and the flora and fauna ancient gods. Even the famous ultimate skill of the Divine War Abode's #1 expert, Manor Master Long, seemed to be executed beautifully by him. He was also very generous. He could easily give away a level 7 magical beast, the pterosaur, which was rare even among the 5 families. Most importantly, he came from the Divine City. The Divine City was undeniably the holy land in the eyes of the people of the continent. It had protected the 3 clans of the continent for thousands of years, allowing countless people to live and work in peace and contentment. Countless people didn't need to worry that war would happen to them. The city on the high and mighty Divine Mountain had played the most important role. Today, the young masters from various places in the House of Aries finally had the opportunity to see the elegance of some people from the Divine City. They weren't disappointed. Whether it was in terms of temperament, grace, or strength, he suppressed all the young masters present, and many people were convinced. Didn't you see that the Shui family's young master, who was usually high and mighty, was like a dog in front of him? All the young masters were very excited. They were happy that they could see the peerless elegance of the Divine City's young masters. They were secretly happy that the Divine City's young masters had the ability to suppress the usually high and mighty descendants of the 5 families. They naturally thought that only the Son of God from the Divine City was worthy of the goddess-like fairy up there, and only he could possess her. This was too much. Looking at the big guy in front of her full of ferocity and arrogance, Qingqing knew that she had gone too far. Tu Qianjuan's gift was a bit too much. Qingqing was in a dilemma. A level 7 magical beast, the Divine City's special mount. This was not a small gift. Accepting his gift was equivalent to admitting that she was leaving with Tu Qianjun. Originally, Qingqing saw that xuanhuan had been acting like this and didn't care about her at all. She wanted to anger him and provoke him a little. It had always been her unconvinced mentality of a little girl causing mischief. At this moment, he realized that he had gone a little overboard, so he didn't know how to end the situation. Young master too is considerate. Such a big guy, even if you give it to the Yu clan won't be able to raise it. Young master, you should keep it first. If Qingqing chooses you in the end, it won't be too late to give it to her then. In the end, it was Yu Ji who expressed her stance and solved Yu Qingqing's problem. If it was Yu Ji who said this, there would naturally be no problem. If it was Yu Qingqing who said it, there would naturally be a problem. Therefore Tu Chinjun nodded his head and didn't force him too much. He put away the winged dragon and happily chatted with Shui Wuhan. Some people were happy and some people were unhappy. Feng Zi's face was gloomy. Flowers and grass were silent. Long Shuilio's handsome face seemed to be a little twisted. Yi Qinghan was still eating his fruit silently. His meaning was obvious. It's none of my business. I will definitely not get involved in this matter today. Old Nyo, you have to get back your face today. Although the Grand Elder didn't seem to have any change on the surface, he was secretly transmitting his voice to the Grand Elder. His tone was somewhat displeased and dissatisfied. Old Nyo asked your kid to go show off. Didn't you say that your kid is very awesome? Don't you want this girl, Qingqing? The Grand Elder of Flowers and Grass also transmitted his voice over. Yi Qinghan drank his tea silently. His bulging eyes glared at the two of them, and then coldly swept a glance at Yi Qinghan, who seemed to have fallen asleep at the side. Originally he was still anxious about why Yi Qinghan wasn't going up to show off. Now it seemed that this kid was very smart. And now the Feng clan and the Hua clan's elders were transmitting their voices. It was very obvious that they wanted to drag the Yi family down with them. He wasn't an idiot. Of course he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Young Master Han, you have to get back your face. Feng Zi's face was gloomy for a moment, then he came over and said in a low voice. Flowers and Grass ears twitched, and his beautiful eyes quickly turned a few rounds. He also came over and said, That's right, brother. You have a lot of ideas. Help us get back some face. We, the 5 great clans, are of the same branch. Slapping our faces is also slapping yours. Yi Qinghan spat out a melon seed, grabbed another one and continued to eat. He didn't even look at Feng Zi or Flowers and Grass. Only when the two of them couldn't wait any longer and were about to repeat their request and emphasize their clear intentions did he say indifferently, What does it have to do with me? Isn't Shui Wuhan from the 5 great clans? Ask him to go up. This kind of scum, I'm blind. Feng Zi glanced at Shui Wuhan, who was talking and laughing with Tu Chenjun, and revealed an expression of disgust. In the future, there will only be the 4 great clans in our generation. I won't acknowledge that dog, Flowers and Grass said coldly, as if Shui Wuhan's behavior had completely hurt his feelings. Oh. Yi Qinghan's eyes revealed a smile. He didn't understand why Shui Wuhan would obviously join Tu Chenjuan's side when he saw him. Moreover, he was acting so pretentiously, which made people uncomfortable. As long as Feng Zi and Flowers and Grass didn't die prematurely, they would definitely be leaders. Why was Shui Wuhan like this? And the old man from the Shui clan seemed to be silently agreeing with his behavior? However, he was very satisfied with Feng Zi and Flowers' attitude. Shui Wuhan had sent people to kill him, and he was the real culprit who had left his sister lying in the back of the mountain. He had to kill this person. Now that he saw Feng Zi and Flowers' attitude, he was even happier. Therefore, he laughed happily, then shook his head and said, I promised the 4 of you that I wouldn't do anything today, and I'm a man of my word. Feng Zi and Flowers could hear what he meant, and their eyebrows twitched at the same time. This guy was so strange. Did he really have the confidence to help them regain some face? Therefore, the two of them said very seriously, Young Master Han, of course you're a man of your word. We're begging you this time so we can't take it as you going back on your word. Hee, I promised the 4 of you and the 4 of you promised me one thing too. Yi Qinghan spread his hands indicating that he couldn't do anything. He didn't want to be stabbed in the back during the residence battle just to help them regain some face. The 2 of us definitely agree and Long Shuilu will obviously agree too. But that traitor Humph. Feng Zi said gruffly. She was in a difficult position. It seemed that Shui Wuhan wouldn't agree. She was in a difficult position. Yu Qingqing was also in a difficult position. Tu Chenjun had the upper hand but now no one was performing. They seemed to have given up on competing with the young master from the Divine City. Perhaps it was because they were all descendants of the 5 great clans, which made her feel a sense of solidarity against a common enemy. Or perhaps it was because Tu Chenjuan's performance today was too strong and arrogant. Therefore, she didn't have much interest in this high and mighty young master from the Divine City. However, if no one else continued to perform, she really didn't know how to end the situation. Therefore, when she inadvertently glanced at the black figure again and saw him spread his hands helplessly, she felt a little angry in her heart. After a moment of silence, her pair of black pearl-like eyes revealed a hint of agility. She coughed lightly and gathered everyone's attention on her. Then she said faintly, What? Young Master Han seems to feel that young Master Chenjuan's performance just now wasn't very good? Yu Qingqing's words successfully shifted everyone's attention to Yi Qinghan. Looking at everyone's interested gazes as well as Tu Qianjuan's ice-cold glance, Yi Qinghan meaningfully looked at Yu Qingchen. It seemed as if he was blaming Yu Qingchen. It felt as if Tang Seng was looking at the great sage affectionately and saying, "Wukong, you're being mischievous again? Young Master Han, of course he doesn't like it. How can young Master Han's talent be guessed by ordinary people? Moreover, he also wants to show off, but he's worried that Shui Wuhan and young Master Shui won't agree?" Feng Zi's eyes brightened as soon as Yu Qingqing's words fell. She hurriedly stood up and said with a big grin, "Oh, Wuhan, what's the matter?" Tu Qianjuan's eyes flashed coldly as he asked Shui Wuhan in a low voice. Shui Wuhan laughed and hurriedly explained in a low voice, as if he didn't care about the disgusted looks from Feng Zi and Hua Hua. "If that's the case, agree to him. I want to see what tricks he can play." Tu Qianjun snorted coldly and said disdainfully. Yu Qingqing's black pearl-like eyes turned and understood many things. She couldn't help but feel even more furious at the black figure. This also made her even more determined to humiliate Yi Qinghan. Thus, she said in an even more resentful tone, "Why doesn't young Master Shui agree? There's no such thing." After receiving Tu Qianjun's instructions, Shui Wuhen stood up in a heroic manner. He then turned his head to look at Yi Qinghan. Then he said with a faint smile, "Since young Master Han also wishes to display his incompetence, Wu Hen will wait and see. Young Master Han, do your best. Don't worry about the rest." Long Shuelu stood up at this time. It was obvious that he was telling Yi Qinghan, "Go ahead, I'll support you for the time being." Tu Qianjun had thoroughly slapped him in the face, making him temporarily forget that Yi Qinghan had knocked him out with a punch. He stubbornly believed that it was a duel, and that his skills were inferior to Yi Qinghan's, so he lost. It wasn't particularly shameful. Moreover, Dragon Fifth had told him that Yi Qinghan had also held back at that time. Otherwise he would have lost his life. Therefore, when faced with the current situation, he immediately stood up and supported Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan performed well, then it would help him regain some face. If Yi Qinghan didn't perform well, then he could also vent his anger from being knocked out by Yi Qinghan. It would be a win-win situation, so it would be a waste not to do it. "Little Han, if you're confident, then go up and do it. This brat is making me, old ox, very unhappy." Yi Qingyo's voice immediately rang in Yi Qinghan's ears. Yi Qinghan awkwardly rubbed his nose and sighed deeply. He stood up, stretched his body comfortably and yawned lazily. After attracting enough attention, he leisurely said, "You're right, you're right. I've always believed that the Yu Clan Summer Fire Festival choosing men through the performances of the young masters is a very wrong way of doing things. It's a bit like a beautiful female monkey asking a group of male monkeys to dance a flirtatious hula dance. Depending on which monkey danced well, it would decide which monkey could sleep on its bed at night." Yi Qinghan's opening sentence caused an uproar among the crowd. Many people in the crowd spat out a mouthful of wine at the same time. His words offended almost all the young masters who had performed, including the goddess-like young lady Yu Qingqing. Feng Zi and Hua Hua lowered their heads in embarrassment, but they were cursing in their hearts. Meanwhile, Tu Qianjuan's expression didn't turn gloomy because of Yi Qinghan's words. Instead, he looked at Yi Qinghan with interest as if he was looking at a very interesting toy. Yu Qingqing's beautiful eyes narrowed. This brat was too hateful. Every time he opened his mouth, he would say words like, choosing a man, and sleeping with him. He even compared her to a female monkey. Although he said it was a beautiful female monkey, it was still unforgivable. Yi Qingyo's mouth was wide open from laughter. This brat was pleasing to the eye no matter how he looked at him. This aura, this sense of humor, he was as flirtatious as when he was young. The rest of the Grand Elders were also slightly stunned, and they shook their heads in unison. Seemed like Yi Dao's son was even more of a hooligan and wanton than Yi Dao in the past. Yu Ji lowered her head and pondered. She seemed to be thinking deeply about the deep meaning behind Yi Qinghan's words. Looking at everyone's unfriendly gazes, looking at Yu Qingqing's angry eyes, looking at Tu Qianjuan's interested expression, and looking at Shui Wuhan's mocking expression, Yi Qinghan laughed mischievously. Without waiting for everyone to fly into a rage, Yi Qinghan leisurely walked out. He rubbed his hands and continued, "Of course, this comparison isn't appropriate. In fact, I think that your performance just now was even uglier than a monkey's dance. Don't deny it first. I think that the way men fight over a woman can actually be divided into two types. The first type is pure martial strength. Everyone fight in the arena, and then fight an elimination match. Isn't that more direct? And I personally think that the things passed down by your clan's ancestors aren't for you to perform, but to kill your enemies on the battlefield, and to save your life in the face of death. The other type is pure artistic performance. Although, I don't think there's such a thing as artistic in this world. However, everyone think about it. The martial strength that you rely on to survive and fight is actually used for performance. The martial strength that you rely on to survive and fight is actually used for performance, and other than showing off your strength and special skills, as well as feeling good about yourself, what else is there in your performance? That's why I feel that your performance is inferior to a monkey's dance. No matter what others are dancing is pure art. It's not like the abstract performance of a monkey's dance that was passed down from your clan's supreme martial strength. I really don't feel comfortable watching it. And I'm a person who likes to be more direct and say whatever is on my mind. Of course, the young masters here are all elites, and their hearts are as broad as the ocean. I think everyone won't mind. I've already talked big today. If I don't perform a bit, I reckon that you won't let me off. So, I'll just perform a dance to liven things up for everyone. Of course, it's a very pure hula dance. Chapter 66. This guy has a sharp tongue and is quite eloquent. But he's only at the first level of the general realm? An 8th grade beast? His strength is nothing much, it's a pity. Tu Qianjun smiled coldly as he shook his head and said to xuanhuan, who was standing beside him. Compared to you, he's obviously worthless. It's just that this brat has some tricks up his sleeves. Wu Hen had secretly suffered some losses from him before. Xuanhuan smiled slightly. His tone and expression were both respectful, without the slightest flaw. He's only a flea that can jump high, it's nothing much. If you can survive this battle, you can go to the divine city and follow me from now on. Tu Qianjun was very satisfied with xuanhuan's attitude. He looked at the fervent look in his eyes and said indifferently, Thank you, young master. Hearing Tu Qianjun's words, xuanhuan's eyes emitted a fervent light. He was extremely excited and was about to kneel down to Tu Qianjun to express his respect and gratitude. Unexpectedly, Tu Qianjun waved his hand casually. He could only stand up embarrassedly and stood behind Tu Qianjun even more respectfully. Looking at xuanhuan, who was still speaking with fervor and assurance, xuanhuan's lips curled into a mocking smile. His body trembled slightly and his fingers turned white from clenching his fists, expressing the excitement in his heart. He met Tu Qianjun by chance 10 years ago when he was traveling outside. At that time, Tu Qianjun was still a 15 or 16-year-old playful child. He often escaped from the divine city to play. Coincidentally, he discovered Tu Qianjun's identity, so he started to curry favor with Tu Qianjun secretly. He often brought him out to play, fawned on him everywhere, and satisfied all of his requests. Today he finally received Tu Qianjun's reward. He finally had the chance to enter the tall divine mountain and enter the divine city. Of course he was extremely excited. Although he entered as a subordinate or even a servant, he didn't regret it. On the contrary, he was extremely ecstatic. This was because he had accidentally learned a huge secret from Tu Qianjun, a secret that could change his fate. Only by entering the divine city could he reach the heavens in a single bound, change his fate, and obtain a huge opportunity. The monkey is going to dance. Hearing Tu Qianjun's cold words, xuanhuan immediately withdrew his thoughts. He looked at xuanhuan, who was standing in the middle of the arena. He was extremely curious in his heart. How would xuanhuan perform? Could it be that he would bring out his beast and perform a monkey show? It's starting. The young masters stopped their discussions and turned their attention to xuanhuan, who was standing in the middle of the field. They wanted to see how this arrogant young man would react. Xuanhuan walked to the center of the field lazily. After whetting everyone's appetite, he did not make his move immediately. Instead, he suddenly made a special move. His body shook and he raised his head. His spine suddenly became straight and he put his hands behind his back. His expression was solemn and there was a hint of vicissitudes in his life. His eyes gradually became deep, and his eyebrows inadvertently furrowed slightly. It was as if a young warrior had turned into a middle-aged poet in dire straits. Xuanhuan's instantaneous change in temperament had indeed shocked everyone. His ability to change his expression was too fast. Furthermore, he was acting as if it was really the case. Bring the wine. Just as everyone was secretly sneering, Xuanhuan suddenly shouted. He maintained his original posture, but he stretched out his hand and waved it towards Feng Zi's square table. Feng Zi chuckled and lightly patted a jar of wine on the table with one hand. The wine jar flew steadily towards Xuanhuan. Not a single drop of wine spilled on the table, nor did it explode. Xuanhuan did not turn his head. It was as if he had eyes on his back. Before the wine jar touched his hand, he turned his palm into a claw. He easily grabbed the wine jar, leaned back slightly and gulped down mouthfuls of wine. Under the illumination of the moonlight, the colorless wine turned into a lustrous white. At this moment, the lustrous white wine spilled out from the wine jar and flowed down violently like the Milky Way. It flowed into Yi Qinghan's mouth, onto his face, onto his clothes and onto the lawn. Instantly, the strong fragrance of the wine filled the entire space. "Ah, the good wine. Bring me my sword." When the wine jar was almost finished, Yi Qinghan let out a long laugh. With a wave of his hand, he flung the wine jar towards Feng Zi. Then he pointed at Dugu Jian, who was behind his square table. Dugu Jian smiled. He picked up his sword with his left hand and slapped the hilt with his right hand. His silver longsword shot out like a bolt of lightning, heading straight for Yi Qinghan's face. At this moment, Yi Qinghan seemed to be a little drunk. His body swayed slightly, but he continued to look at the sky with narrowed eyes, as if he did not notice the sharp sword shooting straight at him. His body swayed just enough to let the silver sword slip past his face. Then he reached out with one hand. His movements seemed slow, but he firmly grasped the hilt of the sword. Then he took a small step forward and raised the sword above his head. He reached out with his other hand and grasped the scabbard, slowly pulling it open. Clang! The gorgeous silver scabbard was pulled out in an instant, revealing the dazzling blade. The sword was 3 feet long and 4 fingers wide. Under the moonlight, the cold blade glowed with a cold light. He casually flung the scabbard into the ground, sinking about 3 inches into the soil. Yi Qinghan reached out with his finger and slowly slid it across the silver blade. His eyes were focused and affectionate, as if he were looking at the woman he loved. Everyone present quieted down. It was as if Yi Qinghan's series of actions had brought them into a strange scene. In the Fire Dragon continent, literature and art had never been valued. Therefore it had never been developed. This was the first time they had seen such a performance. It was novel, exciting and also a dreamy feeling. Yi Qinghan paid no attention to everyone's expressions. He only stared intently at the sword that was raised in mid-air. It was as if the sword was the only thing left in his world. After a while he suddenly moved. He held the sword in his right hand and stabbed it forward. His body quickly followed and he quickly flicked the sword a few times. Then his body suddenly stopped and he suddenly shouted, "Watching the sword by the lantern while drunk." After saying that, his body quickly danced again. He danced like a fast sword. His movements were clean and neat and extremely gorgeous. As he danced, he used a special rhythm to sing, "Watching the sword by the lantern while drunk. Dreaming of returning to the Horn Camp." 800 miles away, the sound of 50 strings flipping over the walls, the soldiers on the battlefield in autumn, the sword danced faster and faster. Then it gradually slowed down. However, it was a blur in everyone's eyes. The seemingly slow sword could only be seen flashes of white light. At this moment there was a sudden change in the scene. The wind started to blow on the tranquil lake island. The whistling summer wind made everyone's robes flutter. However, everyone was immersed in Yi Qinghan's novel and unique sword dance and blood-boiling poem. They didn't notice anything. However, the few old sage realm fellows in the seats of honor seemed to have sensed something. They frowned and looked around. The horse moves as fast as lightning. The bow shakes like a thunderbolt. Accomplishing the king of war's affairs, winning fame in life and death. What a pity. With Yi Qinghan's slow and fast recitation and the flashing sword dance, the wind grew stronger. While no one was paying attention, the concentration of the heaven and earth spiritual chi on the tranquil lake island reached a terrifying level. Perhaps after a while or perhaps after a long time, Yi Qinghan slowly came to a stop. Amidst the crisp sound of the sword, Yi Qinghan held the sword with one hand. He raised his head slightly and closed his eyes as he stood there quietly. Strangely, the sudden gust of wind that blew on the tranquil lake island also disappeared without a trace, as if it had never happened. The entire place was so silent that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Looking at the young man standing alone in the center of the field, that young and inexperienced face filled with vicissitudes of life, and the majestic melody that no one had heard before echoed in their ears, everyone fell into a deep silence. The sudden gust of wind and the inexplicable strange atmosphere in the field made everyone feel as if they had experienced a fantastic and magical journey. It was as if they had arrived at an ancient battlefield. Everyone had transformed into a warrior, wielding their swords and killing without leaving a trace. Unfortunately, in the end they were defeated, and the entire army was annihilated. They were left standing alone on the battlefield with their hair gradually turning white. Yuji widened her eyes and looked around with a solemn expression. It was as if she was carefully sensing the difference in the surroundings. The few Grand Supreme Elders looked at each other and saw a trace of surprise and shock in each other's eyes. Tu Qianjun stared blankly at the sky. No one knew what he was thinking. Xuanhuan squinted his eyes slightly. Fengzi and Huahua opened their mouths wide. Long Xuelu licked his lips. Dugu Jian and the other four were filled with excitement. The young master's blood was boiling, and their faces were as red as the first tide. Yu Qingqing's eyes were blurry and rippled with extraordinary splendor. Watching the sword by the lamp when drunk, blowing the horn in my dream to link the camp. Everyone felt as if a young man was caressing the sharp sword and falling into a drunken sleep. Then, when they woke up at dawn, they heard the majestic horn sound from all the military camps. The first two lines were filled with emotions and emotions. 800 miles away, the sound of 50 bowstrings flipping over the wall, the soldiers on the battlefield in autumn. Everyone felt as if they had arrived at a battlefield where tens of thousands of people were fighting. They saw the mighty military camps with axes and halberds standing upright and pointing to the sky. Flags fluttered, and the soldiers' armor shone brightly. Coupled with Yi Qinghan's swift sword that was as fast as the wind, the hot-bloodedness hidden in the depths of everyone's hearts was completely stimulated. The horse gallops as fast as lightning, the bow shakes like a thunderbolt. Accomplishing the king's affairs, winning fame in life and in death. The last part of Yi Qinghan's sword dance was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, and the tune was also sometimes high and sometimes low. It made people reminisce about the soldiers' invincible heroic spirit, which was still fresh in people's minds. Before and after death, they left behind the good name of building an immortal country for the nation. The words were filled with patriotism and passion. These two lines meant that the poet saw that he had achieved success and was proud of himself. Thus he cheered happily. Even the tune was relaxed and majestic, raising the emotions of the lyrics to the highest point. And the last line, pity happened in vain. The tip of the pen suddenly changed, causing the emotions to plummet from the highest point. It expressed the infinite emotion of not being able to fulfill one's ambition. It revealed the sharp opposition between ideals and reality, and expressed the grief and indignation of having the heart to serve the country, but having no way to go. The whole poem was covered with a strong sense of sadness. This line echoed the first line, both describing the feelings of real life. It formed a strong contrast with the dream in the middle, and powerfully expressed the grief and indignation of having the ambition to serve the country. A brand new sword dance, a tune that no one had heard before, a poem that made people's blood boil and filled with emotion. The cadence of the recitation matched with the bewitching sword dance. Although there were many parts of the poem that the audience did not understand, and some of the words did not understand the meaning, it did not hinder the audience from appreciating this performance. It did not hinder the shock and baptism in the depths of their souls. They did not know why, but their hearts felt intoxicated as if they were in a dream. After a long time, it was unknown who gave the first applause, but a moment later the applause was like a surging tide. They had never thought that a man's sword dance could be like this, and that a man could also sing. Moreover, he could sing in such a way that resonated with people's hearts. Tu Qianjun nodded and came back to his senses. Then he started to clap lightly. Although the light in his eyes was still arrogant, there was also a faint hint of admiration in it. Yuji sighed slightly. Her expression was cautious and she did not clap. Instead she pondered for a long time. Suddenly she stood up and walked in front of Yi Qinghan with quick steps. She bowed respectfully and said respectfully, "Young Master Han is very talented. Yuji has danced for dozens of years and has also taught for dozens of years. Only today did I realize that I was a frog at the bottom of a well. This old one is ashamed. Yuji is willing to take young Master Han as her teacher, and follow by your side. I hope that young master does not dislike me." Chapter 67. Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. He stared blankly at the beautiful middle-aged woman in front of him, looking into her sincere and longing eyes. He did not understand what had happened. He had not planned to appear today. Just as he had said, this performance was no different from a monkey dance. However, Tu Qianjuan's powerful performance and his undisguised slap to the 5 great clans made him very displeased. Thus, he casually imitated a famous sword dance from his previous life to break the ice. However, he did not know whether it was because of the beautiful scenery of Tranquil Lake Island, or because he had recalled the events of his previous life and the white-clothed woman at the back mountain of the Yi family, or perhaps because he had drunk a jar of wine that made him slightly tipsy. The more he danced, the more intoxicated he became. The more he sang, the more passionate he became, to the point that he himself sank into it. In the end, after he finished his performance, he was still immersed in his dream. Then he was awakened by Yuji's sincere words. He knew that the beautiful middle-aged woman in front of him was actually old enough to be his grandmother. He also knew that Yuji was the Yu family's grand elder and one of the two saints of the Yu family. However, he did not know why this expert, who was on equal footing with Yi Qingyo, wanted to take him as her disciple just because he sang a very ordinary song and danced a very ordinary dance? Yi Qingyo and the others were also dumbfounded. They looked in disbelief at Yuji's sincere face. After confirming that she was not joking, they all fell silent and sank into deep thought. They thought of the sudden gust of wind just now and seemed to have connected something. Tu Qianjun was also dumbfounded. He looked seriously at Yuji for a while and also fell silent. The light in his eyes continued to shine. Although he did not understand what had happened, he had acutely sensed that the spirit qi of heaven and earth above Tranquil Lake Island had become much thicker. Moreover, the gust of wind just now seemed to confirm a certain guess in his heart. He began to narrow his eyes to observe the changes in the scene. Feng Zihua and the other young masters were also dumbfounded. They did not know what had happened. Didn't he just dance and recite a poem? Although they also felt that the dance was not bad and the song was very interesting. Even the grand elder of the Yu family had gone to take him as her disciple, right? Yu Qingqing was stunned as well. She silently looked at Elder Yuji whom she respected. She actually wanted to acknowledge a junior as her master? Then she seemed to have thought of something. She thought of that strange gust of wind just now, and a dazzling light burst forth from her eyes. At this moment, a voice transmission suddenly rang in her ears. She listened carefully and after a moment of silence she suddenly stood up and said in an unusually determined tone, "Young masters, I hereby announce the end of this summer fire festival. This time I have chosen only one guardian and he is Yi Qinghan." Hearing the determination in Yu Qingqing's melodious voice, looking at her peerless face and pearl-like eyes, Yu Qingqing's heart sank. Except for a few old fellows, everyone present was once again collectively dumbfounded. The Yu clan's Tranquil Lake Island Summer Fire Festival was held once every 15 years. They were very cautious and serious every time. Furthermore, the saint would always choose 2 guardians for the Summer Fire Festival and observe them for 3 years before deciding who would be the saint. This rule had been passed down for countless years without exception. It was just that the previous generation's Saint Yu Yeno was deeply infatuated with the peerless elegance of the Yi clan's genius, Yi Dao. She actually broke the rule and chose only one person. In the end, Yi Dao didn't become the saint's son-in-law. Instead, he fell in love with Yu Shui, a popular artist in the Yu house. He abandoned the Yu clan's saint and lifelong guest elder position and returned to the Yi clan with Yu Shui. In the end, the saint Yu Yeno lived in seclusion and passed away quietly. Now, it seemed that Yu Qingqing was going to break this rule again. Not only did she end the Summer Fire Festival early, but she also personally announced the result that the man she chose was Yi Qinghan. Why weren't the young masters stunned? How could they not be shocked? Although Yi Qinghan was a disciple of the Yi clan, his strength was not bad. However, among the young masters present, there were obviously a few whose reputation and strength seemed to be higher than his. Most importantly, Tu Qianjun was a young master of the Divine City. No matter how one looked at it, Tu Qianjun was more outstanding than Yi Qinghan. Now, there was actually a dark horse. Yu Qingqing chose Yi Qinghan and even removed the position of the other protector. This completely severed everyone's hope. There wasn't even a trace of hope left. This poisonous peach blossom had bewitched everyone and made them infatuated. Now, this peach blossom actually bloomed early and it bloomed because of one person. Was it because that person performed a rather interesting dance? This reason was obviously not sufficient, and it couldn't convince everyone. Therefore, xuanhuan obviously expressed his dissatisfaction. He carefully looked at Tu Qianjuan's gloomy face and stood up. He closed the folding fan in his hand and frowned. He cupped his hands and said, "Young Lady Qingqing, isn't this decision a little too rash? I think it's better to be cautious with such a decision." Yu Qingqing, who was wearing a peach blossom and a peach-colored palace dress, knew that there would definitely be people who would oppose and question her decision. However, she didn't expect that the first one to speak was actually xuanhuan, who had been low-key for the whole night. Furthermore, his high-profile appearance wasn't for himself, but for Tu Qianjun who was beside him. A trace of disgust flashed through Yu Qingqing's heart. Furthermore, it was displayed on her face without any concealment. She coldly said, "Young Master Xue, are you lecturing me?" Once Yu Qingqing's words left her mouth, xuanhuan's complexion changed. Even Xue Fei, who was sitting at the head of the table, looked a little pale. Meanwhile, Yuji continued to stand beside Yi Qinghan and pretended not to have heard anything. Xuanhuan saw that Yu Ji's complexion was the same as before, but Tu Qinjuan's complexion was getting worse. Yu Qingqing's pearl-like eyes were coldly staring at him, waiting for his reply. He could only summon up his courage and awkwardly said, "I don't dare. It's just that I feel that it's better to ask your clan's elders for such an important decision." "This decision. I have considered it very carefully." After a moment of silence, Yu Qingqing faintly said, "As for the elders' opinions, I can tell everyone that I have just received a sound transmission. The meaning of this sound transmission is exactly the same as my decision. And the person who sent this sound transmission is our Yu clan's clan leader. I think everyone should be satisfied with this explanation." Yu Qingqing's words were like a bomb that exploded in the field. The Yu clan's clan leader had always been elusive and rarely appeared in front of the common people. However, her peerless beauty and peerless strength, as well as her charming techniques, had been circulating in the House of Aries for a very long time. Today she actually sent a sound transmission to Yu Qingqing. It seemed that this clan leader valued Yi Qinghan very much. Qingqing is right. The clan leader has also sent a sound transmission to me. Moreover, I also support Qingqing's choice. Everyone, I'm sorry. Yu Ji, who had been silent all this time, suddenly opened her mouth. She looked at Tu Qianjun with an apologetic expression. Her words completely severed the last remnant hope in his heart. Since it's like this, Qianjun will take his leave. After Yu Qingqing announced the result, Tu Qianjun remained silent. Now that Yu Ji had spoken, he knew that there was absolutely no hope for him today. He looked coldly at Yi Qinghan, seemingly unable to conceal the jealousy and resentment in his eyes. After he finished speaking, he directly leaped onto the winged dragon. Then he looked deeply at Yu Qingqing, smiled coldly, and commanded the winged dragon to soar through the sky. "Yunyang, please invite all the young masters and elders to the Moon Lodge to have a good rest and entertain them well." After Tu Qianjun soared through the sky and left, Yu Ji once again ordered to arrange for all the young masters to leave the Calm Lake Island. It was the same for every summer fire festival. Once the summer fire festival ended, apart from the man chosen by the Holy Maiden, no one else was allowed to stay on the Calm Lake. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan, who was standing quietly in the field, with complicated expressions. Some were envious, some were jealous, some were resentful, and most of them were puzzled. However, since their master had already given the order, it wasn't appropriate for them to ask too much. They could only think of a way to snatch one of the 12 Calm Lake girls. "Young Master Han, congratulations. You're very good, brat. Although I'm very jealous and resentful of you, at least the fertile water didn't flow to the divine city. I'm still very happy about this." Feng Zi walked out with a cup of wine and stood in front of Yi Qinghan. She raised her head and drank it in one gulp. Her expression was a little lonely and disappointed. "No need." Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly and pushed Feng Zi's body away. He looked at Yu Ji and said very seriously, "Elder Yu Ji, you've forgotten something? I don't think you've asked me, the person involved, for my opinion. I didn't agree to be your clan's son-in-law." Chapter 68. Ugh. Everyone who was just about to leave suddenly turned their heads as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight when they suddenly heard this. They blinked their big eyes trying to see if Yi Qinghan was drunk, or if he had a fever and was talking nonsense. Seeing Yi Qinghan's incomparably serious expression, everyone knew that he was actually serious. "Stinking brat, what did you say?" Ever since Yu Qingqing announced the results, Yi Qingyo had been grinning from ear to ear. Just a moment ago he was still chatting with the Feng clan elder. When he suddenly heard Yi Qinghan's words, he glared at her, his eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets as he angrily rebuked her. Yu Qingqing blushed when she heard this. Yi Qinghan's sword dance today made her think that Yi Qinghan's previous actions were all to loosen the reins only to grasp them better. Today he came out to perform because he liked her. Therefore, when she received the patriarch's voice transmission, she disregarded her girl's modesty and resolutely stood out. She said those embarrassing words in order to move Yi Qinghan's heart even more. Who would have thought that at this moment Yi Qinghan actually acted out the scene of Yi Dao rejecting Yu Yan'er in front of her? How could she endure this? When Yu Ji heard Yi Qinghan's incomparably serious words, she couldn't help but recall that 15 years ago, Yi Dao also rejected Yu Yan'er in the same way. Like father, like son. A Yu clan girl owed a Yi clan when she was born? She sighed inwardly, thought for a moment and said, "That's right, it was my negligence. But why did young Master Han reject? Is Qingqing not good enough? Young Master Han doesn't like it?" "Grand Elder, this is Qinghan's private matter. I hope you won't interfere." Yi Qinghan first cupped his hands at Yi Qingyo and said with a resolute tone, Then he looked at Yu Qingqing with some guilt and turned to Yu Ji. Elder Yu Ji, Xuanhuan has no intention of offending the Yu clan's dignity. Moreover, young lady Qingqing is very good in all aspects and is worthy of the name Qingqing. However, Yi Qinghan already had a fiancé, so forgive me but I can't agree. As he spoke, Yi Qinghan let out a deep sigh. He raised his head and looked at the southern sky. It was as if he could see through the stars and see the weak, white-haired, white-clothed woman lying on the bed. Brat, when did you get a wife? Nonsense. Yi Qingyo's eyes seemed to bulge even more when he heard this. However, halfway through his words, he saw the desolate expression on Yi Qinghan's face and seemed to think of something. He stopped his outburst and paused for a moment, then rubbed his head and continued, even if you want to marry Yi Qingyu, you can also marry Yu Qingqing. Feng Zi and Huahua also rolled their eyes. In the Fire Dragon continent, even a normal man with a bit of money would have multiple wives, let alone their status. This excuse was too lousy. Wife, fiancé? That's the only reason? Yu Ji looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. She thought to herself, even if you want to reject, you have to find a reason. In the Fire Dragon continent, the strong were respected. It was normal for a man to have multiple wives. So she immediately said, it's all right. Qingqing, I think she won't mind. Also, I think that if you marry Yu Qingqing, it will be very important for your future career development. I think your fiancé at home will also agree to this marriage. Am I right, Elder Green Bull? Yu Qingqing was originally embarrassed and angry, but seeing that Yi Qinghan did not seem to be lying, and seeing Yi Qinghan's desolate expression as he looked up at the starry sky, it seemed to have touched a certain soft spot in her heart. She was no longer angry. Instead, she looked hopefully at Yi Qinghan, waiting for his explanation. Her black pearl-like eyes were shining, and her cherry lips were slightly open. Her pitiful expression made people unable to bear to hurt her. Yi Qinghan saw everyone looking at him, like a tiger watching its prey. He knew that if he did not give an explanation today, he would not be able to leave this calm lake island. He somewhat admired his father Yi Dao. Back then he rejected Yu Yener's offer to leave the calm lake island. He touched his nose and thought for a moment. Then he looked up at Yu Qingqing and Yu Ji. Elder Yu Ji, Miss Qingqing, I really don't know how to explain. Let me put it this way, my fiancé almost died because of me and she's still unconscious right now. She's still waiting for me to use a type of treasure to save her. My beloved woman is still in a deep sleep. Do you think I will be in the mood to marry again? To have another romance? Furthermore, Lady Qingqing and I are not familiar with each other yet. It can be said that we have no feelings for each other. I am not familiar with her personality, and she does not understand my situation. It is unfair for both of us to get together in such a hurry. A marriage without love will never be a happy one. Yi Qinghan's words stunned everyone. They looked at Yi Qinghan's serious expression and Yi Qingyo's lowered head and sighed. In the end, everyone believed that Yi Qinghan really did have a fiancé who was in a coma at home. They also felt admiration for his persistence. However, towards the latter part of Yi Qinghan's words, all the young masters raised their middle fingers in their hearts. Feelings, love? Was there such a thing? In the minds of the men of the Fire Dragon continent, the feelings and love of a woman were all nurtured in bed. Wouldn't a man treat a beauty like Yu Qingqing as a treasure if they slept with her? Wasn't love something that came out of nowhere? However, Yi Qinghan's novel words had a completely different feeling in Yu Ji and Yu Qingqing's ears. Looking at Yi Qinghan's deep eyes and feeling the emotions from this little man's heart, Yu Qingqing's initial admiration for Yi Qinghan completely turned into the ignorant heart of a young girl at this moment. Yu Ji was like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. The more she looked at Yi Qinghan, the more satisfied she was. This man was willing to reject a beauty like Yu Qingqing for the woman he loved. His temperament was rare. As for love and feelings, she had always believed that once a woman of the Yu family married over, the man's heart could only revolve around her. With Yu Qingqing's seduction arts and the skills she had learned to serve men since young, she believed that no man would not fall under her skirt. If that's the case, I don't think this is a problem. What do you think? Yu Ji pondered for a while and came up with a compromise. If you want to save your fiancé, we won't object. Furthermore, our Yu family will do our best to help you achieve this goal. But, you have to promise me, give Qingqing a chance and also give the Yu family a chance. You two get along well. If your fiancé is cured and you two get along well, then you two get married. How about that? Feng Zihua and Long Shuelu looked at each other, each of them seeing deep jealousy and envy in the other's eyes. They had encountered similar situations before. Some small families had done the same thing in order to form a marriage alliance with them. Only, when did the Yu family's saintess become so worthless? Giving a woman to Yi Qinghan and still afraid that Yi Qinghan wouldn't want it, they still had to coax Yi Qinghan. Not only did they offer very generous conditions, they even sent their daughter to dress Yi Qinghan for a period of time. They clearly said if you like it then you can keep it. If you're not used to it it's fine, you can just return it. Little sister Yuji, how can we do this? Sigh. This little brat, it's all because we didn't teach him well. Old brother feels guilty. Yi Qingyo rubbed his hands and said with some embarrassment, but he couldn't hide the smile in his eyes, causing the two old men from the Feng and Hua families to almost explode. Like this? Yi Qinghan also rubbed his hands, but he was truly embarrassed. He looked at the peach blossom with some shame and said very sincerely, "This is very unfair to young lady Qingqing. What virtue does Yi Qinghan have to make the Yu family treat me like this?" The moment Yi Qinghan said this, the surrounding young masters all booed. This brat was too good at pretending. Did he want everyone in the Yu family to kneel and beg him? They had seen shameless people, but they had never seen someone so shameless. Feng Zihua clenched his fists. If not for the Grand Elder being present, he would have already rushed up to beat him up. Cough, cough. Yi Qingyo coughed rapidly and kept winking at Yi Qinghan. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was unmoved, he was so angry that he stomped his feet. Yu Qingqing looked at Yi Qinghan's sincere eyes and felt a sense of tenderness in her heart. She didn't seem to think that Yi Qinghan was pretending and acting at all. She had been trained to serve men since she was young and how to read their expressions. She didn't feel that Yi Qinghan's words were from the bottom of his heart. Furthermore, her current mood was that if Yi Qinghan's acting skills were so superb, she would rather be deceived. So she bit her lip and said softly with a red face, "I am willing." Yi Qinghan lowered his head helplessly. He couldn't be so heartless to a beauty who was treating him like this. If he still dared to refuse such conditions, he would definitely be beaten into a pig's head by everyone present. After thinking for a moment, he ignored the murderous gazes of the crowd and rubbed his chin. He spoke again in embarrassment, "I am very confused. Although I am very outstanding, it is not enough for the Yu family to treat me like this. Can you tell me the reason?" The young masters once again booed in unison. Shameless, so shameless. However, they were still very curious. Just what did the Yu family see in Yi Qinghan? Forgive me for keeping this a secret for now. You will know in the future. Yu Ji and Yu Qingqing looked at each other and said with a smile. Then she smiled slightly and looked at Yi Qinghan coquettishly. She said in a soft voice, "Have you considered the matter of taking me as your master just now? Of course you are extremely important to the Yu family." Yu Qingqing also smiled and said in her heart. Seeing Yu Ji move to Yi Qinghan's side like a child, she smiled even more happily. The peach blossom on her head seemed to bloom even more brightly with her smile. Chapter 69. The silvery moon hung high in the night sky. Although it was already late at night, the entire Ecstasy City was still bustling with noise. This was a city without night. City center Moon Tower. All the young masters and great elders were politely escorted here by the Yu family to rest. The summer fire festival was over. Other than the Saintess's guardian, no man could stay at the tranquil lake. This was a rule left by the founder of the Yu family, the Moon Queen. The Yu family had followed it for generations, and this time was no exception. The Moon Tower was divided into 3 parts, covering an area of dozens of hectares. It was said that there were 9,900 rooms inside. The front yard was used to entertain guests from all over the world. The middle yard was made up of 9 pavilions of different sizes, used to entertain distinguished guests. The backyard was where the manager of the Moon Tower lived. The Moon Tower was the top entertainment place in the entire House of Aries, or rather, the entire continent. The front yard took up 2/3 of the Moon Tower, with 3 floors and 9,000 rooms. Every day, thousands of guests came from all over the world to spend their semen and crystal coins here. This brought a steady stream of wealth to the Yu family. The Yu family was undoubtedly the wealthiest among the 5 major families. Yi Qinghan sat quietly in one of the pavilions, listening to the manager of the Moon Tower explain the situation of the Moon Tower in detail. He looked calm on the surface, but he was secretly speechless. Tonight he did not stay on Tranquil Lake Island. Instead, he followed the crowd to the Moon Tower. It was not that he was pretentious and did not want to sleep on Yu Qingqing's bed, which all men on the continent wanted to sleep on. In fact, he was just like any other man. He could not resist the temptation of the poisonous peach blossom. In Barbarian City, he went to the bed of that coquettish lady boss without any hesitation. However, he felt that Yi Qingyu had been sleeping in the Yi family's back mountain for him. Now that he had gone to someone else's bed after leaving the Yi family, He would definitely not forgive himself. Moreover, the peach blossom was indeed poisonous. He was afraid that he would never come down from that bed. Therefore he left in a hurry and went to the moon tower. The Yu family treated him very well. The pavilion was only opened when the Yu family received their most respected guests. The decorations inside were the best in the continent. Xuanhuan secretly glanced at them. Even the chamber pot behind the screen was carved out of jade. Yunyang had accompanied him all the way here, and had even introduced the situation of the Yu clan to him along the way. Presumably, the higher-ups of the Yu clan had already given him a position as a guest elder. "Young master, let's rest here tonight. If you need anything you can just call the maids outside. They will satisfy all your requests." Yunyang's expression was respectful, and her attitude was very respectful. She knew how much her family valued the youth in front of her, so when it came to etiquette she could not be picky at all. "Alright, sorry for troubling you, Yunyang. Go and do your work." Xuanhuan smiled and nodded, indicating that he was satisfied with her service. Yunyang bowed again and retreated. The room returned to silence. Xuanhuan scratched his head and sat on the tea table. He poured 2 cups of tea and said to the person behind the screen, "Elder Azurox, since you're here, come and have a cup of tea." A tall figure walked out from behind the screen. As he walked over, he constantly complimented the decorations in the room. His mouth made clicking sounds as he sat in front of Xuanhuan without any trace of politeness. He picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. His face was full of enjoyment as he said, "Good tea, good tea. Only the Yu clan can afford to drink this dragon saliva tea. I, Old Ox, have only drunk it a few times in my life. I didn't expect the Yu clan to treat you like ordinary tea. You're really lucky, brat. Old man, will you die if you don't brag? With your status you think you can't even drink this lousy tea?" Xuanhuan rolled his eyes. He had always held a grudge against the old fogies of the Yi clan. He had originally planned to go to Dragon City to participate in the Elite Academy tournament, but he didn't expect that these old fogies would arrange for him to participate in the Tranquil Lake selection without his consent. Of course he had some resentment. Now that he was sitting alone with Xuanhuan, he naturally expressed the resentment hidden in the bottom of his heart. "This time I arranged for you to come to the Tranquil Lake without your consent. It was my fault, but I also did it for the good of your sister. With the support of the Yu clan, the chances of waking up your sister will increase by quite a bit, and it will also be of great help to your future development." Xuanhuan rubbed his hands and laughed mischievously. "You're so sure that I'll be chosen?" Xuanhuan snorted coldly. He lowered his head and drank his tea, glancing sideways at Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan laughed mischievously. He was in an extremely good mood, and his wrinkled old face was flushed red. "At first I thought that you only had a 1/3 chance, but then 2 Chenjun came and I thought that you had no chance at all. But who would have thought that you, brat, would have such a trick up your sleeve? Not bad, not bad. Little Han, well done. You have to know that being able to obtain the position of guest elder of the Yu clan would be extremely beneficial to your future growth. If that idiot father of yours had chosen the Holy Maiden, that brat wouldn't have died on the god-slaying mountain. If my father had chosen Yu Yener, I wouldn't be here now." Xuanhuan rolled his eyes again. He lowered his head and pondered for a while, then suddenly raised his head and asked, "Why did the Yu clan choose me? Don't say that my sword dance was very coquettish or anything of the sort. I want to know the real reason." Seeing Xuanhuan's serious expression, Xuanhuan stopped laughing and thought seriously for a while. He frowned slightly and said, "I don't know the specific reason, but do you remember that when you were performing that sword dance you, brat, were actually able to draw upon the spirit chi of heaven and earth? Do you remember that sudden gust of wind? At that time I was completely silent and didn't know anything that happened outside. I only know that I performed that dance very comfortably. My whole body was very relaxed and my mind was very calm and serene. It seemed that I was in a very good state." Xuanhuan also frowned and tried hard to recall what happened at that time. Xuanhuan rubbed his round head and became all smiles again. He said, "That's the feeling. I don't know what kind of dog shit luck you have, brat. Did you know that at that time, you entered the state of soul silence that all martial artists dream of? A martial artist's first layer of cultivation is physical cultivation, which includes the tempering of battle chi and the internal body. The second layer is soul cultivation. Of course, with your current strength your soul is too weak. Basically, your soul can improve along with your battle chi. However, once you enter the Emperor realm, your soul must cultivate alone, and soul cultivation is extremely difficult. When you performed that sword dance on Tranquil Lake Island, Your mind was completely silent and drew upon the spirit chi of heaven and earth. This is an extremely rare state. The martial artists of our level call it the state of soul silence. As long as you can enter this state often, your cultivation will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Furthermore, the most important thing was his soul. In this state, his soul cultivation would increase at a rate that was 10 times faster. The Yu clan attaches great importance to soul cultivation, and all of their special techniques are based on the soul. Why do you think the Yu clan values you so much? Soul cultivation? The Yu clan's seduction technique? Xuanhuan was a bit confused and blurted it out subconsciously. *T. The Yu clan's special technique is a spiritual attack, and they are most famous for their illusion attacks. Back in the day, the Moon Queen's illusion could make experts at the peak of the Sage realm directly commit suicide. The Moon Queen was the only martial artist at that time who could enter the state of soul silence. Her soul cultivation could be said to be at the peak. The Yu clan's seduction technique is just something that the younger generation of the Moon Queen created to make money. You have to remember, in the future, you have to try your best to enter the feeling you had when you were dancing on Tranquil Lake Island. That state will be correct. This time, you have only been in there for a short time, so you might not be able to feel the benefits to your cultivation. You will understand in the future. Remember, you have to try more and try to find a way to control this state. You have to be able to control the state of soul silence. With the help of the Yu clan, you will be the second Moon Queen or even surpass her. Xuanhuan stood up and said cautiously. His eyes did not seem to hide the admiration and love he had for Xuanhuan. Tranquil Lake Island, North Court. In an elegant room, Xuanhuan looked respectfully at a white figure in front of her. Her eyes were filled with respect and adoration. The white figure's back was facing Xuanhuan, leaving behind a curvy back and a head full of black hair. Xuanhuan, I want you to choose Xuanhuan. You won't blame me, right? The white figure did not turn around. He only spoke lightly. His voice was cold, but it was very pleasant to the ears. Clan leader, of course Xuanhuan won't blame you. Actually, among so many young masters, only Xuanhuan has a special characteristic that can attract Xuanhuan. Xuanhuan is very satisfied with this ending. Xuanhuan lowered her head and pondered for a moment. Suddenly she raised her hand. Her black and shiny eyes flashed, and a hint of gentleness appeared at the corner of her mouth as she spoke softly. That's good. I can tell you that in the entire continent's thousands of years, Xuanhuan is the second person to enter the soul silent state. The Moon Queen said in her last words that she entered this state for the first time in her 30s. And how old is Xuanhuan now? This child's future is limitless. It is very likely that he will be the first person to walk out of the Fire Dragon continent. Therefore the Yu clan must seize this opportunity. Since you also like him and he doesn't hate you, then tomorrow you should go with him to Dragon City. For the sake of the Yu family and your future, do your best to capture his heart. The white figure's voice was still cold, but her words revealed a bit of emotion and excitement. Yes. Xuanhuan nodded lightly. Her eyes were filled with joy and longing for the future. Her black pearl-like eyes occasionally flashed with light that was as dazzling as the stars in the sky. Moon Tower, Square Pavilion. Xue Fei sat on the bench with a gloomy face. He looked at Xuanhuan, who was standing respectfully in front of him. After a long silence, he sighed deeply and said, "Your thoughts are not wrong. It's just that your actions are too radical. This will cause the Xue clan to be ostracized by the 5 great clans. Forget it. Since things have already reached this point, I can't say whether it's a blessing or a curse. Since you want to walk the path of Tu Chenjun, then keep walking. I hope you're right." Wu Hen is right. To walk out of the well that is the Fire Dragon continent, there is no other way but to borrow the power of the Divine City. As for the 5 great clans, as long as I can reach that step, the 5 great clans can be destroyed at any time. Second Grandpa, you must believe me. Xuanhuan said lightly, but the arrogance and insolence in his words were unmistakable. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Xue Fei sighed as he stared at the stubborn Xuanhuan. Suddenly, a vicious glint flashed across his eyes as he scanned his surroundings. His lips trembled as he spoke in a low voice. Xuanhuan, since you've already formed a grudge with this person, then you must protect yourself in the sect battle and think of a way to secretly eliminate him. Yes. Xuanhuan's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness, and he nodded heavily. Chapter 70. The next day before dawn, a row of luxurious carriages appeared in front of the Moon Tower. The pedestrians who had woken up early were shocked to see such a long line of carriages. Luxurious carriages were not rare in Ecstasy City, but it was the first time they had seen such a long line of luxurious carriages. However, when they saw the flags of the 5 major families fluttering on the carriages, they thought of the upcoming elite mansion battle and suddenly realized that it was not so strange. 30th night, 17th night, and the Grim Reaper squad were in a good mood. They had stayed in the Moon Tower of Ecstasy City for a few days and enjoyed the warm hospitality of the Yu family, which ordinary guests could not enjoy. Anyone would be in a good mood. Most importantly, the top-notch hospitality was paid for by the Yu family. Therefore, when they saw Yi Qinghan's delicate and pretty little face, they all smiled at the same time, a little coquettishly and a little fawning. The carriages were already slowly moving toward the north gate of Ecstasy City. Everyone looked at the tall loft of the Moon Tower and the huge plaque through the curtain. Their hearts echoed with the promise that Yi Qinghan had made when he boarded the carriage. They could not help but feel excited. As long as you can come back alive, I will let you stay in the Moon Tower for a month. And whoever contributes the most in the Elite Mansion battle will be given a month's special package. Now, let's go kill. A month's special package. 30th night and 17th night thought of Yi Qinghan's words and could not help but feel excited. Special package. They had only enjoyed the first-class package once this time. The first-class package was enough to make them want to die, and it was enough to make them remember for a lifetime. Now, he actually said that he would give them a special package. And for a month. Yi Qinghan's move was too ruthless. If he did this, people would die. Of course, they felt that Yi Qinghan's proposal was very good and very feasible. Looking at the Grim Reaper squad, who kept poking their heads out of the carriages as if they had taken aphrodisiacs, 30th night sighed helplessly. At the same time, he admired Yi Qinghan, who was sleeping soundly in the carriage. Although they couldn't enter Tranquil Lake Island, they heard about their young master's glorious deeds on the island. Young master was even more ferocious than young master's father. Although young master's father, Yi Dao, had also rejected the previous generation's saintess and left in a huff, the Yu clan did not do anything. And now, the young master had also rejected the saintess of the modern era. However, the Yu clan was still trying their best to coax him. They were almost crying and grabbing the young master's trousers to ask him to accept this saintess, Yu Qingqing. Why did he say that? Wasn't the 5 Yu family carriages hanging behind the caravan a very good proof? The Ecstasy City was not far from the Dragon City, only 5 to 6 days' journey. The carriages of the 5 clans and Long Shuelio's carriage were traveling on the broad road silently. Perhaps those young masters were too tired last night, or for some other reason, they had been sitting in their carriages silently for the first day. They didn't come out, even eating and defecating in their carriages. On the second day, the young masters began to come out to get some fresh air while eating. Wuxia, Fengzi and Long Shuelu had rested for a day and a night. It was as if they had completely forgotten the unhappiness of the night of the Summer Fire Festival. They were all chatting and laughing around a simple dining table, drinking the fine wine brought from the carriages, eating barbecued meat and casually chatting about some topics. At this time, Fengzi raised her eyebrows and looked into the distance. A figure was walking over and she said with a smile, "Young Master Han seems to be very busy. He doesn't even have time to eat." The person walking over was Dongfang Dao. Dongfang Dao and the other 4 had been following Yi Qinghan ever since they left Tranquil Lake Island. Yi Qinghan had asked Yi Qingyo and was reassured to let the 5 follow him. However, he wasn't as close as he was with Yi Shisan for the time being. Dongfang Dao and the others didn't mind and just silently sat in the carriage behind Yi Qinghan. Today they were out for a meal. Fengzi wanted to invite Yi Qinghan out for a drink, so she asked Dongfang Dao to invite them. "Young Master Feng, Young Master Hua, Young Master Long. My young master said that he's going into seclusion for a few days, so he's very sorry that he can't accompany you for a drink. He said that he wants me to apologize on his behalf. After this cultivation, he'll punish himself with a jar of wine as an apology." Dongfang Dao seemed to have changed from the status of a young master to a servant. In just one day he had completely accepted his status as a subordinate of Yi Qinghan, and his tone and etiquette were completely that of a servant. "Dongfang Dao, you're a talent. Are you willing to be a subordinate of the Yi family?" Fengzi waved her hand, indicating that she didn't mind this matter. Instead, she looked curiously at Dongfang Dao. He had only found out from the information sent over by his clan today that Dongfang Dao and the other 4 in their clans had always kept a low profile. However, the shocking thing was that all 5 of them were at the 3rd level of the general realm. At this age, with this level of strength, they were all characters who could dominate a region. And looking at Dongfang Dao's expression today, it seemed that he was very willing to be Yi Qinghan's servant. "That's right. Brother Dongfang, with the strength of the 5 of you, you are all dazzling geniuses no matter where you go. If the 5 of you follow me, I will serve you as an elder brother and estate scholar. Why should I follow Yi Qinghan as a servant? Moreover, it seems like Yi Qinghan doesn't like it? Long Shuelu also said in confusion. He chuckled and tried to poach someone from the wall. Thank you for your favor, young Master Feng, but young Master Long, I don't want to hear such words ever again. The fathers of Dongfang Dao and the other four were all saved by Master Yi Dao, and they have already sworn to serve Master's family for generations. Moreover, even if you want to be a servant, you have to look at whose servant you are, right? And the five of us feel that it is our fortune to be able to be young Master Yi Qinghan's servants. Dongfang Dao's expression was still calm, but when he heard the word servant from Long Shuelio's mouth, a blade-like sword light appeared in his eyes. He cupped his hands and left calmly after speaking. He walked to the side and silently ate with Nangong and the others. Long Shuelu was choked by Dongfang Dao's words. He rubbed his nose embarrassedly and picked up his wine to drink. Brother Shuelu, if it were me, I wouldn't have said what you just said. You probably haven't seen the information on what Yi Qinghan has done in the Yi family. Yi Qinghan is very fierce. The reason why Dongfang Dao and the other four are so loyal to him is probably because of Yi Qinghan's performance. Seeing Long Shuelio's embarrassment, Feng Zi smiled faintly and twisted his neck as he spoke. This kid is indeed fierce. Brother Shuelu, let me give you a piece of advice. You can't befriend him and it's best not to offend him. Hua hadn't said anything at first, but when he saw Long Shuelio's confused expression, he advised him seriously. Long Shuelu frowned. He was the nephew of House Master Long, but he wasn't like Feng Zi and the others. He didn't have a direct intelligence system, so he was very confused. How fierce. Feng Zi drank a mouthful of wine, looked left and right, then came over and said in a low voice, this kid was still in the elite realm a few months ago. He couldn't even summon a beast and was considered trash by the Yi family. Then in these few months his strength increased by leaps and bounds. First, he killed 5 of Shui Wuhan's subordinates with the strength of a level 1 commander in the barbarian city. One of them was a general realm expert. After returning to the Yi family, he killed a few general realm Yi family core disciples and destroyed Yi Qinghuang's Dantian. In the end, he was surrounded by the elders of the Yi family, but they didn't kill him. Instead, he killed an emperor realm Yi Rong, which caused Yi Tianlong and the other 2 elders to come out of their seclusion. However, I don't know why Yi Tianlong didn't punish Yi Qinghan even though he killed so many people. Instead, he imprisoned Yi Jian in the back mountain and chased Yi Qinghuang out of the Yi family's castle. Now look at Yi Qingyo. It's obvious that the Yi family treats him like a treasure. Don't you think he's fierce? Pfft. Long Shuelu was slowly drinking wine at first, but when he heard that Yi Qinghan killed an emperor realm Yi Rong, he spat out the wine in his mouth. His face was full of shock and disbelief. After listening to Feng Zi, he shook his head and said, that's impossible. How old is he? A 15 or 16-year-old killing an emperor realm martial artist. This information is obviously fake. Also, you said that he was just an elite realm trash a few months ago. How could he kill an emperor realm martial artist? Impossible. At this time Huaxia also came over. Although his eyes were full of doubt, his face was serious as he said, the information is true. Our family received similar information. Although we don't know the details, it is true that Yi Qinghan killed Yi Rong. This caused a huge commotion in the Yi family, and your uncle probably received the news. Our family told you not to offend Yi Qinghan. If you offend him, he won't care about anything and just kill you. According to my family's calculations, he can instantly kill any martial artist below the martial realm. He has a high chance of instantly killing a martial realm martial artist. As for the specific reason, I don't know. Clang. Hearing Huaxia's confirmation, Long Shuelio's hand shook. The cup fell to the ground and broke into pieces. His palms were sweaty. He recalled how arrogantly he challenged Yi Qinghan to a duel in the Yu building. In the end, Yi Qinghan knocked him out with one punch. He didn't believe Dragon Fifth when he said that Yi Qinghan held back. Now it seemed like he was back from the Grim Reaper. Also, Yi Qinghan was chosen as a guest elder by the Yu family. It could be said that the 2 families were one. Long Shuelu wanted to find a chance to take revenge, but it seemed like it was impossible now. Thinking about this, his body trembled. He immediately listed Yi Qinghan as one of the people he couldn't offend. Of course, Yi Qinghan wasn't showing off. He was cultivating. Dragon City was getting closer and closer, so he had to seize the time to cultivate. Although he had entered the first stage of the general realm for a few days, he hadn't even learned the symbolic battle aura release of the general realm. Therefore, after resting for a day, he told Yi 13th that he wanted to go into seclusion for a few days so that he could learn the battle aura release before he arrived at Dragon City. Chapter 71. Actually, the principle of releasing battle chi was very simple. Any warrior who could cultivate would know how to do it. Of course, Yi Qinghan knew how to do it. Additionally, Yi Tianlong had given him a pile of secret books before he came here, including the fastest and fiercest way to release battle chi. Battle chi was transformed by absorbing the spiritual chi from the sky and the earth through a special method. Before human beings broke through their meridians, they could only slowly run their battle chi through their cells. Therefore, they could run their battle chi to all parts of their bodies through their cells and release battle chi through their cells. However, before human beings broke through their meridians and formed their dantian, they had too little battle chi in their bodies and their running speed was too slow. Therefore, even if they released battle chi, they could only release weak battle chi energy which could not be condensed at all, not to mention injuring people. After a martial artist opened up his meridians and condensed his dantian. Additionally, the 12 meridians and dantian would form a perfect circulation. Therefore, battle chi could constantly run to all parts of the body through the meridians. Therefore, it would be easier to release battle chi. Additionally, the released battle chi could be constantly replenished and condensed into terrifying energy crystals, which could injure the enemy or cause severe damage through energy explosion. In the spacious carriage, Yi Qinghan was sitting on the bed with his legs crossed and eyes closed. The dense sounds of horse hooves and rolling wheels couldn't affect him at all. He was concentrating on his meridians and dantian. He separated a bit of battle chi from his circulating battle chi and slowly moved it towards his 5 fingers on his left hand. The meridians of human body were complex, but the 10 fingers were the closest to the skin and had the most meridians. Additionally, each finger was connected with a small meridian. Therefore, most of the fighters on the continent chose to release their battle chi through their 10 fingers. In other words, they chose to release battle chi through their palms. In this way, it was fast and easy to control. Of course, Yi Qinghan chose to release battle chi through his 10 fingers like the predecessors. A small amount of battle chi slowly overflowed from his 5 fingers and gradually condensed in his palm. Yi Qinghan dared not be careless. He constantly released battle chi through his 5 fingers and maintained the consumption of battle chi in the air. Through his palm and fingers, he constantly condensed and integrated the battle chi in his palm. Buzz. The battle chi in Yi Qinghan's palm was constantly compressed and integrated with the weird gesture of his palm and fingers. In a split second, the battle chi in his palm suddenly bounced up like an elastic rubber ball and disappeared in the air under Yi Qinghan's weird gesture. It seems that the most difficult part of releasing battle chi is to control it. Yi Qinghan slightly opened his eyes and looked at his empty palms as he muttered inside. He didn't feel discouraged at all even though he failed in releasing his battle chi for the first time. It didn't require too much technical content. It mainly depended on the proficiency of controlling the battle chi in the palm of one's mind. There was no shortcut to this thing. One could only constantly release battle chi, constantly control it, gradually master it and gradually master it. Again. Yi Qinghan continued to close his eyes and continued to practice the external aspects of battle chi. 2 times, 3 times, 50 times. 1 day, 2 days, 4 days. On the evening of the 5th day, Yi Qinghan finally walked out of the carriage. He stretched his rusty waist and let out a long breath. He turned to look at Feng Zi and the others who were sitting not far away and smiled as he jumped out of the carriage. "Young master, have you finished your cultivation?" Yi 17 had been guarding the carriage. When he saw Yi Qinghan walk out of the carriage, he greeted him with a smile. "Yes, let's go. Accompany me for a drink." Yi Qinghan finally mastered the external release of battle chi after a few days of boredom. He was in a good mood as he waved his hand and walked towards the fire cart in the distance. "Young Master Han, sit here. Young Master Han is really diligent in cultivation. Greetings, young master. Greetings, young master." The people sitting in the distance saw Yi Qinghan walking over. Feng Zi and Hua hurriedly stood up and greeted him. The members of the Reaper squad stood up neatly and shouted in a deep voice. Dongfeng Dao, Nangong Chang, and the others hurriedly dropped the food in their hands and greeted him. "What are you doing?" "I said there's no need to be so polite. Go back and eat and drink. I'm going to have a chat with young Master Feng and the others." Yi Qinghan's eyes widened as he stopped Dongfeng Dao and the others. He waved his hand and signaled for Yi 17 to do as he pleased. He then walked towards Feng Zi and Hua. "Feng Zi, Hua, Long Shuelu, prepare some wine. I'm here to apologize." "Okay. I old Feng like young Master Han's personality. Let's drink until we're drunk." Feng Zi slammed the table and laughed. signaling for the servants to prepare wine. Lunatic, be gentle. This isn't your marble table. If you break it, you'll have to eat on the floor in 2 days. Hua glared at Feng Zi, then turned around and smiled at Xuanhuan. You're right. Yes, young Master Feng, you slammed the table when you saw young Master Han. You should punish yourself with a jug. Although Long Shuelu didn't stand up to greet Xuanhuan, his tone was slightly ingratiating. A jug? Who's afraid of who? Do you think I won't flirt with you tonight? Feng Zi's eyes widened and he wanted to slap the table again. However, he remembered Hua's words and slapped his thigh embarrassedly. Hee, you all seem to be in high spirits. I wonder if Qingqing will have the honor of drinking with you all? A crisp voice like that of an oriole sounded from afar. They all looked over and saw a white figure floating over with a faint fragrance. They all had an awkward expression on their faces. What? Young masters don't like me coming? Qingqing was dressed in a white dress with a white scarf covering her face. Her pearl-black eyes twinkled like a fairy that came out of the forest. How could that be? Look at what you're saying. Sister-in-law, we're so happy that you can come. Feng Zi was the first to react. He quickly pulled out a stool from the side and patted it, gesturing for Qingqing to sit down. Ah. A row of black lines appeared on Xuanhuan's face. He glared at Feng Zi and rubbed his hands even more awkwardly. He forced a smile at Qingqing and said, Miss Qingqing, have a seat. Yes, sister-in-law, please sit. Hua and Long Shuelu also reacted. They suppressed their disappointment and said with a smile. Compared to Qinghuan's awkwardness, Qingqing was much more natural. She ignored the gazes from the side and the distance and sat down. She smiled and said softly, Hee, I'll just call you Qingqing. Sister-in-law sounds awkward. Hee. Miss Qingqing, you'll have to call me sister-in-law sooner or later. Since you're not used to it, I'll do as you say. Come over for a drink, but there's only wine here. It's not convenient for you to drink with a scarf on, right? Feng Zi seemed to have recovered from the disappointment of her failed marriage proposal. She was talking and laughing calmly. Then why don't we just call young Master Han to drink? Long Shuelu laughed mischievously. His smile was very bright and cheerful. It seemed that he wanted to completely get Xuanhuan drunk. He had lost in the arena of love and the arena of martial arts, so he wanted to win it back in the arena of wine. It's a little inconvenient. Hua looked at Xuanhuan with a sinister smile. He wanted him to express his stance. If it's not convenient, then don't drink. I'll pay for his. Come, I'll punish myself by drinking this jar first. Xuanhuan's lips curled up. He raised the jar of wine in his hand and raised it to the few of them. Then he raised his head and drank. The people of the Fire Dragon continent had been practicing martial arts since they were young, so their bodies were not bad. Everyone knew how to drink, which didn't require much skill. Xuanhuan found it strange too. He didn't know if it was because the wine in this world didn't contain much alcohol or because his body was really good. He had never drunk wine since he was young, but after drinking in the barbarian city, he realized that if he really drank wine, it would be like drinking water. No matter how much he drank, he didn't feel drunk. Come on, who's afraid of who? Feng Zi glared at him, not showing any signs of weakness. Hua, Long Shuelu, and the others also rubbed their palms together, ready to go all out. They couldn't win against Xuanhuan in love, but they didn't believe that the three of them couldn't win against him. A battle without gunpowder began. Because Qingqing was at the side, there was no foreplay, and the battle went straight into a hand-to-hand fight. The three of them were obviously on the same side, and they wanted to deal with Xuanhuan together. Xuanhuan wasn't afraid to fight. First, he drank 3 jars of wine with Feng Zi, and Feng Zi was drunk until he didn't know what was going on. Then, under Hua's fearful gaze, Xuanhuan and Hua drank 3 jars of wine, and Long Shuelu fell under the table. At this time, Qingqing had been staring at Xuanhuan with her bright black eyes. Finally, she saw Long Shuelu fall to the ground, and Xuanhuan's face was only a little red, but his eyes were still as clear as before. Then she giggled and said, Your Yi family has a secret drinking technique? No, it's just that I have a good physique. Xuanhuan rubbed his bulging belly and slowly stood up. He let out a burp and stood up shakily. He was about to walk out of the room. What are you going to do? Do you need me to go with you? Qingqing was slightly stunned and asked with concern. No, I'm going to relieve myself. I drank too much. Xuanhuan's indistinct voice reverberated along with the sound of her leaving, causing the half of Qingqing's face that was not covered to be boiling hot. She reached out to summon Yishir-san and told him to take care of Xuanhuan. Then, like a jumping little rabbit, she hurriedly walked back to her carriage. Chapter 72. Dragon City was located in the center of the House of Ares, and was rumored to have existed since ancient times. According to the legends, in ancient times there weren't three major prefectures, and the three clans all lived together in a chaotic manner. Although there were occasional disputes, there were no major wars. Then an ancient great emperor appeared on the continent. He called himself the Dragon, and he led 3 generals from the 3 clans on expeditions to the east and west, finally unifying the continent and establishing the Fire Dragon Empire. Then he established Dragon City, and divided the continent into 3 prefectures, with 3 generals from different clans appointed as prefectures. And now Dragon City was the capital of the Fire Dragon Empire. The legends might not be trustworthy, but the prosperity of Dragon City was unquestionable. The city walls were more than 20 meters tall and more than 10 meters wide, and wrapped around the entire Dragon City like a dumpling. There was a moat dozens of meters wide, and the water inside was turbulent and unfathomable. This city wall is too majestic. This was the first time Xuanhuan had come to Dragon City. Through the curtain of the carriage, he looked at the tall, green and towering walls. It was as if he was seeing the great wall of his world for the first time, and he was deeply shocked. The carriages entered Dragon City without any obstruction. The prestige of the 5 great clans wasn't challenged in this aspect. Even the rows of prefectural soldiers at the city gates wore respectful and envious gazes. They stood to the side respectfully and watched the carriages advance. After the carriages entered Dragon City, they parted ways at an intersection. Each clan had a manor in Dragon City. Last night, they had agreed that they would go back and rest for the night, and gather at the city lord's mansion the next morning. The Yi family's manor was in the east of the city. After traveling from the city gates for an hour, the carriages stopped in front of a large bronze gate. There were rows of people standing in front of the gate. They had probably received the news and were waiting here in advance. Greetings, young Master Han. Xuanhuan alighted from the carriage and saw a group of people kneeling on one knee in front of the gate, and a middle-aged man standing in the middle with a smile. I am Yiping. Nephew, you must have had a hard journey. The middle-aged man was about 40 years old. He looked scholarly and had a gentle expression, and he had the demeanor of an elder. Xuanhuan greets Elder Yiping. Xuanhuan had already obtained information about Yiping from Yishir-san. He knew that Yiping was from the same generation as his father, Yidao. He was a collateral descendant of the family and had a good relationship with Yidao in his early years. He was now at the 2nd level of the Emperor realm and had been guarding the Dragon City all year round. He was one of the elders who held real power in the family. He wasn't at the same level as the city lord like Knight Rod. He was one of the true higher-ups in the family. Therefore, when he saw that Yiping had expressed enough sincerity and personally came to the entrance of the manor to welcome him, he was too embarrassed to be so cold, so he politely bowed. When Yiping saw Xuanhuan bowing respectfully to him, the smile on his face deepened. Didn't the family reports say that this kid didn't have any manners? He even dared to scold the patriarch? Look, aren't you being very polite to me? Yiping's mood became even better when he thought of this. He held Xuanhuan's hand affectionately and said, Come, let's talk inside. I thought you had prepared a banquet to welcome you. Elder is too polite. Xuanhuan nodded indifferently and nodded at Yishir-san, Dongfang Dao and the others behind him. Then they walked into the manor. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the meal was very enjoyable under Yiping's deliberate persuasion. After the meal, Xuanhuan sat leisurely by the tea table and drank tea. He sat quietly and waited for Yiping to speak. He knew that the elders of the Yi family definitely had something to tell him about the residence battle. Since they didn't tell him anything, he would be entering the residence battle zone in 2 days. Only Yiping could tell him something. Tomorrow you will go to the city lord residence to receive your badge. The day after tomorrow, you will be directly transported from the city lord residence to the residence battle island. Before that, the family sent me a message asking me to explain to you the situation of the residence battle and the things you need to pay attention to. Yiping saw that Xuanhuan was sitting quietly, so he didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. He had only participated in the residence battle once, and it was a chaotic residence battle where warriors of all levels could enter. However, the number of people who had participated in the residence battle was very high. Therefore, the information in this area was relatively complete. After receiving the message from the family, he specially went to the city lord residence and looked through a lot of information about the residence battle. At this moment, seeing that Xuanhuan was very interested in listening, he was also gratified. He paused and continued to speak. First of all, let me introduce the venue to you. The Residence Battle Island is actually made up of 4 islands. There is a big island in the center and 3 small islands on 3 sides of the big island. You will be transported to the small island belonging to the House of Aries. This place is absolutely safe. It is where the camp of the House of Aries is located. As for the island in the center, we call it Netherworld Island. Netherworld Island is very large, about 1/10 the size of the House of Aries. The terrain inside is intricate. I will give you a detailed map later. Netherworld Island is the battlefield of the Residence Battle. You can kill wantonly here. Except for the children of the Yi family, you can't trust anyone here, including people from other families. Historically, people from the House of Aries often plotted against people from the House of Aries. As long as the deed is done secretly, the family can't do anything if there is no evidence. The Residence Battle is held once a year, and each prefecture has 100,000 people. The House of Aries has 50 elite teams like the one you are leading, and a total of 10,000 people. The rest of the 90,000 people are low-level warriors and ordinary soldiers, and the elites of the other 2 prefectures are also about 10,000 people. In the past, the rules of the Residence Battle have been that the elite teams will fight and hunt each other at the beginning. The final battle of all the legions will be held in the last month. The final battle is the most chaotic, so the family recommends that you don't participate. Therefore, your mission is to enter Netherworld Island in the first 11 months, hunt the elites of the other 2 prefectures, collect badges and earn points. I understand. How are the points calculated? Xuanhuan blinked his eyes, nodded seriously and asked. To explain the points, I first have to tell you about the difference in strength between the monster clan and the barbarian clan. Like the human race, the 2 clans are divided into 9 ranks. Monster Soldier, Great Monster Soldier, Monster Warrior, Great Monster Warrior, Monster General, Monster Commander, Monster Emperor, Monster Saint. There are also Barbarian Soldier, Great Monster Soldier, Great Monster Warrior, Barbarian General, Barbarian Commander, Barbarian Emperor, Barbarian Saint, and Barbarian Emperor. Of course, there will be no Monster Emperor or Barbarian Emperor in the 3 clans below the age of 30. At least on the surface, according to the family's information, there are no such geniuses in the 2 prefectures. After all, your father Yi Dao reached the Emperor realm at the age of 28. There is only one in the entire Fire Dragon continent every few hundred years, so you don't have to worry about this. The family's request for you is that you try not to participate in battles in the first half of the year and focus on training. When your strength reaches the martial realm and you can protect yourself from the Barbarian Emperor and Monster Emperor, you can participate in battles in large numbers. Yi 13th and Yi 17th will tell you the details. The points are easy to calculate. Using the Monster Clan as an example, Monster Soldiers and Great Monster Soldiers are considered ordinary soldiers. They only have 1 point, Monster Warrior is 2 points, Great Monster Warrior is 5 points, Monster General is 10 points, Monster Commander is 30 points, and Monster Emperor is 100 points. After listening to Yi Ping's explanation, Xuanhuan lowered his head and calculated silently. After a long time, he suddenly raised his head and said with a serious expression, "According to you, I have to kill at least 100 Monster Emperors, 300 Monster Commanders, or 1,000 Monster Generals to get 10,000 points to exchange for spirit pills?" Theoretically, yes. Yi Ping nodded and sighed. However, the elite teams from the 3 prefectures that enter Nether Island are basically led by Marquises or Monster Emperors or Barbarian Emperors. The Marquises and Monster Emperors and Barbarian Emperors are basically there to restrain them. If a Marquis wants to kill a martial artist of a lower realm than him, the opponent's powerhouse will definitely restrain him and then summon their companions. Therefore, it is usually the martial artists of the same realm in the team who attack each other. On the surface, you are a general realm martial artist, but your strength is probably enough to kill a level 1 martial realm martial artist, right? Therefore, you have a great advantage in the prefecture battle. This is why the family sent you to participate in the prefecture battle. You don't understand the specifics and it's hard to explain the situation. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Try to listen to Yi 13th and Yi 17th's opinions in the prefecture battle. The task was difficult. Xuanhuan sighed deeply. The number 1 treasure of the prefecture battle, the spirit pills, was indeed not so easy to exchange for. Although the monster god and barbarian god prefectures had 200,000 elites, the points added up would probably be more than 1 million. However, in a chaotic battle like the prefecture battle, it would be quite difficult to obtain 10,000 points while preserving one's life. At least, Xuanhuan felt that the difficulty was as high as the mountain in the Divine City, seemingly insurmountable. Late at night, Yi Ping explained many things to Xuanhuan, and Xuanhuan listened attentively. After all, this was related to his life and whether he could save his sister. The prefecture battle seemed to be easy to obtain points, but in fact it was extremely difficult. It was basically exchanging points with people's lives. After Yi Ping finished explaining the things that the family had ordered, he arranged for someone to bring Yi Qinghan to rest. After watching Yi Qinghan's figure disappear into the vast night, Yi Ping entered through the side door of the hall and came to a quiet room. The room was a study. A green figure was sitting quietly inside, drinking tea and reading a book. "Greetings, Grand Supreme Elder." Yi Ping bowed respectfully. The green figure raised his head and looked over with a pair of bulging eyes. "Are you done explaining?" "I've explained everything according to Grand Supreme Elder's instructions," Yi Ping said softly. After a while he asked with a puzzled expression, "Grand Supreme Elder, there are some questions that Yi Ping doesn't understand. Why did you send Yi Qinghan to the prefecture battle? You have to know that it's impossible for him to obtain so many points. Moreover, the prefecture battle is so dangerous. If anything happens, the family can't afford to lose." Yi Qingyo heard Yi Ping's question and revealed an expression that he knew he would ask. After a moment of silence, he sighed and said, "Both the patriarch and I know this. In fact, we don't expect him to obtain 10,000 points. The family has also arranged a few secret teams and experts to secretly obtain points. Moreover, this kid has been chosen by the Yu family's saintess. After a discussion with Yu Ji, the Yu family has also sent 3 super elite teams to help him obtain the spirit pills. As for why we sent Yi Qinghan to the prefecture battle, I get angry just thinking about it. Isn't it all because of that idiot Yi Jian? If he hadn't caused so much trouble, would the situation be so troublesome now? You don't know how much Yi Qinghan resisted the family after that incident. It could even be said that he completely disliked the family. The patriarch and I had no choice but to use him to save his sister to slowly ease the gap between him and the family. As for the danger, the patriarch said that martial artists who don't experience life and death battles will never become strong. Moreover, 13, 17, and the Death God team will follow him. As long as they don't act rashly, it shouldn't be a big problem. Moreover, the family has other arrangements, so you don't have to worry too much. Since Grand Supreme Elder and the family have arrangements, Yi Ping is naturally assured. I hope that this kid will have a smooth journey in the prefecture battle. I hope so. Later, let 13 and 17 come in. I'll explain to them. 2 deep sighs resounded in the room. It added a bit of melancholy to the summer night. Chapter 73. To the north of the House of Aries' floating snow city was a famous snowy mountain called Qingshan. At the foot of the mountain was a small city called Qingshan City. 50 years ago, an 18-year-old youth walked out of Green Mountain City. This youth possessed unparalleled cultivation. He walked all the way from the north and challenged the famous young experts of the 5 major clans. He won every battle and declined the recruitment offers from the 5 major clans. Finally, he fought his way into the chaotic prefecture battle 30 years ago. He fought his way through countless demon and barbarian emperors and obtained the highest number of points in the prefecture battle 30 years ago. After that, he went into seclusion for 5 years and came out again to challenge the previous generation's prefecture master of Divine Battle Prefecture. After fighting for a day and a night, he won and became the house master of the House of Aries with unquestionable strength. He was the current house master of the House of Aries and the #1 expert of the House of Aries in the continent, Long Bofu. Standing in front of the palace-like castellan's mansion, Yi Qinghan listened to Yi Shisan's brief introduction of House Master Long. He couldn't help but feel excited. He couldn't help but look forward to meeting the legendary #1 expert of the House of Aries. Today he got up early in the morning. According to the rules of each mansion battle, the elite squads of the major families would come to Dragon City before the battle. They would stand in the square in front of the castellan's mansion to be received by the mansion master and listen to the motivational speech before the battle. Then they would receive their tokens after being tested by the staff of the Divine City. Rows of elite squads were already lined up neatly on the square, and there were people everywhere. As time passed, more and more squads were pouring in from all directions, and there were also countless spectators nearby. The entire front gate of the city lord's mansion had become a scene of tens of thousands of soldiers parading. Brother Qinghan, you came so early. We went to the Yi family's mansion early in the morning but found nothing. At this moment, a group of people walked over from the left. The 2 people in front were Feng Zi and Huahua. Behind them were 2 neat teams. They were the elite teams of their clans. Well, I woke up a little earlier today. Since I have nothing to do, I came over to take a look. Yi Qinghan was not surprised by the arrival of Feng Zi and the flowers. Although both of them were likely to be the successors of their clan's patriarchs, Yi Ping's introduction of the mansion battle yesterday was enough to prove that Yi Ping was right. He knew that as long as he didn't leave War God Island, where the House of Ares was, his safety was guaranteed. Even if he left War God Island, as long as he didn't go deeper into Nether Island, he wouldn't be in too much danger. Therefore, it wasn't strange for the two precious young masters to participate in the mansion battle. Let's wait together. You guys can line up with the Yi family brothers. Feng Zi waved his hand behind him, signaling his clan's team to stand together with Yi Qinghan's Reaper team. Flora nodded and waved his hand behind him. The two squads at the back stood side by side with the Reaper squad in silence. Hua! Suddenly, there was a low cry from the side of the crowd, which caused a commotion among the crowd. Yi Qinghan and the rest were attracted by it too. They lifted their heads and looked over, only to see the crowd parting to form a path. A group of women in purple with their faces covered walked over in an orderly manner. Before they even arrived, a faint fragrance had already greeted them. Brother Han, your wife is here. Feng Zi chuckled and straightened his muscular body. He blinked and said to Yi Qinghan. Looking at the woman in the middle of the group, a hint of disappointment flashed across Flora's beautiful phoenix eyes, but he recovered in an instant and teased her. We're brothers, don't tease me like this in the future. You know, I resisted this marriage before but it didn't work. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said helplessly. Damn you, show off all you want. Flora and Feng Zi raised their middle fingers and cursed softly. What are you guys chatting about? Just then Yu Qingqing walked over and blinked her bright eyes as she spoke. Her expression was natural, as if the few people in front of her were good friends for many years. She did not look awkward at all. Nothing much. Greetings, Miss Qingqing. Also, it's time for Master Long to appear, right? Feng Zi laughed and changed the topic. Isn't he here? Yu Qingqing smiled. She did not expose Feng Zi's lie, but turned to look at the city lord's mansion and said. When they heard that, they subconsciously turned to look at the city lord's mansion. Just then, the main gate of the city lord's mansion slowly opened, and the noisy square shut their mouths at the same time when they saw the city lord's mansion slowly open. They looked at the small figure slowly walking out of the main gate of the city lord's mansion with passionate eyes. He's Dragon Man? Yi Qinghan looked at the small and monotonous figure in front of him and thought to himself. He had heard of Dragon Man's name since he was young, and he had always fantasized about his handsome appearance. Even if he was not 7 feet tall and had 3 heads and 6 arms, he should at least be tall and mighty with a domineering aura. However, it was difficult for the figure in front of him, who looked like an old man sweeping the streets, to match the image in his mind. Master Long. Master Long. Yi Qinghan thought this way, but it did not mean that others would think the same way. They followed Dragon Man and walked out. Suddenly, there was an earth-shattering roar from the crowd, and people kept joining in the roar. In an instant, the roar in the square shook the heavens. Countless martial artists who had never seen him before, roared with their heartfelt respect for the strong, waving their arms to welcome the #1 expert of the House of Ares. Master Long kept a smile on his face, like an amiable old man sweeping the streets. He just stood quietly in front of the city lord's mansion. There were no guards or followers behind him. He stood there alone. The crowd slowly felt that his figure was becoming taller and taller, like a tall mountain that they could not look up to. After the crowd roared a few times, he gently raised his hand, and his body slowly rose into the air. It was as if there was a mysterious force under his feet that was constantly lifting him up. The scene was strange and silent for a moment. Emperors and sages could fly in the air. This was something everyone knew. However, the short and skinny Master Long in front of them did not seem to be using any strength in his body. He could actually fly slowly. It should be known that there were countless Duke Realm experts in the training field. They did not feel the slightest aura of battle aura being released, but Dragon Man just rose into the air. Master Long. Master Long. The square became noisy again. Countless people looked up at the high and mighty Dragon Man, who was as gentle as the old man next door. He roared once more. Palace Master Long nodded, raised his hand again and then pressed it down. Only when the entire area had returned to silence did he speak again. His voice wasn't loud, but his steady and slightly magnetic voice rang clearly in everyone's ears. Hello everyone, I am Dragon Man. Tomorrow is the Elite Mansion Battle, which is held once every 60 years. I have nothing to say, I just want to ask you one thing. Are you all ready? We are ready. The sound was like a tidal wave, instantly drowning the entire square. Yi Qinghan secretly clicked his tongue. It seemed that Master Long's prestige and popularity in the House of Ares were extremely high. Very good. The demons in the west and the barbarians in the south have also said that they are ready. Then, young lads, polish the weapons in your hands and fight. 30 years ago, I and countless warriors used the weapons in our hands to completely beat the demons and barbarians to the ground. Now it is your turn. The glory and dignity of the House of Ares will be in your hands. In 3 years I will be waiting for your return here. Master Long's voice continued to be calm and friendly, but the domineering and confidence in his tone was exceptionally clear. Fight, fight, fight. Following Dragon Man's words, the emotions in the square were completely ignited. Countless people waved the weapons in their hands and roared. After Dragon Man finished speaking, he once again smiled warmly, waved his hand, turned around, and then turned into a shadow, disappearing from the Castellan's mansion. Then rows of warriors in white robes walked out of the Castellan's mansion. Each of them held a white crystal pillar in their hands and lined up in front of the square. At this time, 3 white-robed warriors appeared out of thin air above the Castellan's mansion. One of the white-robed warriors flew to the front alone and shouted in a deep voice, "Now you will receive badges according to your individual strength. There are 100 crystal pillars in front of you to test your strength. As long as you activate the battle chi in your body and attach it to the crystal pillar, you will be able to test your strength. Then you will receive the badge and activate it with a drop of blood. Now warriors who want to enter the mansion battle line up to receive it." Feng Zi nodded and took the lead to walk towards the white crystal pillar. He stretched out his left hand, and battle chi slowly appeared in his palm. Then he touched the white crystal pillar, and the white crystal pillar suddenly changed color, turning a deep yellow. Third layer General Realm, dark yellow badge, activated with a drop of blood. The white-robed man next to the white crystal pillar said coldly. He took out a dark yellow ring and handed it over. Feng Zi took the ring and put it on. Then he squeezed a drop of blood from his other hand. The ring lit up, and a faint battle character appeared on the dark yellow ring. Chapter 74. The white-robed man nodded and looked at everyone with a puzzled expression. He said, "Depending on your strength, you will be given the color of the badge. After you wear it and activate it with your blood, you won't be able to take it off. If you want to take it off, you either have to chop off your finger or die. If there's nothing else, you can go to the Divine City to remove it or come here to remove it." Next. After everyone went to collect their rings, xuanhuan watched for a while and understood the rules of the badge. He also understood why Elder Yi Ping said he could hide his strength last night. The white crystal pillar could only measure the level of battle aura. Badges of different colors were given according to the level of battle aura. Ordinary soldiers could only receive white rings, elite martial artists received red rings, commander-level martial artists received orange rings, general-level martial artists received yellow rings, martial artists received green rings, and Duke martial artists received cyan rings. The color of each martial artist's ring was different according to their strength. For example, first-level general martial artists received light yellow rings, second-level general martial artists received light yellow rings, and third-level general martial artists received dark yellow rings. On the surface, xuanhuan was a first-level general martial artist, so he would definitely receive a light yellow ring when collecting his badge. However, with his overall strength he would definitely receive a dark green ring. That was why Yi Ping said he could hide his strength and kill people of a higher level. Of course, the 5 great clans were actually hiding their strength. On the surface, Feng Zi was a third-level general martial artist, but with his imperial sword technique, his combat strength was probably at the martial level. Not to mention wuxia, a third-level general martial artist could easily assassinate a first-level general martial artist after he stealthily activated. Presumably, there were also a few people in the Demon God's estate and the River Barbarian God's estate who could hide their strength. Therefore, it was impossible to deduce a martial artist's true strength just by looking at the surface of the ring. The process went quickly. 4 hours later, everyone had collected their badges and rings. As expected, xuanhuan received a light yellow ring. What surprised xuanhuan was that Yuqingqing, who was a third-level general martial artist, received a dark yellow ring. It was just that he did not know what level of martial artist she could kill if she coordinated with the Yu clan's spirit technique. When xuanhuan was staring at the ring in Yuqingqing's hand, Yuqingqing probably sensed it. A trace of craftiness flashed across her eyes. She leaned over and said softly, "Haha, I can kill a normal second-level martial. Of course, I can't deal with someone with a strong soul. Xuanhuan, don't underestimate women. I'm not a vase. F***ck. Xuanhuan's heart skipped a beat as he stared at the pair of spirited eyes that were right in front of him. He thought to himself, It seems like I can't underestimate the disciples of the 5 great clans. A woman like this is actually so terrifying. At the same time, he smelled the faint fragrance coming from beside him. His mind was shaken, and an indescribable feeling surged in his heart. Yi family manor in Dragon City. Yi Qinghan gathered Dongfang Dao's group of 5 in a side hall for the first time. He wasn't disgusted by the 5 of them following him. Firstly, the 5 of them had performed well along the way. Secondly, their fathers had perished along with his father, so it was his family that owed them. Now that they were wholeheartedly following him, he couldn't bear to leave them out in the cold. Young master. Outside, the 5 of them called him young master. When there was no one around, they called him young master. Yi Qinghan did not really like this title, but he could not dissuade them and could only accept it. We'll be entering the prefecture battle island tomorrow. I can't give you anything. Moreover, I'm sure you know why I'm entering the prefecture battle. You also know how dangerous this prefecture battle is. If you withdraw now, I won't blame you. Moreover, I will have the Yi family provide you with a good place to settle down. Yi Qinghan said sincerely. After all this time, people would definitely die. The 5 of them were still so young. It was not worthwhile to follow him to death for a promise made by their fathers. The 5 of them looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. Dongfang Dao stood up and said, "If it wasn't for Master, our family would have been destroyed. Our family's genealogy clearly states that we will serve Master Yi Dao and his descendants as our masters for the rest of our lives." Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment, then helplessly nodded. He took out a booklet from his bosom and handed it over, saying, "In that case, I won't say anything more. These are the 5 king-level secret skills I asked the Yi family. They are also very suitable for you to cultivate. You will mainly focus on cultivation in this prefecture battle. I will put you in the Reaper squad. In the future you don't need to protect me. After all, with Yi Shisan and Yi 17 by my side, my safety is guaranteed. You will be safer with the Reaper squad." Yes. The 5 of them looked ashamed. Indeed, at their age, they were considered geniuses in the House of Aries with their cultivation at the 3rd level of the general realm. However, compared to a freak like Yi Qinghan, they were nothing. If they followed Yi Qinghan, who knew who would be the one to protect? They took the secret skills with their names written on it and thought that Yi Qinghan treated them well. After all, there were not many king-level secret skills in the Yi family. The 5 of them secretly planned to redouble their cultivation in the future. Otherwise, if their strength couldn't keep up with Yi Qinghan's footsteps, there would be no value in their existence as the dripping blood guards. After the 5 of them said their goodbyes, Yi Qinghan took out a wooden box from the side. In fact, the 5 king-level secret skills and this wooden box were passed down from the family. Elder Yi Ping had just specially sent it over. The secret skills given to the 5 of them were all king-level. It seemed that the treasures in the wooden box given to him by the Yi family would definitely not be inferior. The box had no lock, only a simple switch. When it was gently opened, there were 3 things in the box: a cyan dagger, a set of black soft armor, and a booklet. Yi Qinghan's eyes narrowed slightly. He estimated that these things must be extraordinary. After all, it was the first time that the Yi family, one of the 5 major families, made a move, so it would definitely not be shabby. He reached out and picked up the dagger. The cyan dagger was about a foot long and was very heavy. It was at least twice as heavy as the dagger he used before. However, this weight was insignificant for him, who was at the 1st level of the general realm. He stabbed a few times in the air and felt that it was very smooth. He took out the original dagger from his boots with satisfaction and then inserted the new dagger into the booklet. The black soft armor was very light and soft. He didn't know what material it was made of. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. He picked up the dagger he used before and gently scratched it. There was no trace at all. Therefore he increased his strength. He used 30% of his strength and scratched it heavily. However, it only left a faint white mark. When he touched it with his hand, it disappeared. This soft armor was a treasure. In the next moment, Yi Qinghan determined that this soft armor must be extraordinary. Therefore he simply took out the cyan dagger and slashed at the old dagger he used before. Crack. The original dagger broke with a sound. Yi Qinghan smiled in satisfaction. It seemed that the gifts from the Yi family were quite good. This soft armor and dagger seemed to be treasures of the highest grade. Treasures were divided into 4 grades: human, spirit, treasure, and saint. Obviously, these 2 treasures were at least spirit tools and most likely treasured tools. As for saint tools, the Yi family only had 2. One was with Yi Tianlong, and the other was with Yi Qinghan. Presumably, before Yi Tianlong died, the saint tool would not be passed down to him. Finally, he picked up the remaining booklet and flipped it open. There was actually a small note inside. After reading it, Xuanhuan's expression showed that he had expected it. The note introduced the grades and functions of the dagger and soft armor. The dagger was called the Blue Dragon Dagger, a low-grade saint tool. It might not be able to cut through iron like mud, but it was definitely a killing weapon. The soft armor was called the Black Tortoise Armor, a low-grade saint tool. It could block the stab of a low-grade saint tool. In theory, it could block a full-force attack from a level 3 martial. A saint tool. Although the two treasures were low-level, not to mention the dagger, the soft armor was definitely priceless. It was definitely a peerless treasure that could save one's life. Only now did he know that saint tools were divided into upper and lower grades. Didn't he know that saint tools were not divided into lower and lower grades? If they were divided, what grade would his bronze ring be? However, when he thought about the bronze ring's automatic healing function, he wouldn't trade it for a few saint tools. He laughed at himself and picked up the booklet. On the booklet there were 3 big words, Shadow Step. When Xuanhuan saw the small words at the bottom, his expression finally changed. His lips moved and his fingers trembled. After a long time he finally said, Saint Tyr's secret technique, Yi Ruoshui's masterpiece? After taking a few deep breaths, Xuanhuan tried his best to calm himself down. It seemed that his grandfather was willing to go all out for him. Saint Tyr's secret technique and saint tool were the family's treasures. Although the Yi family was wealthy, they only had one saint tool and a few Saint Tyr's secret techniques. Moreover, this was created by ancestor Yi Ruoshui. Ancestor Yi Ruoshui was a person who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the founding divine ancestor Knight Emperor in the Yi family's thousands of years of history. How could the secret technique he created be simple? Since the Yi family owed him, it was only natural for him to take it. Xuanhuan told himself that there was no need to be polite. The temptation of a Saint Tyr's secret technique was too great. Of course, Xuanhuan wouldn't resist this temptation. Only a fool wouldn't want such a treasure. He couldn't wait to open the secret technique and read it. Shadow Step, as the name suggests, is a footwork technique. It's a footwork technique used to avoid the enemy's attack in a small area. There are 3 levels in total. Mastering all 3 levels allows one to go anywhere in the world. The first level requires a general realm cultivation base to master. Go anywhere in the world. Seeing these words, Xuanhuan felt that the Saint Tyr's secret technique created by ancestor Yi Ruoshui didn't let him down. A Saint Tyr's secret technique was indeed a Saint Tyr's secret technique. Although it wasn't an offensive secret technique, it was more precious than anything else to Xuanhuan. He didn't lack attacks. Once he used the body fusion technique, a normal martial would definitely die if he got close. This Saint Tyr's secret technique that didn't care about defense or cultivation based directly attacked the soul gave him a perverse attack method. What he lacked the most right now was a life-saving technique. After all, the mansion battle wasn't a one-on-one battle. When hundreds of people attacked each other, you could instantly kill anyone, but when you killed your enemy, attacks from the side would land on you. In such a chaotic situation, how important was a life-saving technique? Now, it seemed that Yi Tianlong still placed his safety as the top priority. He even passed on such a precious Saint Tyr's secret technique to him for free. After quickly browsing through it, Xuanhuan immediately started cultivating. This was a life-saving technique. The earlier he mastered it, the earlier he would be safe. His strength would also improve a lot sooner. The first level looked simple, but it was actually very complicated. First, he had to release his battle chi from the soles of his feet and use it to speed up his footwork. Then, he had to continuously practice 18 seemingly awkward footwork techniques. Releasing battle chi from the soles of his feet wasn't difficult because he had experience in releasing battle chi. On the other hand, he had to practice the 18 awkward footwork techniques continuously. In the end, he had to master them all and form his body's instinctive reaction. After reading through it, Xuanhuan pondered in silence for a while. Then he started the boring cultivation of releasing battle chi. The next day, early in the morning, when the first ray of sunlight from the east shone into the room, Xuanhuan opened his eyes. He hadn't slept the entire night, but with his general realm cultivation, he didn't feel the slightest bit tired. He just felt a little dispirited after a night of cultivation. He forced himself to stay awake, stood up, and stretched his body. Then he washed his face and rinsed his mouth. After a quick breakfast, he walked to the entrance of the manor. Outside, Yi Shisan and the others were already waiting for him. Xuanhuan smiled and entered the carriage. With a wave of his hand, he signaled for them to set off. The group arrived at the plaza in front of the city lord's mansion. He had long noticed that there were 3 huge teleportation arrays on the right side of the plaza. However, they were guarded by soldiers so he couldn't get close. Now, if he wanted to teleport to the prefecture's battle island, he had to use the teleportation array. The plaza was already filled with people. Everyone was lining up to enter the teleportation array. Beside the teleportation array, there were more than 10 white-robed people like yesterday. They were constantly activating the teleportation array, sending groups of people over. Young Master Feng and the others are over there. They're probably waiting for you. Yi Shisan's eyes were sharp and he immediately saw Feng Zi Huahua and Yu Qingqing standing near the first teleportation array on the left. They were looking left and right. It seemed like they were waiting for them. Yes, let's go. Yi Qinghan got off the carriage and ordered everyone to follow. He asked the coachman of the Yi family to send the carriage to the manor, and his group walked over to Feng Zi. Young Master Han, did you do something bad last night? Why are you so late? Feng Zi glanced at Yu Qingqing when she saw Yi Qinghan coming over and smiled. To hell with being the second master, I've been practicing for the whole night. Why is there no one at this teleportation array? Yi Qinghan scolded jokingly, looking at the teleportation array with interest. Yu Qingqing laughed and explained, this is used by the 5 great clans. After we finish teleporting, we'll naturally let them use it. Then are we leaving now? Or do we have to wait for someone? Yi Qinghan nodded at Yu Qingqing as a form of greeting and said with a smile. Let's go, we're just waiting for you. Xuanhuan, that traitor, isn't with us now. He left a long time ago. I heard that Long Xuelu and Long Xinan left first. Long Xinan is the daughter of House Master Long, Huahua said disdainfully. It seemed that the more she looked at Xuanhuan, the more she disliked him. Yes, let's go. Yi Qinghan nodded, then made a gesture of invitation to Yu Qingqing. Yu Qingqing didn't stand on ceremony. She nodded at the Pink Legion behind her and led her elite team to the teleportation array. The few white-robed people beside the teleportation formation reminded them. Then they inserted a few white crystals into a few corners of the teleportation formation. The teleportation formation suddenly erupted with a dazzling white light. Then with a flash, Yu Qingqing's group disappeared. This teleportation array is very simple. I wonder what the white crystals in their hands are. And what's the principle behind this teleportation array? Yi Qinghan looked at the teleportation array with interest. He felt that this thing was too magical. Such a simple thing could teleport so many people 1,000 miles away in an instant. This was no different from a godly skill. I'll leave first. See you later. Feng Zi saw that Yi Qinghan had no intention of leaving, so she laughed and teleported with her people. Flowers and grass followed behind and brought people to teleport over. Finally, it was Yi Qinghan's turn. The group walked into the teleportation array. The people in white robes reminded them coldly, don't be nervous, don't panic, and don't resist. Then they activated the teleportation array. There was a flash of white light. Yi Qinghan felt that the light was very dazzling, so he closed his eyes. Then he suddenly felt a huge suction force sucking his body into the air. He also felt that his brain was slightly congested and he was a little dizzy. Moreover, his ears were ringing. It might have been a while or it might have been a long time. The terrifying suction force finally stopped, and his head slowly stopped feeling dizzy. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes slightly. After getting used to the light, he opened his eyes curiously to observe the surrounding scenery. At this moment, an old voice suddenly resounded in his ears, "Welcome to the official battle island. Here you will experience the massacre of blood and fire, and enjoy a year of hot-blooded passion." Chapter 75. An old voice. Yi Qinghan turned his head in puzzlement and saw an old man standing at the side of the team unknowingly. This old man was dressed in a gray robe and had a head of white hair. He looked slightly old and was looking at them with a smile. Why is there an old man? Isn't the elite prefecture battle only open to those under 30? Yi Qinghan immediately became vigilant. This was the prefecture battle island. Danger could come at any time. At this time, Yi Shisan pulled his sleeve with a smile and whispered in his ear, "Don't be nervous. He's one of us, an elder who guards the island. Of course, he's not going to enter the Nether Island." After saying that, Yi Shisan pulled his sleeve again and cupped his hands at Yi Shisan. "Greetings, Guardian Elder." "Greetings, Guardian Elder." Yi Qinghan and the Reaper squad responded immediately and saluted. "You're the disciples of the Yi family, right? Your courtyard is in the southern yard. Follow this road and there will be someone there to receive you." After saying that, the gray-robed old man disappeared in a flash. Teleportation? Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Yi Shisan in horror. This gray-robed old man was too terrifying. How could he disappear into thin air? I don't think so. A trace of respect and worship flashed in Yi Shisan's eyes. After a moment of silence, he said, "This guardian elder should be at least in the sage realm. Moreover, he studies the law of heaven and earth related to the law of space. His speed is so fast that it looks like he teleported to us." Terrifying. Staring blankly at the place where the guardian elder disappeared, Yi Qinghan was silent for a long time. Originally, he was very proud of his strength and became a little lax in his cultivation. Now, it seemed that his cultivation had not reached the threshold of cultivation. There were too many people in this world who could kill him in a second. However, this guardian elder showed off his skills as soon as he arrived. He must have known that those who came to the prefecture battle were the young elites of the House of Aries. He must have been a little proud and arrogant. He also wanted to warn them that there was always someone better than them. Only by maintaining a vigilant attitude would they not easily fall in the upcoming battle. "Let's go." Yi Qinghan smiled and said softly after figuring out the cause and effect. He took the lead and walked toward a courtyard in the distance. The battle island wasn't big. With a single glance, one could see the boundless deep blue ocean in the distance. Other than the small plaza that Yi Qinghan had just teleported to, the island was surrounded by courtyards. The battle island was guarded by a sage realm expert, so it should be very safe. The rows of green bricks and black tiles in front of him made it very easy to explain. Since the flames of war couldn't spread here, this was the base camp of the divine battle residence, a place for everyone to rest, cultivate, and recuperate. Of course, it had to be better and more comfortable. The southern courtyard was not big, but it was very elegant. Hua Fengzi and the others were nowhere to be seen. They were probably settling down their team. Yi Qinghan was led by two middle-aged men dressed in the same gray robes as the guardian elders to the small courtyard prepared for the Yi family. Yi Qinghan gestured to Yi Shisan to make arrangements for the Reaper squad while he and Yi Shisan walked into the hall of the small courtyard. There were quite a few people in the hall, and one of them was an acquaintance. "Yi Qingwu, why are you here?" Yi Qinghan looked at the figure that he hadn't seen for 2 months and asked in astonishment. The fiery red skin-tight leather armor, tighter-fitting fiery red leather pants, and a pair of fiery red leather boots. Yi Qingwu's devilish figure was completely revealed. Adding on her pure and cute face, it was hard for anyone to forget her after seeing her. "Hee, you can come but I can't? I'm an expert ranked 6th on the Earth ranking. It's not too much for me to come here and play." Yi Qingwu was very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's performance. Her eyes curved into crescent moons as she stood up from the square chair. Her 2 straight and round white legs dazzled everyone in the room. "Greetings, young Master Han." After Yi Qingwu finished speaking, the other 4 people in the room stood up with Yi Qingwu and bowed respectfully to Yi Qinghan. "No need to be so polite. Yi Shisan knows that I don't like too many rules." Yi Qinghan nodded slightly and looked at Yi Qingwu with a smile. "Miss Wu, can you explain it to me?" "I say, Yi Qinghan, the Yi family doesn't treat you well, but big sister treats you well. There's no need to be so distant. Moreover, a large part of the reason why we came here to fight for our lives is because of you. Is this how you treat us?" When Yi Qingwu heard Yi Qinghan call her Miss Wu, she was obviously a little displeased and pouted. Looking at Yi Qingwu's cute pouting expression, Yi Qingwu remembered that Yi Qingwu had helped him several times. When he was still a cripple, she had helped him suppress Yi Qinghuang once in the War Beast Academy. Then, at the most critical moment, she had lured elder Yi Qingyou out and saved his life. Moreover, Yi Qingwu's battle prowess was indeed very terrifying. She had cultivated to the 1st level of martial tier at the age of 20, and combined with her 7th grade snow fox, she could probably reach the 3rd level of martial tier. Moreover, since Yi Qingyou allowed her to come to the prefecture battle island without worry, he must have given her some life-saving treasures. Thinking of the past, Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and said sincerely, "Big Sister Wu, it's my fault. You said that you came here for me?" Yi Qingwu felt Yi Qinghan's sincerity, and the smile on her face became even wider. She giggled and said, "That's right, but it's best to remove the word, that from the front. To tell you the truth, I'm also here to kill people. These 4 people are Yi San, Yi Jiu, and Yi Shi. They are all experts of the Commander realm. We brought 2 small teams this time, and we're also here for the spirit pills. For the sake of insurance, the clan leader has dragged almost all the experts of the younger generation of the clan to the battle island. You're in the light and we're in the dark, so we have a higher chance of success." "Is that so?" "Yes, I can't thank you enough. As long as I'm alive, I will remember your kindness in this life. Are you coming with me?" "Alone?" Yi Qinghan nodded at Yi and the others. It seemed that his grandfather was really hell-bent on thinking for him. Today Yi and the others showed up and spoke tactfully to Yi Qinggu, and the meaning was very clear. Yi Tianlong wanted to tell him that he had already secretly sent people to get the spirit pills for his sister, and that he should try his best and not work too hard. The main force was not him, but the few low-profile warriors of the Yi family in front of him. I'll be in your team. The clan leader wants me to watch over you. With 13 and 17 around, safety won't be a problem. Yi and the others will split into 2 teams and go alone to secretly get points. Yi Qinggu giggled, looking as if she was following him, protecting him and supervising him. Yi Qinghan nodded blankly. Originally he thought that Feng Zi and the others came to the prefecture battle island to have fun and gain experience. Now it seemed that the nature of his coming to the prefecture battle was the same as theirs. But thinking about it, he had a sacred beast. Although his strength was not bad among the elites of the 3 prefectures, in such a chaotic situation, with so many demon emperors and barbarian emperors who could easily kill him, it would be strange if the Yi family was willing to let him take the risk alone. Practice hard. Yi Qinghan thought to himself. He still felt uneasy putting all his hopes on Yi and the others. His sister was only relying on soul-nourishing medicine to keep a trace of her soul. If he wanted to save her, he had to get the first treasure of the prefecture battle. Looking at the current situation, if he only had this little strength, Yi Qinggu and Yi Shisan would definitely not bring him to kill wantonly and get a large number of points. Only with his strength could he protect himself from the attacks of demon emperors and barbarian emperors, who were comparable to Marquis realm experts. Could he use his abnormal body fusion technique to kill a large number of demon kings and barbarian emperors and get enough points to exchange for the spirit pills? I'll go back to my room to rest first. Call me if there's anything. After thinking things through, Yi Qinghan chatted with Yi Qinggu and the others for a while. Then he went back to his room alone and prepared to practice. Patriarch's move is really brilliant. Under the tremendous pressure, this kid's cultivation base would definitely soar by leaps and bounds. This brat's comprehension is so high, his cultivation won't be too slow. I'm really looking forward to the scene of this brat sweeping across the Fire Dragon continent with a mature sacred beast after he reaches the Saint Realm. Looking at Yi Qinghan's determined figure gradually disappearing outside the door, Yi Qinggu twitched her nose and said with a smile. As long as young Master Han doesn't die, the Yi family will definitely be able to suppress the major clans and the demon and barbarian residences for 200 years. Yi nodded and said with certainty. Then he looked at Yi Shisan and his eyes suddenly became fierce. He shouted in a deep voice, 17 tell 13 that even if you all die, you must protect the safety of Miss Wu and young Master Han. I, 3rd brother, 9th brother and 11th brother will go first. You all take care. Eldest brother, 3rd brother, 9th brother, 11th brother, you all take care too. Yi 17 nodded with a heavy expression. They were all orphans adopted by the Yi family. Among thousands of people, they relied on their amazing talent and diligent cultivation to be given the titles Yi to Yi 30 by the Yi family. But as they continued to carry out missions, only a dozen or so of the 30 of them survived. This mission seemed to be the most difficult and dangerous. Who knew how many of them would survive in the end? His heart was a little heavy and sad. Yi, be careful. Hunt for points under the premise of protecting yourself. The Patriarch has ordered that as long as you complete this mission, the 6 of you will be completely abolished as death warriors. The family will give you the position of clan elder. This is the last mission, so everyone take care. Haha, Miss Wu, don't worry. We are the strongest force on the Netherworld Island. After so many years in the wind and fire, no one has taken our lives. I don't believe that a few demons and barbarians can do anything to us. 3rd brother, 9th brother, 11th brother, let's go and kill. Yi laughed and cupped his hands towards Yi Qinggu. He patted Yi 17's shoulder and strode out. Chapter 76. According to the usual practice, the elites who entered the mansion battle would rest on the island for 3 days. After 3 days, the elite team would enter the Netherworld Island and begin their massacre. During these 3 days, Yi Qinghan stayed in his room to train. Under the huge pressure, Yi Qinghan did not dare to relax. On one hand, he trained day and night, cultivating his battle chi to increase his realm. On the other hand, he trained in the life-saving shadow step. Before arriving at the Yu clan, he had opened up all the meridians in his body, condensed his dantian, and stepped into the first level of the general realm. After reaching the first level of the general realm, training was mainly to accumulate a large amount of battle chi and compress it into liquid form, storing it in the dantian. This training was a vast and tedious process. If the dantian was a wine bottle, then his current training was to fill the wine bottle with qi and compress it into a drop of water. Continuously filling the bottle with qi and compressing it into water, until the wine bottle was filled with water. Moreover, the dantian became firm and wide under the warm pressure of the water. Finally, it completely combined with the acupoints in the dantian and reached the peak of the general realm. This seemed easy. As long as he trained every day, he would reach the peak of the general realm sooner or later. However, xuanhuan did not relax at all because there was a strange beast in his body. When this beast was weak, it did not absorb battle qi and only ate magic crystals. Now that it had reached the growth stage, it did not eat magic crystals and only absorbed battle qi. Moreover, as time passed, it absorbed more and more battle qi. Therefore, xuanhuan's daily training was basically only enough for the beast to absorb battle qi. There was not much left. Therefore, in these 3 days, other than continuing to practice releasing battle qi from the sole of his feet, he spent the rest of his time accumulating battle qi. The battle was about to begin. If he ran out of ammunition during the battle, he would really die. Training in Shadow Step required the release of battle qi from the sole of his feet. Because he had experience in releasing battle qi, he had already succeeded. He only needed to be proficient in using it. Dong dong dong. Xuanhuan was awakened by the knocking on the door. He turned to look at the door and stopped his training. He got out of bed, stretched, and opened the door. "Young master, it's time to go. Miss Wu asked me to call you out." It was Yi Shisan with a plain square face outside the door. 3 days have passed? Xuanhuan slapped his forehead. He had been cultivating day and night, causing his sense of time to be a little confused. He felt that 3 days had passed in the blink of an eye. After washing up as fast as he could, Xuanhuan changed his clothes and followed Yi Shisan out. In the hall, Yi Qingwu and Yi 17 were sitting quietly. Outside the hall, Xuanhuan walked over. Standing up, Yi Shisan blinked and smiled without saying anything. Yi Qingwu wrinkled her cute nose and said with some dissatisfaction, "Let's go. Everyone has been waiting for you for a long time. We'll gather in the square later." After listening to the guardian elder's explanation, we'll set off for Nether Island. Xuanhuan was a little ashamed as he looked at Yi Qingwu, who still had a fiery red body. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Yes, let's go." The 4 of them walked out of the hall. The Death God team was already waiting outside the gate of the West Court. Xuanhuan looked at Dongfang Nangong and the other 4 who were standing in the Death God team. He nodded at them with a smile and waved his hand to signal them to go. The square next to the teleportation array was already full of people. It was a large crowd, but except for a small number of people who were gathered together, the rest were standing in neat rows in the square. Xuanhuan squinted his eyes slightly. Among the people who were talking and laughing, he saw the strong Fengzi, the flowers and plants that were more beautiful than women, and Yu Qingqing, who still looked like a white lotus with her face covered. He also saw the handsome Long Shueishui. However, when he saw the elegant Xuanhuan with the folding fan in his hand and the gray eyes, an invisible murderous aura surged from his body. Ever since he entered Dragon City, this guy had been avoiding meeting him. It seemed that after entering Battle Island, he had no scruples and was not afraid of meeting Xuanhuan. "Brother Han." Xuanhuan and the others appeared in the square and attracted everyone's attention. Fengzi shouted from afar and waved at him. However, when he saw Yi Qingwu, who was standing beside Xuanhuan, his body obviously stiffened. He looked at Yi Qingwu with a fiery gaze and didn't even look at Xuanhuan. Yi Qingwu's hot clothes outlined her curvaceous figure. Together with the pure smile on her face, she successfully attracted the attention of all the men on the scene. It also made Yu Qingqing's pure black eyes shrink. Meanwhile, Xuanhuan's gaze swept to a tall and beautiful girl beside Long Shueishui. She held a cyan long sword in her hand and had a heroic look on her face. Seeing this girl standing together with Long Shueishui, he easily guessed her identity. Just as he was about to introduce Yi Qingwu to everyone, the girl beside Long Shueishui unexpectedly opened her mouth first. Unexpectedly, the woman next to Long Shuelu was the first to speak. She revealed a friendly smile and said, "Younger sister Qingwu, I didn't expect you to come too. Did your old man agree?" Yi Qingwu ignored everyone's fiery gaze and walked straight to the girl's side. She affectionately held the girl's hand and her cute nose twitched. She said coquettishly, "Big sister Sinan, with you here, why would I be afraid of those demons and barbarians? Who can stop your dragon cry sword?" "Hee little girl, don't be afraid of flattery. If you want me to protect you, just follow me." The tall girl smiled and pinched Yi Qingwu's delicate nose. Her expression was very natural and she had a graceful temperament as she looked around. "That won't do. I want to help my family's old man and look after my family's little Han. Yi Qingwu smiled tenderly and her chest trembled, causing everyone's eyes to flicker. Everyone heard the conversation between the two girls and understood each other's identity. Feng Zi and the others sighed inwardly and lowered their heads in shame. They had long heard of Yi Qingwu's great name. Not only because of Yi Qingyu's precious granddaughter's terrifying cultivation, but also because Yi Qingwu dared to angrily scold Tu Qianjun in front of the divine general of the divine city. Yi Qingwu's cultivation level of 6th on the earth roll made them feel extremely ashamed. Moreover, Yi Qingwu's fiery temper also made them slightly restrain their originally unbridled gazes. Occasionally, when they inadvertently swept a glance at her, their gazes became slightly fiery. Yi Qinghan, on the other hand, confirmed the identity of the tall and handsome woman. Long Xinan, Dragon Bastard's only daughter. She was 29 years old and unmarried. Her strength was only slightly inferior to that of Yi Dao's back then. She was at the peak of the Duke tier, the undisputed first on the earth roll, and the leader of the younger generation. At this moment, Yi Qinghan finally understood why that short old man named his daughter Long Xinan. He was practically raising his daughter as a man. However, although this girl looked valiant and heroic on the surface, she had a different temperament of a mature woman. Yi Qinghan greets Miss Xinan. Yi Qinghan thought quickly in his mind. After confirming her identity, he smiled and cupped his hands in salute. You're too polite. Some time ago, I heard that my little sister Qingqing had chosen a good husband and had always wanted to meet him. I'm very satisfied to see you today. Long Xinan pulled Yu Qingqing's hand and looked at Yi Qinghan with a smile. It was obvious that she was cheering for Yu Qingqing. This is Miss Qingqing's favor. Yi Qinghan is ashamed. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose awkwardly and said with some embarrassment. He's ashamed? Feng Zi's eyes were blazing as she watched from the side. She curled her lips and was about to say ashamed my ass, but when she saw Yi Qinghan's cold gaze sweeping over like lightning, she quickly stopped and said, very ashamed, very ashamed? I don't care about what happened in the past. If my sister Qingqing is wronged in the future, Yi Qinghan, I'll get even with you. Long Xinan pretended not to hear Feng Zi's words. She only lovingly stroked Yu Qingqing's hair and said softly, Sister. Yu Qingqing lowered her head and shook Long Xianan's hand, indicating that she should stop talking. Yi Qinghan didn't know how to answer. He laughed dryly and felt a little embarrassed. Buzz. At this time, there was a sudden air-piercing sound in the square. Everyone immediately stopped talking and looked up. A man in gray stood in the air above the square. He had white hair and a white beard. On his aged face, a pair of gray eyes were shining with dazzling light. It was the Guardian Elder that Yi Qinghan met when he just entered the Battle Island. Greetings, Guardian Elder. Except for Yi Qinghan's group, everyone present knelt on one knee. Yi Qinghan's group also bowed and shouted in a deep voice. Dispense with the formalities. Today all the elite teams will enter the Nether Island. I represent the House of Ares to send you off. I'll also tell you the relevant rules. First, all the elites are not allowed to kill each other. Once discovered, they will be killed without mercy. Second, once you enter the Nether Island, you must not leave the island for 3 years. After 3 years, you will be transported to the Battle Island. Third, you are not allowed to collude with the Outer Palace. Once discovered, you will be killed without mercy. Fourth, you will obtain points. After killing the enemy, take his ring and put it on the ring on your hand. The ring will absorb the enemy's ring and automatically record the points. Alright, let's go. The Guardian Elder quickly finished speaking and then waved his hand. Suddenly, there was a burst of colorful light in the north of the square. A huge teleportation formation slowly appeared on the square. Looking at the huge teleportation formation, everyone's face became solemn. Their eyes were burning with a monstrous fighting spirit. They stepped firmly and orderly toward the teleportation formation. The huge teleportation formation shook 10 times. The 10,000 densely packed people in the square disappeared. The square that was a little crowded just now suddenly became empty. Sigh, I wonder how many people will die this time. The Guardian Elder looked at the empty square and sighed deeply. A trace of gloominess flashed in his gray eyes. Chapter 77. A white light flashed. This time, due to the close distance, Yi Qinghan didn't feel dizzy and ringing in his ears like when he was teleported from Dragon City to Battle Island. He only blinked his eyes and the scenery in front of him changed. In front of him was a strange place. They were teleported to the foot of a tall mountain. It was a flat and wide grassland. There was a small river not far away, and a large herd of antelopes and buffaloes were drinking water by the river. The grassland was lush and unknown wildflowers were blooming everywhere. The scenery was very beautiful. Everyone. Long Sainan's heroic and majestic voice sounded, disturbing everyone's mood of enjoying the scenery. When everyone looked at her, she pointed at the mountain and smiled. Let's enter the temporary base camp and settle down first. We'll have a pre-war meeting later. I'll give you a detailed introduction of the situation of Nether Island, and then we can decide on our future path. What do you think? I agree. Yu Qingqing was the first to nod, but she looked at Yi Qinghan. Agree. Yi Qinghan saw Yi Qingwu looking at him, and knew that she had given him the right to decide. Long Sainan, with her strength at the peak of the Marquis realm list, was undoubtedly the strongest among the 10,000 elites present. Furthermore, the rumors about her in the House of Ares were similar to her strange name. She could compete with men and she was better than them. Her strength and wisdom indeed made countless men blush with shame. As the only daughter of House Master Long, she must have seen most of the top-secret information in the House Master's database. Since she proposed to hold a pre-war meeting for everyone, it would only be beneficial for everyone. Therefore Yi Qinghan nodded in agreement without hesitation. Agree. Long Sainan's proposal was immediately agreed by everyone. It seemed that this woman who was not inferior to men had a high prestige among the crowd. However, among the 10,000 elites of the House of Ares, the 5 major families in Dragon City accounted for 2/3. The young masters of the 5 major families all trusted and liked Long Sainan very much. The rest of the elites were also inextricably linked with the 5 major families. This result seemed to be accidental, but also inevitable. Everyone began to quickly walk towards the temporary base camp halfway up the mountain. This temporary base camp was set up by the Divine Battle Abode after countless prefecture battles. There were a lot of simple bamboo buildings in the base camp. Although they were very simple, they were still habitable. After experiencing countless mansion wars, countless sentries and simple mechanisms were set up in the surroundings so that they could be alerted in advance if anyone approached. Team 1 be on guard. Team 2 and Team 3 clean up the barracks. Team 4 and Team 5, go hunt for food and cook. Long Sainan was obviously used to commanding troops. She skillfully instructed her subordinates to get busy. This time Dragon City had sent a total of 1,000 people. Some of them were Dragon City's own people, while others were temporary additions. Long Sainan obviously didn't order the rest of the family's elites, and the elite teams formed from various places. The others also consciously rested on the spot, not wanting to add to the chaos. The efficiency of 1,000 people was very high. In less than an hour they had already tidied up the temporary base camp. The captains of the various elite teams let their people return to their assigned residences to rest. Then, the representatives of the major families and the leaders of the teams followed Long Sainan to the conference hall of the base camp. Although it was called a conference hall, it was actually a slightly larger bamboo building. Everyone sat down on the simple wooden stools and began the first pre-war meeting. I won't say any more nonsense. After the meeting, it's up to you whether you want to stay or leave. Seeing that everyone had taken their seats, Long Sainan didn't waste any more time and went straight to the point. First of all, I've decided to follow the usual practice and set up a temporary base camp here. I will send a team of elites to guard the vicinity 24 hours a day. All the elites participating in the mansion wars can cultivate, recuperate, and rest here. Of course, after today, everyone will have to take care of their own food. Those who want to stay here can stay until the end of the mansion wars. Of course, if the enemy comes to attack, I hope that all the elites in the base camp will fight together. Agreed. The first decision was clearly approved by everyone. Every generation would set up a temporary base camp for those who had experienced hard battles to rest and recuperate. Those who didn't want to fight could also rest in the temporary base camp. Under normal circumstances, if the enemy wanted to attack the base camp from thousands of miles away, it would be very difficult. Therefore, although this base camp wasn't absolutely safe, it was still a safe place in the crisis-ridden Nether Island. Now that Long Cheng had obviously taken on this heavy burden alone, everyone was naturally happy. Second, I think most of you have understood the terrain of Nether Island, but there are still a few who don't. Let me give you a brief introduction. Long Sainan gestured to her subordinates to spread out a map. Then she picked up a bamboo and explained to everyone, Nether Island is triangular. We are now in the southern corner, and the other 2 corners are the base camps of the Demon God's Mansion and the River Barbarian God's Mansion. Everyone can see that the most central area is a circular plain, which is the battlefield of the decisive battle. The outer area of the circle is where our elites will fight the illusory forest. Except for the three corners, the entire nether island is a round cake. There is a small hole in the center of the round cake, where the decisive battle will take place. The rest of the place is the illusory forest. The illusory forest will be the place where everyone will fight for the next 2 years. There are treasures, magic beasts, enemies, and of course the most common thing is the ubiquitous microtransmission array. These transmission arrays are invisible when not activated, but once activated, they will randomly send you to every corner of the illusory forest. Therefore, everyone must be careful when exploring the path. Don't rush around recklessly. Otherwise, you will be teleported to an entire team of demon elites, and then you will definitely die. There are also magic beasts in the forest. You must be careful if you encounter them. The magic beasts here are at least of the 4th level, and the highest are of the 8th level. They can directly kill anyone here. Of course, 50% of the magic beasts have treasures around them. Whether you can get them or not depends on your luck. My advice to everyone is to stay alive first. Many of you may want to use the capital battle to kill people and get points in exchange for a large amount of wealth, treasures, or the position of a city lord. But if you lose your life, you will lose everything. I wish everyone good luck. Long Sanan's words made the people present feel that they had benefited a lot, but also extinguished the fiery hearts of many. Many people came to the capital battle once every 60 years with the mentality of killing people and gaining points. They knew that points represented fame and status. Points could be exchanged for a lifetime of wealth, countless beauties, and the position of a city lord in 500 small cities and 100 large cities. But Long Sanan's words made them realize the fact that if they lost their life, then they would lose everything. Illusory forest. Xuanhuan carefully looked at the map again. He had actually seen this map before and understood that this was their main battlefield, as well as the dangers and treasures it contained. The forest was very large. If he were to rush at full speed, it would take him a month to cross from south to north in a straight line. But he thought that even Long Sanan, the #1 expert on the Earth list, wouldn't dare to run in a straight line. The transmission arrays in the illusory forest would randomly change after every capital battle. Most importantly, the high-level magic beasts inside would also change territories after every capital battle, or enter to replenish the magic beasts consumed in the previous capital battle. As a result, no clan or force could know the coordinates of the transmission arrays and high-level magic beasts before the capital battle. Everything had to be explored by the participants of the capital battle. The large clans and forces could only mark the locations where high-level magic beasts were most likely to appear on the map, as well as many dangerous areas. After the meeting, everyone returned to their respective encampments. They began to prepare food and water for the start of the battle. In the afternoon, teams began to leave the temporary headquarters, crossed the small river, and entered the illusory forest. The 10,000 elites were the elite teams formed by the various clans of the House of Ares. On the surface, most of them belonged to or were vassals of the 5 major clans and the 6 major forces of Dragon City. In fact, apart from the elite disciples of their own clans, most of the others were only temporary vassals. Once they arrived at Nether Island, they would go their separate ways. The main purpose of the elites who came here was to kill people and gain points, take risks and obtain treasures. If they were to follow the butts of the major forces all the time, they would be the ones to fight when the time came. They wouldn't get a share of the points and treasures. They weren't fools. Of course, they wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Therefore, after arriving at Nether Island, they would either travel in groups or go out alone to try their luck. Of course, this phenomenon was the same in the past capital battles, so the major forces wouldn't blame them. After all, everyone was risking their lives. Moreover, the illusory forest wasn't suitable for large groups of people to travel together. Firstly, it was too big of a target, and secondly, the terrain of the illusory forest didn't allow it. Perhaps half of them would be sent to different parts of the forest by the transmission arrays. After some simple preparations, Yi Yi and Yi San led 400 people into the illusory forest. Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu just looked at them from afar, and didn't go over to bid farewell to them. On the surface, they were elite teams formed by 2 small clans in a small city, but in secret, they were the Yi family's death warriors, carrying out a secret mission. Chapter 78. The people from the 5 great clans didn't leave. Yi Qinghan, Fengzi, Huahua, and Yu Qingqing returned to their base and prepared a large amount of food and water to prepare for war. Shui Wuhan and his team stayed in their base quietly and didn't come out. They seemed to be preparing to stay here for a long time and not enter the psychedelic forest for the time being. In the Feng clan's encampment, Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu were summoned by Feng Zi to a large bamboo building. She said that she had something important to discuss. Yi Qinghan realized that Hua Hua and Yu Qingqing were all there as soon as he entered. Seeing that they were smiling at him, he sat down and asked in confusion, "Why did you summon me in such a hurry?" "Good news. That's great news." Feng Zi chuckled. His face was glowing as he said excitedly. Hua Hua was also very happy. She blinked her beautiful eyes and said, "It's indeed good news. This is fun." Yu Qingqing's limpid eyes stared at Yi Qinghan for a while before she started to explain, "Our 3 clans have just decided on something. We will transfer the 50 most elite experts from our clans and have them join your team. Of course, after killing someone all the points will be given to you." There was such a good thing? Yi Qinghan was stunned. It was understandable that the Yu family wanted to help him because of him. However, Feng Zi and Hua Hua didn't seem to be that close to them, right? After all, they represented the interests of their respective families. Hence, he looked at Feng Zi and Hua Hua in confusion. Yi Qingwu also looked at the two of them with a smile. She seemed to be puzzled by their actions. "Young Master Han, I'm not criticizing you. Why didn't you tell us earlier that you needed points to save your sister's life? If you had told me earlier, I would have definitely gathered all the elites in my family to help you flatten Nether Island." Feng Zi looked at Yi Qinghan with some reproach, patted her chest and said heroically, "Hee, a team made up of the strongest elites from the 4 great clans. Our family will be in charge of scouting and assassination, the Yu family will be in charge of elite attacks, the Feng family will be in charge of firepower support, and the Yi family will be in charge of frontal assault. Although he could block such a powerful elite team, it's enough to flatten the entire Nether Island." Hua Hua smiled sinisterly as if he was looking forward to the future, where they would kill Buddhas and gods. Feng Zihua's words caused Yi Qinghan's heart to burn. Indeed, if the 4 great families formed an elite team, it would definitely be incomparably valiant. The Hua family's stealth was the strongest technique for scouting and assassination, while the Yu family assisted with the spirit attack, causing the enemy to fall into an illusion. Then the Yi family would charge forward from the front, while the Feng family would attack with their swords from behind. Who would be able to stop such a powerful team? Most importantly, those present were the treasures of their respective families, so there would definitely be 1 or 2 dukes following them. When all these experts gathered together, and Quan's aggressiveness would definitely be super strong. Yi Qinghan stood up and bowed. His expression was solemn as he said sincerely, I can't return the kindness of the 3 of you, so I won't say any more polite words. This time the Yi family owes your family a favor and I also owe the 3 of you a favor. Haha, you're welcome. We owed you a favor on Tranquil Lake Island last time, so we're just fulfilling our promise. Also, your wife has already given us 2 of the finest Tranquil Lake disciples of the Yu family. If you want to thank someone, thank your wife. However, since you're willing to owe me a favor, I'm very willing to accept it." Feng Zihua touched his old face, glanced at Yu Qingqing and spoke with some embarrassment. Hua Hua also chuckled and said, "A favor from Yi Qinghan is a good thing, hee." Yu Qingqing didn't seem to mind at all. Her limpid eyes flickered, but she didn't say anything. However, the smile in her eyes deepened. Yi Qinghan didn't say anything either. He just looked deeply at Yu Qingqing and smiled faintly. Yi Qingwu, who was at the side, pouted her lips without leaving a trace. Her eyes flashed with an indescribable look before returning to normal. She smiled and said, "I'll definitely report your kindness to the clan leader. We'll definitely repay you in the future." With that, Feng Zihua and the others became even more embarrassed. They rubbed their heads and said, "Miss Wu, you're too serious. The few of us came to the prefecture battle to have some fun and gain experience. Plus, it's safer for the big clans to be together." Hua Hua stood up and said excitedly, "There's no time to lose. Everyone go back and gather some people. The rest of you can form small teams and guard the temporary base camp. They didn't come with us, so it's very dangerous. Let's practice and coordinate. I can't wait to rush into the psychedelic forest and fight." Feng Zi and Hua Hua came to the prefecture battle island to train. They didn't care about how many monsters and barbarians they killed or how many points they got. After all, they didn't lack power, money, or women. Of course, they didn't care about the things they exchanged for points. Of course, it was impossible for them to get too many points. Yu Qingqing's suggestion was new and interesting to the 2 of them. The strongest elites of the 4 clans formed a super elite team. Not only would their safety be guaranteed, but their combat power would also be unprecedented. Yu Qingqing gave them 2 of the best beauties of the Tranquil Lake. Now that Yi Qinghan owed them another favor, they were happy and willing. In the Shui clan's base camp, Shui Wuhan sat expressionlessly with his eyes closed. Old Sher and old Emo didn't follow him this time. Instead, two young men stood on his left and right to protect him. "Young master, are you sure you don't want to go with the 4 clans?" The young man in white on the left asked worriedly and respectfully. He looked a little worried. The young man on the right also frowned and said, "Yes, the 5 clans are connected. This will go against our ancestors' principles." Xuanhuan's mouth twitched when he heard the two young men's words. He sneered and said, "There are some things you won't understand even if I tell you. Let me tell you, the Fire Dragon continent is a dead well and we are the frogs at the bottom. The only difference is who can jump higher and who can jump shorter. My task now is to cultivate and jump out of this well. The rest is nothing. You can go now. I'm going to cultivate. All teams stay in the temporary base camp until the prefecture battle is over." Sigh. The two young men shook their heads and sighed as they walked out of the bamboo house. Many people knew that there was a wider world beyond the Fire Dragon continent. It was just that thousands of years had passed and no one had been able to jump out. However, the young master insisted on it. What was even stranger was that the clan didn't oppose or support this. It seemed like they were giving him freedom. They were helpless and could only follow Xuanhuan. After an afternoon of adjustments, Xuanhuan's super elite team finally took shape. This team gathered all the young experts of the 4 clans. Their strength was unprecedented. Each team had 50 people in each family. There were 7 Duke-level experts and 6 of them were second-level Duke-level experts. There were 150 martial realm martial artists, and the remaining 50 were third-level general realm experts. There were a total of 212 people. The one with the lowest strength was actually Xuanhuan, who was only a first-level general. At night, the few of them gathered again to discuss their cooperation. They practiced a few offensive and defensive formations, as well as the measures to deal with unexpected situations. They were busy until late at night before returning to their rooms to rest. On the second day, as soon as the sun rose, the super elite squad set off in a majestic manner. The team left the temporary base camp, crossed the river, and entered the psychedelic forest. After last night's discussion, the entire elite team changed into black warrior attire. Once they entered the psychedelic forest, all of them would cover their faces if they encountered an enemy. However, their bodies were smeared with the Yu clan's special perfume to prevent the enemy from covering their faces as well. Xuanhuan, Huahua, and Ziyu Qingqing had different patterns embroidered on their chests to differentiate them. Hua teams spread out and be on guard. Once they entered the forest, Huahua immediately ordered half of the Hua clan to spread out to scout and be on guard. When they heard Huahua's order, the 20 people in front of the team spread out and disappeared into the dense forest. Not long after, a man in black quickly reported the situation in front of them and continued to move forward. The team moved forward slowly. Although they had just entered the psychedelic forest, no one dared to be careless. After all, the demon clan and the barbarian race could appear at any time. Before they understood the surrounding terrain and situation, no one could guarantee their safety. Yi Shisan and the other 6 marquis surrounded Yi Qinghan, Yi Qingwu, and the others in the center as they scanned their surroundings vigilantly. It was their first time participating in the prefecture battle. Furthermore, they had the heavy responsibility of protecting their young masters and mistresses. They were confident that they could protect themselves, but they did not have absolute confidence that they could protect their masters. After all, the psychedelic forest was too strange. Yi Qinghan was not worried at all. Instead, he felt a little disappointed. Before participating in the prefecture battle, he had fantasized about fighting a hot-blooded battle. He did not expect that he would become a vase that was being carefully protected, afraid that he would fall and break. It was a terrible feeling, but he had no other choice. He could only release his battle aura from the soles of his feet and practice the shadow step. Hua Clan 1 reports that the situation in front of us has been explored. There are 7 transportation matrices that have been marked. There are no high-level magical beasts. We can move forward quickly. In less than an hour, the Hua Clan's intelligence personnel reported that they had thoroughly checked the surrounding terrain. It was confirmed that it was safe. Continued to scout. 4 hours later, we will change shifts with Hua Clan 2. Huahua nodded. He was very satisfied with his subordinate's work and waved his hand to indicate that he understood. Everyone began to move forward at a faster pace. After all, it was probably the best choice to use the Hua Clan as scouts in this world. Since the Hua Clan had said that it was safe, it meant that they were basically safe unless there were any accidents. Moreover, the squad was full of experts. Even if they were to face any unexpected situation, they would be able to solve it very well. Hence, after gradually adapting to the environment of the psychedelic forest, the team sped up. According to the agreement made by Yi Qinghan last night, the team's goal today was to advance 50 kilometers. Then they would find a place with a lot of transportation matrices and wait. They would eliminate some demons and barbarians who accidentally teleported over. They would first understand the attacks of the demons and barbarians, as well as their special skills, so that they could better deal with the elite teams of the demon race in the future. They marched silently. Because of the swaying figures of the Yu clan's ladies, the youths in the team did not feel bored at all. Instead they stood tall and straight and moved like the wind. Some of the warriors even secretly made eye contact with the ladies of the Yu clan. When men and women worked together, work was not tiring at all. Report: a demon soldier suddenly appeared in the transportation matrices ahead. Team 1 is secretly following him and did not alert him. After an hour, an elite from the Hua clan suddenly reported. Everyone was invigorated. Fengzi rubbed his hands excitedly as if he had seen a new toy. Then he waved his hand and said, "What are we waiting for? Follow him and eliminate him." Chapter 79. The crowd followed the Hua family assassins excitedly as they walked forward in soft voices. Even though their faces were covered by black cloth, the fiery gaze in their eyes betrayed their inner feelings. Ever since they were born, this was the first time they were facing the demon race who had fought against the human race for thousands of years. Even the few powerful cultivators of the dukedom realm felt the corners of their eyes twitching faintly. The three races had fought for tens of thousands of years, and the hatred between them had been carved into their bones. Once they met, it would definitely be a situation where they would fight to the death. At this moment, a demon, even if he was a demon emperor comparable to a duke's, would definitely die today. Hence the crowd was very relaxed. They were just a little excited and curious to see another race for the first time. After walking quietly and quickly for more than 5 kilometers, the demon's figure was finally exposed to the crowd. When the crowd saw him, a sense of loss welled up in the depths of their hearts. In their hearts, they had always thought that since the demon was called demon, he should have a monstrous demonic aura, a cow's head, a horse's face and a stocky build. In the end, the one in front of them looked like a human, except that his head was slightly larger. His limbs were extremely thick and his long golden hair draped over his back. His nose was larger and taller than a human's, and his teeth were slightly protruding. He looked somewhat ferocious and terrifying. Furthermore, this demon also had long golden hair, making him look like a savage. This demon was very cautious. He looked left and right as he slowly walked forward. However, the crowd's arrival clearly made him vigilant, and he immediately noticed the group of humans behind him. In an instant his face turned deathly pale. He roared loudly and his body became even more muscular. Yellow light circulated around his body, and his speed suddenly increased as he rushed forward without any mishap. The flowers and plants chuckled and let out a long howl. Suddenly, 3 black figures appeared beside the demon. They held sharp swords in their hands and slid past the demon's body. Then their bodies flashed and disappeared. The afterimage clone technique. A Hua family assassin elegantly floated past with the afterimage clone technique and left a deep wound at the base of the demon's thigh. This caused the golden-furred demon to pause. His leg trembled and he almost fell. Swoosh! Just as the golden-furred monster was about to continue running away, a black silhouette flashed in front of him. Next, the black silhouette flashed and split into 3 silhouettes. Once again, the 3 silhouettes shot towards the other leg of the golden-furred monster at lightning speed. As there was too much speed and it was difficult to tell which of the 3 figures was real and which was fake, the demon could only keep dodging in order to avoid the 3 rapidly floating swords. However, the speed of the swords was too much. After the demon received another heavy blow, the figures in front of him disappeared again. Roar! The demon was clearly confused by this strange attack and didn't dare to move forward. He paused for a moment, perhaps knowing that he would definitely die today. In the end he didn't object. With a loud roar, his body grew even thicker and with bloodshot eyes he pounced towards Yi Qinghan's group. No one moved when they saw the sinister face coming closer and closer. Only 2 dukes took 2 steps forward. As for Yu Qingqing, she chuckled and her eyes emitted a colorful radiance that directly entered the demon's eyes. The demon immediately stood dumbfounded on the spot and looked at the crowd in a daze. Then he actually started giggling foolishly. At this moment, Fengzi activated the sword kinesis technique. The black sword on her back turned into a black light and directly smashed the golden-furred demon's head into pieces. It was obvious that everyone's first cooperation was on point. However, many people present didn't seem too satisfied with this situation. They looked at the bloody and headless corpse of the demon and the blood that was mixed with white brain matter. Someone made the first sound of vomiting. As a result, a third of the people present ran to the forest at the side and vomited. Among this third of people, half of them were women from the Yu clan. Xuanhuan had killed people before and not just once. Naturally, he didn't feel any discomfort. He patted Jianghu, who was forcing herself to remain calm. He walked to the front and took a ring from the demon's corpse. The ring was orange. It seemed to belong to a great demon warrior, which was equivalent to the commander realm of human warriors. Also, judging from the demon's performance in the battle just now, it was obvious that his cultivation wasn't high. Xuanhuan gently slid the orange ring over the yellow ring on his hand. The demon's ring disappeared into the air, while the number 5 appeared on Xuanhuan's ring. All 5 points were easily obtained. What a good start. Although there was still a long way to go before he could reach 10,000 points, it wasn't a good start no matter what. The corners of Xuanhuan's mouth curled into a happy smile. He glanced at Yu, who was lying on the ground and vomiting. He also looked at Jianghu, who wanted to persuade her but was also forcing herself to endure it. Jianghu laughed bitterly, shook her head and walked over. Here, wipe your mouth. It's like this for the first time. You'll get used to it after vomiting. The demon race is a hybrid between a demonic beast and a human. If you think of him as a demonic beast, you might feel better. Yu-Qingqing's black veil had already been taken off. At this time she was bending over to hold a tree trunk and retching. Her originally snow-white face had become strangely flushed because of the vomiting. Her whole person looked even more lovely and charming. Seeing the handkerchief that Xuanhuan handed over and listening to his unconventional persuasion, she felt much better. She took the silk scarf and wiped her mouth. The corners of her mouth curled up and she forced a smile. She closed her eyes slightly and lightly exhaled, stabilizing her emotions. Little Han, you've forgotten about me after getting a wife. I'm not feeling well either, so why aren't you comforting me? Jianghu looked on from the side, and a hint of jealousy flashed in her eyes. She pouted and said with dissatisfaction. Hee sister, didn't you not vomit? If you vomit, I'll take off my clothes and wipe it for you. How about that? Xuanhuan laughed mischievously. His eyes narrowed into slits, and he lightly placed his hand on Jianghu's shoulder. Go to hell, I'm not that weak. Jianghu angrily slapped his hand away and rolled her eyes at him. A hint of joy flashed across her eyes, as if she was very satisfied with Xuanhuan's intimacy and attitude. B*****. All the good cabbages are going to be eaten by pigs. Meanwhile, Feng Zi, who was standing on the side, glanced at Xuanhuan being intimate with the two most beautiful girls in the team. She felt extremely unbalanced and said indignantly to Flora and Fauna. Flora and Fauna also bit their lips and their eyes were burning. After a long while they finally said, F***ck, why aren't handsome men popular these days? Xuanhuan is an animal. He doesn't look that good, but why is he so popular with women? After a short rest, the group continued their journey. After knowing that they had just killed a great demon warrior, they no longer looked down on him. Although the demon did not look particularly powerful on the surface, his speed had obviously increased after he roared twice. This was definitely a demon technique of the demon clan. How could a great demon warrior increase his speed so much? If he had encountered a high-level demon clan or barbarian clan, it would definitely be very terrifying. For the entire morning, the small team did not encounter another foreign clan. It seemed that the demon just now was an unlucky fellow who had accidentally encountered the teleportation formation. At noon everyone took turns to rest. After hastily eating the prepared dry rations and fresh water, they continued their journey in the afternoon. At this moment they had only advanced for more than 20 miles. The prefecture battle had only started 2 days ago. Presumably, even the demon clan who could fly would not be able to reach this place so quickly. Other than encountering the scattered enemies who were teleported here by the teleportation formation, it was estimated that if they wanted to encounter the main force or the elite team, they would need to travel for at least 10 days before they could reach the depths of the psychedelic forest and meet the teams of the demon clan and the barbarian clan. The Hua family assassins were the most tired during the boring march. The rest of the people, on the other hand, were hurrying on their journey leisurely. They did not need to worry too much. After witnessing the Hua family assassins' stealthy method of appearing and disappearing like ghosts in the morning, everyone had a deeper understanding of the Hua family's ultimate technique. After being amazed, they were even more relieved to hand over the task of scouting and guarding the way to them. During the afternoon's journey, they did not encounter another barbarian or demon. Instead, they encountered 3 elite teams of the human race. After a casual greeting, the team moved forward alone. The other three teams were only slightly curious as to when a team of black-robed warriors had appeared from the battle god's mansion. The team seemed to have an extraordinary aura. They did not converse excessively. After a brief greeting, they went their separate ways. In the evening, the small team had traveled another dozen miles. They were thinking about where they should stay for the night. The Hua family assassins had delivered a piece of excellent news. They had found an excellent treasured land. Everyone's state of mind was shaken. The tiredness of the day's journey was immediately expelled. Under the Hua family assassins' lead, they hurried to the treasured land in high spirits. The so-called treasured land was a small pond. This small pond was surrounded by rows of huge ancient trees. If one looked from afar, they would not be able to see this place at all. However, this row of ancient trees grew very strangely. They only grew around the small pond. Near the pond, there was indeed a wide lawn that was dozens of meters long. Ah, Huajia, well done. I'll remember your merit. That's right, this is indeed a treasured land. According to the information, this is the demon-slaying pond. It's definitely a treasured land. I didn't expect that after so many years, this place is still so well preserved. When the flowers and plants arrived at this place, they carefully looked around and suddenly burst into laughter. They excitedly rubbed their hands together and nodded continuously. Their eyes were full of smiles. Xiao, it's just a lousy pond. Look at how happy you are. Fengzi was slightly puzzled. When she saw that the Hua family members were all happy, she couldn't help but mock them. Lunatic, what do you know? I'll talk to you later. Group 1, spread out and carefully search for the transportation formations. There are many transportation formations nearby. Find all of them. Group 2, enter the first level of alert. The barbarians and demons may appear here at any time. Once they appear, send the alarm immediately. Just as Huajia was about to scold Fengzi, his eyes suddenly flashed. He stopped talking nonsense with Fengzi and shouted in a deep voice with a stern expression. When everyone heard this, they immediately stopped joking. They ordered their people to spread out and follow the Hua family assassins to be on guard. When everyone was in position, Huajia took out a sheepskin map and explained to everyone. You all know that the Hua family is suitable for assassination and killing, but not for direct combat. Therefore, every time the residents war, the family will search for a good location that is suitable for killing other clans. This place is ranked 4th among the 5 treasured lands recorded by the Hua family. Our ancestors named it the demon-slaying pond. Huajia raised his head slightly proudly. He was very satisfied with the hope and admiration in everyone's eyes. He continued, everyone look at the terrain here. This is an absolutely safe place according to the Tan family's records. The ancient trees can rest without worry, and the pond water can be used boldly. There is well water under the pond. Every morning, large numbers of wild beasts will come here to drink. Everyone doesn't have to worry about food and water. Most importantly, there are a large number of teleportation arrays hidden in the vicinity. Although the teleportation arrays would move every time, this place seems to be very special. Although the teleportation arrays would move every time, there would always be a large number of teleportation arrays here. Every day there will be demons and barbarians who accidentally step into the transportation formations and are transported here. We only need to guard this place and we will be able to obtain a large number of points every day. When the few of them heard this, their eyes suddenly emitted a dazzling light. Everyone present was not stupid. They naturally understood the importance of this terrain. If there were a large number of transportation formations nearby, this place would definitely be the best feng shui treasure land. After an hour, everyone finally obtained the answer they wanted. After a careful investigation by the Hua family assassins, they discovered 33 transportation formations nearby. Chapter 80. The report from the Hua family assassins lifted everyone's spirits, especially the ladies of the Yu family. They did not have to travel tirelessly and there was a pool here. Although with their cultivation base they would not get dirty if they did not bathe for half a month, but which girl did not like to look pretty? Therefore everyone began to divide the work. 100 people were sent to guard the 33 transportation formations, while the other 100 people began to set up camp. They leaped onto the ancient tree with ease, and found that the simple beds that the Hua family had previously set up were still there. Everyone was delighted. They quickly gathered some dry grass from nearby and threw it on the bed. They also took out the prepared bed covers from their backpacks and threw them on top. A large number of simple beds were arranged. Meanwhile, the ladies of the Yu family began to set up a simple bathhouse in the pool. Although it was called a bathhouse, it was actually just a few pieces of wood inserted into the small river beside the pool. Then they would cover it with straw and wrap it with bed sheets. This was to prevent them from exposing themselves. After busying themselves for a while, everyone finally finished tidying up. Meanwhile, the ladies of the Yu family and Yi Qingwu bluntly set up the pool on the east side of the bathhouse as a forbidden area. They forbade men from going there. After tidying up, they distributed the food and prepared to eat. However, the cry of a kingfisher sounded from afar. Enemies! This was the sound of the Hua family's alarm. Everyone's hearts tightened. They quickly put away their food, put on their weapons and armor, and quickly leaped toward the source of the alarm. They approached the northern area of the alarm quietly through the thick weeds. Not far away they found 3 tall figures looking around in confusion. The 3 figures were more than 2 meters tall. The muscles on their bodies were even more exaggerated than Feng Zi's. Their 2 thick arms were thicker than everyone's thighs. Their entire bodies were wrapped in thick leather armor. The foreheads of their 3 large heads were slightly protruding. Their eyeballs, which were the size of half a fist, were slightly bulging. They looked very much like a few apes wearing leather armor. The barbarians. Yi Qinghan and Feng Zi looked at each other and nodded lightly. With a wave of his hand, 10 martial realm experts walked out from the Yi family elites behind him. Under the leadership of Yi Shisan, they charged toward the 3 barbarians. After a brief moment of confusion, the 3 barbarians came to their senses and began to carefully observe the terrain around them. Then their eyes, which were as big as a bull's, abruptly turned to look at Yi Qinghan. When they saw the 10 disciples of the Yi family dressed in black robes and brimming with a murderous aura, the 3 berserkers opened their mouths wide and roared a few words. Then they swung their thick arms aggressively and walked towards the elites of the Yi family while swaying their bodies like giant gorillas. Beast fusion. The 10 elite disciples of the Yi family were obviously disciples of the Yi family. They quickly merged with their beasts one after another. In an instant, countless demonic beast shadows appeared in the sky. Meanwhile, the bodies of the 10 Yi family elites changed slightly at the same time. Some had pointy ears, some had sharp claws, some had thicker legs, and some had 2 legs on their heads. However, all 10 of them had black tattoos on the corners of their eyes, which made them look very strange, demonic, and extraordinary. %*Yi and clan %*. The 3 barbarians were obviously dumbfounded by the Yi clan's elites formation. They spat out some very awkward words from their mouths. It seemed to be a little similar to the words of the human race. Their words probably meant that they recognized the disciples of the Yi family. After all, the 5 major families were the representatives of the House of Ares. Over the years they had slaughtered countless demons and barbarians. The people from the 2 manors would definitely collect information about them and inform the clansmen participating in the mansion battle so that they could be careful. Young Master Han, is your family closely related to the demon race? Why do you look like a demon after you transform? Feng Zi chuckled and glanced at Yi Qinghan and Yi Qingwu with ill intentions. Look like your head. I see that your body is thick and strong. You're the relative of the barbarians. No, I think you're originally a barbarian and came to the human side as a spy, Yi Qinghan immediately retorted, not to be outdone. Yi Qingwu's innocent face also heard Feng Zi's words. She was obviously unhappy. A trace of anger flashed through her eyes as she cracked her knuckles. She said hatefully, "Little crazy brat, do you want me to spar with you? I promise I'll make you wish you were dead." "Don't. Sister Wu, I was wrong, okay? Look, the battle is starting." There was no doubt about Yi Qingwu's strength. With the strength of a first-level martial and her 7th-grade snow fox, her strength would definitely reach the peak of the 2nd-level martial after merging. Moreover, this girl was Yi Qingyu's treasure. Yi Qingyu had given all the useful treasures he obtained to her. Feng Zi, with the strength of a 3rd-level general, would definitely wish he were dead if he fought her. Everyone's attention was successfully diverted by Feng Zi's last sentence to the 3 barbarians. Everyone knew that the first few battles were very important. This was the best opportunity to understand the barbarians' and demons' fighting style and techniques. If they understood them well now, it would be easier to deal with them in future large-scale battles. Know yourself and know your enemy and you will never be defeated. Everyone sent the 10 martial realm cultivators from the Yi family to test the barbarians' fighting style. Moreover, there were 7 Duke realm cultivators watching from the side, so their safety was guaranteed. After the 10 elites of the Yi family merged with their battle beasts, they quickly surrounded the 3 barbarians. However, they didn't attack immediately. Instead, 3 of them faced the 3 barbarians separately. Bang! The elite Yi family on the left fought the barbarian first. The elite battle beast of the Yi family on the left was probably a pure strength type. This elite didn't have a weapon, so he just waved his fist and punched the barbarian heavily. He didn't release his battle aura, but condensed his battle aura on his fist, enhancing it to a terrifying strength. His huge fist collided with the barbarian's fist, which was as big as a clay pot. Battle aura surged violently, and a dazzling light erupted from the collision. After a loud explosion, the elite and the barbarian flew back at the same time. The spectators sighed and were shocked. The southern barbarian was indeed a barbarian. After the elite battle beast of the Yi family merged with his battle beast, his strength had probably reached the peak of the martial realm. Now that they exchanged a punch, both sides were injured. It seemed that the information was right. The barbarians were born with great strength and specialized in body refinement. Their bodies were comparable to weapons. The Yi family disciple in the middle was obviously an agile warrior. He held a zamadeo in his hand, and his battle aura was released on the blade, forming a green blade light at the blade's edge. This blade light wasn't just for show, it was an attack method unique to the martial realm. Releasing battle aura on a weapon would make the weapon incomparably sharp and indestructible. After all, the barbarian's defense was rumored to be very strong. Just relying on releasing battle aura and energy attacks wouldn't be able to break his defense. This elite of the Yi clan had a leopard tattoo on his forehead. Although he didn't know what level the beast was, he didn't know. Although he didn't know what level it was obvious that after merging with his beast, his speed had reached a terrifying level. He brandished his zamadeo that had a green blade light, and with his super speed, he continuously dodged the barbarian's huge fists that contained terrifying strength. Then he continuously used his zamadeo to leave blade marks on the barbarian's body. The blade light of this Yi family disciple's battle aura was obviously comparable to a spirit weapon. However, it could only leave scratches on the barbarian's leather armor, and couldn't completely cut through it. Furthermore, the blade marks on the barbarian's exposed skin could only cut through his flesh, and couldn't cut through his bones or break his arms. The defense of these three barbarians, whose realms were unknown, was actually this strong. The third elite from the Yi family was obviously a defense-type warrior. His beast was probably either an elephant or a rhinoceros. His entire body shone with battle aura, as if his body was wrapped in layers of brilliant protective shields. He was actually prepared to withstand the barbarian's fierce punch. Bang! This barbarian was obviously enraged. A cruel smile flashed across his bull-sized eyes. He waved his fist that was as big as a casserole and smashed it down fiercely. His strength was so great, and his speed was so fast that it actually caused a faint whistling sound of wind. The fist collided with the Yi family elite's battle aura protective shield, and a dazzling light blossomed. Then there was another explosion. This barbarian was pushed back a few steps by the huge wave of energy. Then, he looked at the Yi family elite who was still standing in his original position with an incredulous gaze. He looked at his own fist, then looked at the Yi family elite's battle aura protective shield that had dimmed for a moment, and then instantly lit up again. He couldn't believe it. Chapter 81. The three members of the Yi family had obviously been instructed by Yi Shisan to test the barbarians in terms of strength, defense, and attack. It was like an experiment to collect the comprehensive strength of the barbarians in all aspects so that it would be easier to deal with them in the future. Enough. Kill the three of them. Half an hour later, the three elites of the Yi family had fought with the three barbarians dozens of times. Yi Shisan's cold voice sounded. The 10 elites of the Yi family moved quickly and formed a battle formation in all directions, besieging the three barbarians. Young master, go and take their rings and see what level of barbarians they are at. Yi Shisan nodded. He was very satisfied with the performance of the 10 elites of the Yi family. He moved a few steps to the side and came to Yi Qinghan's side. Another point was earned. Yi Qinghan also walked to the corpses of the three barbarians expectantly. He quickly took out the 3 rings and then swiped them on his own ring. After a slight flash of light, the original 10 next to the big battle word on Yi Qinghan's yellow ring turned into 35. 3 barbarian generals. Yi Qinghan said to Yi Shisan. This result was within their expectations. The barbarian generals were comparable to human warriors in the general realm. Although their strength and defense seemed to be much stronger than that of human warriors in the general realm and were basically comparable to that of a martial realm warrior, they only had pure physical strength. They had never cultivated battle aura moves or anything like that. Therefore, when they fought, they only relied on their natural divine strength and strong defense. Their fighting style was relatively simple. The women of the Yu family on the field vomited a little less this time, although they all looked very pale. The 3 barbarians on the field were only stabbed to death by weapons. They were not directly smashed into pieces like last time. Moreover, after vomiting in the morning, their resistance had probably become a little stronger. A few warriors from the Yi family dragged the corpses away and found a place to bury them. As for the rest of the people, they continued to stand guard and guard. The rest of the people returned to the pool to rest. Meanwhile, xuanhuan and the others gathered together and began to discuss the division of labor. After all, they were not going to be stationed here for a few days but for a few months. According to the Hua family's experience, the first 3 months were more chaotic than the first 3 months. Many of the teleportation formations had not been figured out. This would result in a continuous flow of people being teleported to various parts of the illusory forest. Over the past 3 months or so, everyone had been waiting here, easily obtaining points and also familiarizing themselves with their teamwork. They had also collected information on the combat skills of the goblins and barbarians who had been teleported over. After a round of discussion, everyone decided to take shifts. The 200 people were divided into 2 groups, taking turns to rest. If a large number of barbarians and demons did not appear, he would handle it alone. But if a large number of outsiders appeared, or if they were relatively powerful, they would sound the alarm and kill them with all their might. 3 out of the 7 marquee rank powerhouses were stationed in the east, west and north, where the teleportation formations were more concentrated. If a high-level outsiders appeared and they were no match for them, they could quickly rush over. The operation codenamed Hunt officially began. Everyone began to get busy. Those who squatted to guard, those who rested and those who cultivated. Night gradually descended. Xuanhuan was duty-bound to become one of the first members to take the shift. He and the 20 elites of the small team sat cross-legged on a thick and sturdy tree. There were 8 teleportation formations within 500 meters of the tree. Their mission was to guard the 8 teleportation formations. If a small number of outsiders appeared, they would eliminate them alone. If they felt that they were no match for them, they would send a secret signal to summon the patrol team. The Hua family assassins had long since installed some small yet ingenious mechanisms in the teleportation formation below. Whenever an enemy appeared in the teleportation formation, it would certainly make a very soft noise. This was to let them know in advance and quickly prepare a countermeasure so that they could eliminate the enemy as quickly as possible. The silver moon gradually rose into the sky. The salty and slightly hot sea breeze blew from the distant seaside, making one feel drowsy. However, Xuanhuan did not feel sleepy at all. Of course, he did not dare to sleep. After everyone finished their discussion, he formulated a plan for the next 3 months for himself. These 3 months were precious to him. If he did not know how to cherish such a wonderful land like the demon-slaying pool, then he would be too stupid. He prepared to spend the rest of his time in cultivation during these 3 months. Apart from the necessary moments, he was prepared to spend the rest of his time on cultivation. As a first-level general, there were many outsiders on Nether Island who could kill him in an instant. He felt a sense of danger that was like the sea breeze blowing against his face at any moment. Whether it was for himself or for his sister whose life was hanging by a thread, he had to become stronger. He had to become stronger at all cost. Moreover, ever since he returned from Barbarian City, he had become very accustomed to the thrill of becoming strong and controlling his own fate. The difference between his strength and status from half a year ago and his current self was like the difference between heaven and earth. He deeply understood that in this world, if one did not have strength, then one was nothing. Therefore, he formulated a cultivation mission. As long as he had time, he would continuously cultivate, accumulate, and increase his realm. He understood his advantage. His holy beast, Xiaohe, could increase his strength by 1 realm after fusion. He was a first-level general, and after fusion his cultivation level could reach the first-level martial. Combat was secondary as long as his soul realm reached the first-level martial. His heaven-defying fusion battle technique could ignore defense and directly attack the soul, causing the soul to fall into a state of dizziness. Therefore, as long as he got close, he would be able to kill a martial artist in an instant. He had once asked Xuanhuan if he could cultivate his soul alone. His thought was that if his soul could cultivate alone, he would do everything he could to improve his soul. Then, he would be able to kill a martial artist of a higher realm. In the end, Xuanhuan's answer made him very helpless. Before the imperial realm, the soul could only improve along with the cultivation of battle chi and the increase in realm. Unless there was a soul treasure like the spirit pill, or if Xuanhuan entered the state of soul silence in the Yu family, there would be no improvement. The value of the spirit pill was needless to say. If Xuanhuan had it, he wouldn't have to risk his life on Nether Island. As for the state of soul silence, ever since he left the Yu family, Xuanhuan had tried countless times to enter it, but he couldn't. Therefore, Xuanhuan could only improve his battle chi realm. Only when his battle chi realm increased could his soul realm increase. He swore to himself that he would definitely reach the martial realm before the final battle of the prefecture battle. If he could reach the Duke realm after breaking through to the martial realm and fuse with his battle beast, then he would make a huge profit. At that time, even if Yi and the others didn't get enough points, he could still take the risk to sneak attack a Duke realm expert during the final battle and get enough points to exchange for the spirit pill. He ordered a Yi family disciple beside him to call him if anything happened. Xuanhuan sat cross-legged and began to cultivate his battle chi. His father, the peerless genius Yi Dao, had left him a martial arts manual that mentioned that before the general realm, it all depended on one's talent, and after the general realm, it all depended on hard work and comprehension. 300 years ago, there was also a peerless genius in the Feng family who broke through to the general realm at the age of 7, shocking the entire continent. However, because this peerless genius was lazy in cultivation, his cultivation wasn't high in the end. Although Xuanhuan also cultivated from the first level of the elite realm to the first level of the general realm in just a few months, his cultivation wasn't high. Countless people in the Yi family were shocked silly. However, he knew that if he didn't continue to cultivate diligently like the previous 10 years, his ending would be the same as that peerless genius in the Feng family, a flash in the pan and then completely silent. After the general realm, one needed to accumulate a large amount of battle chi and compress it in the dantian into liquid battle chi. After cultivating for a day, the battle chi would finally be compressed into a drop of liquid battle chi the size of a strand of hair. And Xuanhuan's situation was even more serious. The holy beast Xiaohe in his body needed to absorb a large amount of battle chi every day to complete its growth and transformation. Therefore Xuanhuan was even more pressed for time. He had to cultivate his battle chi more diligently than others in order to quickly advance. It was probably because at night, it was easier to encounter transportation arrays on the road at night. The warriors of the 3 clans didn't travel at night. Instead, they hid in various places on the Nether Island to rest and build up their strength. For an entire night, other than an unlucky great barbarian warrior who was teleported over from the western area that the flowers and plants were in charge of, he was quickly eliminated by the flowers and plants. No more barbarians or demons were teleported over. Chapter 82. Xuanhuan cultivated quietly for a whole night and successfully compressed a drop of liquid battle chi. Plus the battle chi water droplets that were compressed before, he had compressed a dozen drops in total. If he wanted to enter the second level of general realm, he had to accumulate half of the water droplets in his dantian. According to the records in Yi Dao's martial art Heart Sutra, a normal dantian would need at least 1,000 battle chi water droplets to be completely filled. Xuanhuan's dantian was obviously 1/3 larger than that of a normal person. Therefore, it was estimated that he had to store about 750 water droplets in order to enter the second level of general realm. There was still a long way to go. At the first glimmer of dawn, everyone was a bit tired and sleepy after guarding for a whole night. At this moment, 2 light sounds rang out from the transmission formation that Xuanhuan was guarding. The elites hiding on the ancient tree were shocked. They immediately became spirited and looked around with sparkling eyes. Xuanhuan was also woken up by the Yi family's disciple beside him. After understanding the situation, Xuanhuan nodded to the Hua family's elite. 2 Hua family elites flashed and disappeared from the thicket. They sneaked over to investigate the situation. After a while, the Hua family elites returned to the tree and brought back 2 shocking news. 2 foreign races were teleported to the 2 transmission formations at the same time. Coincidentally, the 2 transmission formations were not too far away, and the 2 foreign races were a demon and a barbarian. Hee. After being stunned for a while, Xuanhuan curled his lips into an evil smile. He smirked and whispered something into the ear of an elite of the Hua family. After the elite of the Hua family listened to him in confusion, a smile flashed across his eyes. Then he smirked and disappeared. Young master, what should we do? The disciples of the Yi family asked doubtfully when they saw Xuanhuan looking at the transmission formation through the tree leaves with a smile. However, he didn't order people to kill the foreign races. The dozen elites beside him also looked at Xuanhuan anxiously and waited for his order. Sure. Xuanhuan did not explain further. He just waved his hand and continued to stare into the distance. Suddenly, a loud roar rang out in the distance, followed by the sounds of fighting. The expressions of the people in the field suddenly changed. They held their swords in their hands and prepared to attack. However, Xuanhuan did not move. Everyone looked at Xuanhuan confusedly. Another elite from the Hua family almost rushed out, but he remembered Hua's warning the night before, so he did not rush out. Instead, he looked at Xuanhuan with sparkling eyes. Young master. The elites of the Yi family were obviously anxious. They tugged on Yi Qinghan's sleeves. Although their voices were low, they sounded a little urgent. Don't worry. It wasn't our people who did it. You'll know soon enough. Yi Qinghan's eyes were smiling. He patted the Hua family's elite gently, signaling him not to be impulsive. He continued to stare into the distance quietly. Xiao. A figure appeared on top of the tree. It was the elite from the Hua family who disappeared just now. He had an amused smile in his eyes. He chuckled and said, Young Master Han, it's a success. The beasts and the barbarians are fighting. Everyone suddenly realized that this was Yi Qinghan's plan. He actually asked the Hua family to lure the two different clans into a fight. When both of them were injured, they would reap the benefits and easily obtain points. Looking at Yi Qinghan's evil smile, everyone felt a chill down their spine. The disciples of the Yi family knew that Yi Qinghan liked to sneak attack and do dirty tricks in the Yi family. Go. Be careful to hide. Yi Qinghan did not care about everyone's expression. He pulled up the silk scarf that covered his face, waved his hand and jumped down from the tree branch lightly. He dashed towards the battlefield in the distance. Hiding among the weeds, everyone peeked through the dense weeds and quietly looked forward. The one fighting was a barbarian that was slightly shorter than the one they met yesterday. However, their appearances were exactly the same. He was tall and strong, and his body was wrapped in thick leather armor, revealing his terrifying muscles. Meanwhile, the soldier of the demon race that was fighting him was short and small. His back was slightly hunched and his eyes were small, but they moved very quickly. His ears were thin and sharp and stood up high. His 10 fingers were slightly curved, and his nails were sharp and long, glowing with a faint black light. He looked just like a standing leopard man. The leopard demon was very fast, and the barbarian's attack could not hurt him at all. However, this leopard man's attack power was obviously not high. The sharp claws that he was so proud of could only leave shallow scratches on the barbarian's body. His claws that scratched the leather armor only left a few white marks. He could not break through the armor at all. It looked like the two of them could only enter a battle of stamina to see who could last until the end. Of course, the one who could last until the end would not be them, but Yi Qinghan and the others who were secretly hiding in the bushes at the side. After half an hour, the demon's stamina had obviously decreased, and his speed had slowed down. He saw that although the barbarian's body was covered in scratches, they were all minor injuries. He reckoned that before the barbarian's blood ran out, he would be exhausted to death. The demon's black bean-like eyeballs moved rapidly a few times. His legs slipped and he floated to the side, preparing to escape. Enough. Hua family, kill that demon. The rest of you spread out and be on guard. As for this barbarian, I will deal with him. When Yi Qinghan saw the demon's eyeballs moving wildly, he knew that he wanted to escape. He stood up and ordered the crowd. Then he took out the blue dragon dagger from his boots. With a light leap he jumped out of the bushes. The blue dragon dagger had not seen blood, and he was protected by the low-grade precious weapon, the black tortoise armor. He walked fearlessly towards the barbarian. This barbarian was obviously not as powerful as the 3 barbarians he killed yesterday. He reckoned that he was a great barbarian warrior. He could use him to practice the shadow step. He told the others to be on guard in case another demon or barbarian would suddenly teleport over. He was also confident that he could kill this barbarian in an instant. Everyone obeyed and spread out. They also understood that this barbarian had about the strength of a human commander and was a great barbarian warrior. And rumor had it that Yi Qinghan had the strength to kill a martial. Of course they were not worried. They were just worried that powerful demons or barbarians would suddenly appear at the teleportation formation next to them, so they were very nervous and hid near the teleportation formation next to them. Battle Beast Fusion. It was Yi Qinghan's first time fighting with a foreign race. Of course, he did not dare to be careless and immediately merged with his battle beast. Feeling the surging power in his body, Yi Qinghan's confidence soared. Even if the barbarian in front of him was a martial, he would still dare to fight. However, his inflated confidence did not make him lose his calm. He quickly swept across the grass and directly stabbed the barbarian's back with his dagger. The barbarian clearly heard the footsteps behind him. He was a little shocked and hurriedly turned around. However, he only saw a flash of a black blade. Immediately after, the leather armor in front of him actually cracked with a "chi" sound and a deep hole appeared. Scarlet blood slowly flowed out and dyed the leather armor red. After Yi Qinghan's attack was successful, he quickly retreated. His quick-witted eyes shone with excitement. His eyes swept over the green dagger in his hand and he chuckled. The blue dragon dagger that Yi Tianlong gave him was indeed not a fake. It was indeed a low-grade artifact. The demon's sharp claws could only leave behind a white mark. However, a casual slash from him was able to directly break through, even cutting open the skin within the leather armor. Once again confirming that the barbarian was a danger to his life, Xuanhuan put away his dagger. He released his battle chi. A part of it formed a battle chi shield on the surface of his body, while the other part was released from the acupoints in his feet. His feet took a strange step and rushed straight towards the barbarian. What is your young master doing?" In the distance, a woman from the Yu family and a disciple from the Yi family were secretly hiding in the weeds. Through the gaps in the weeds, they saw Xuanhuan's strange actions. The woman from the Yu family was very puzzled and asked. She watched as Xuanhuan rushed towards the barbarian that was as tall and sturdy as a giant again and again. Then he did not attack. Instead, he constantly circled around the barbarian and dodged the barbarian's attacks. However, although Xuanhuan's steps were strange, he would occasionally be hit by the barbarian's fist, which was as big as a clay pot. He would be sent flying like a sandbag. However, Xuanhuan acted as if nothing had happened. He patted his butt and continued to stand up. Then he would rush forward again. "I am also not very clear. Perhaps the young master is bored and is playing with the barbarian." The elite from the Yi family was also puzzled. Of course, he knew that his young master did not have a hobby for masochism. However, he did not know his young master's intentions and could only vaguely answer. It looks like the barbarian is playing with your young master." The woman from the Yu family laughed softly. She rolled her eyes when she saw Xuanhuan, who was 1.7 meters tall, circling around the barbarian that was more than 2 meters tall like an adult playing with a child.